Chapter 901. Ye Peng held the drink Gu Junqing had handed him. He felt his inner wariness must have been a misjudgment on his part. With the noble temperament and the elegance Gu Junqing displayed in every motion, he surely would not stoop to using such underhanded methods as drugging someone. Besides, with the lady clearly interested in him, he would have no reason to resort to such dirty tactics. He was not one to judge solely based on appearance. Most importantly, the system he trusted most had already scanned the drink and confirmed it was safe. Therefore, Ye Peng drank the beverage with peace of mind. Ding. The host has caused the protagonist Ye Peng to lose his reproductive function. 500 points of his protagonist aura have been plundered, and the host's villain aura has increased by 500. Ding. The host has changed the plot. The host is rewarded with villain points, spending 50,000 villain points to gain 20,000 in return, along with 500 points of aura, was not too bad of a loss. Gu Junqing muttered this to himself. However, he remained curious about Ye Peng's reaction after consuming the impotence and atrophy potion. He had never exchanged such a potion for a protagonist before, as he had previously been unwilling to spend so many points. Now, as his wool gathering increased, he had finally made a bold investment. How is it? Do you feel anything? Gu Junqing asked with curiosity. Feel anything? I do not feel anything. Ye Peng looked bewildered. He wondered if this was not just the taste of an ordinary drink. What was there to feel? It is nothing. I just wanted to ask if you found it tasty. Do you have anything else to do now? If not, I will be leaving first. Can you give me your contact information, handsome? Ye Peng opened his round eyes and looked at Gu Junqing with what he thought was a cute and pitiful expression. Little did he know, Gu Junqing was on the verge of vomiting. If Ye Peng's male identity had not been exposed, perhaps Gu Junqing would have looked at him with a degree of appreciation. However, knowing that Ye Peng was a biological male playing the role of a cute girl, he felt nothing but disgust. Gu Junqing nodded slightly, recited a string of numbers for Ye Peng, and then turned to leave. Ye Peng revealed a hint of joy after receiving Gu Junqing's contact information. If he could truly make this peerless handsome man his sycophant, he could not imagine how many rewards he could obtain from him. He had initially thought Gu Junqing was a cold, aloof male god, but it seemed he was nothing more than that. Ye Peng sneered inwardly as he watched Gu Junqing's retreating figure. He had always maintained a sense of disgust toward wealthy young masters like him, especially those who were extremely handsome. He felt that such people existed only to toy with women. Furthermore, Gu Junqing was actually more handsome than him. If Gu Junqing were to cross-dress, he could not imagine how high his beauty rating would be. The cross-dressing system had bound itself to him in the beginning only because he looked good dressed as a girl. Now that he saw Gu Junqing, he felt that Gu Junqing was a potential threat. He was even afraid that his own system might run off to follow him. If Gu Junqing knew Ye Peng's thoughts, he would likely laugh himself to death. He had no interest in the cross-dressing system that Ye Peng possessed. Just as Ye Peng was feeling smug, believing that his mission to hook a rich mark today had been a complete success, the color on his face suddenly faded. Even the lipstick on his lips could not hide the pallor of his complexion. His entire person seemed to lose some vital energy, and his already soft, feminine face became even more pale and weak. His legs and hands trembled, and Ye Peng suddenly staggered from his own weakness, falling directly to the ground. He shook his head in confusion, looking around with a dazed expression as stars began to dance before his eyes. What is happening to me? Ye Peng shook his dizzy head, feeling somewhat stunned. He felt as though his entire body had become weak, his head was spinning, and his kidneys were aching. Miss, are you all right? Do you need any help? At this moment, a sweet and pleasant but small voice echoed in Ye Peng's ears. Ye Peng looked up and froze instantly when he saw who it was. Standing before him was a beautiful young girl, with flawless features and skin as white and smooth as jade. Her face was very pure, with small, rosy lips and a small, delicate nose, exuding an air of innocent charm. Her beautiful, alluring peach blossom eyes were filled with worry as she watched him. The person who had arrived was none other than Qing Tong, the daughter of Yuruwan. I am fine, I am fine. Ye Peng looked at the girl in front of him with some amazement. He had rarely seen such a pure and beautiful girl. Then, big sister, let me help you up. Although Qing Tong felt that the big sister in front of her was a bit strange, she still stepped forward and reached out to help Ye Peng up when she saw his disheveled state. However, at that very moment, Ye Peng stood up nervously, as if he were avoiding something disgusting, and dodged Qing Tong's attempt to help. No need. I just suddenly felt dizzy for a moment. It is nothing serious. Ye Peng faked a smile and offered an explanation. That is strange. Why would I refuse the help of such a pretty girl? Ye Peng felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of strong resistance toward Qing Tong in his heart, which made him feel somewhat baffled. Oh, I am glad you are okay. Qing Tong nodded and stood in place obediently when she saw Ye Peng stand up on his own without her assistance. By the way, do you need to call an ambulance? Fainting for no reason is not good. Qing Tong asked with concern. No need, I am fine. Ye Peng did not know why, but seeing Qing Tong's perfect, flawless face, he actually felt a sense of jealousy and disgust. I will be going now. Thank you for your help. After steadying himself, Ye Peng left without looking back, leaving Qing Tong standing there in confusion. That is not right. Such a beautiful girl, why did I not think to keep her contact information? Ye Peng became more confused the further he walked. He felt as if something was wrong with him, as if he had lost a certain desire. He could not seem to muster the spirit to do anything. After Ye Peng left, Gu Junqing walked out from a dark corner in the nearby woods. He had witnessed the entire interaction between Qingtong and Ye Peng. He had long guessed that the effect of the medicine provided by the system would be extraordinary. However, he had not expected the effect to be so magically efficient. This impotence and atrophy potion had caused shocking changes in Ye Peng's body in a very short time. Not only did it silently castrate him physiologically, but it also caused subtle, indescribable changes in his psychology. It was actually capable of making someone begin to reject the company of women both physiologically and psychologically. That was certainly a good thing to have. Gu Junqing curled the corners of his mouth and whispered to himself. Chapter 902. Gu Junqing learned about the protagonist Ye Peng and ordered his subordinates to investigate everything about him. Searching by the name Ye Peng only yielded information from before he received his system. The old Ye Peng was just an ordinary student with delicate features who never stood out in a crowd. However, after Gu Junqing investigated using his alias, Ye Mingming, a detailed dossier appeared before him. Gu Junqing quickly learned almost everything about his current situation. Ye Mingming is 20 years old, gender unknown, a student at Huaqing University, and a major streamer on Douyin. Because of a single glance, he had become famous in the Douyin circle as a beauty encountered once in 4,000 years. With the system-granted transformation, Ye Peng's voice had become crisp, sweet, and soft. Paired with his pure, beautiful appearance, he now has millions of fans on Douyin. Furthermore, the system allows him to obtain the musical scores of many popular songs, which allows him to frequently create waves in the streaming circle. A streamer? It seems this protagonist's cross-dressing system might have some connection to streaming. Gu Junqing mused, his heart stirring. He was not unfamiliar with streaming. He had previously encountered a son of destiny who practiced fortune-telling on a streaming platform, and he had even killed him. He had even used that son of destiny's fortune-telling system to calculate some things about his own future. After reading through Ye Peng's life, he had developed some good plans for this cross-dressing son of destiny. This might even become a tool for him to deal with another son of destiny, Dao Tianyan. Meanwhile, at Ye Peng's home, he did not live in the school dormitory, because he often had to dress in women's clothing, so he rented a place off campus. Upon returning to his room, he found the whole situation increasingly strange. On the way home, his eyes would subconsciously compare himself to every woman he saw, and when he saw handsome men, his eyes would fixate on them. This change made Ye Peng feel anxious and uneasy. Although he often dressed in women's clothing, he was a pure man. How could he have reached a point where he did not like looking at beautiful women, but instead really liked looking at handsome men? Flustered, Ye Peng did not even take off his dress. He opened his computer, laid out tissues, and browsed through the adult films he usually loved. To his horror, he felt no ripple in his heart, nor any physical reaction. He discovered that his little brother was now less than 2 centimeters long. System, check my body immediately, and see what is wrong. Ye Peng called out in terror to his peerless cross-dressing system. Damn it, even though he had immersed himself in the world of cross-dressing, he was still a genuine man. Now that his little brother was not working, he was already panicking. Ding. Detected that the host is being affected by unknown factors. Androgens are suppressed, genes restricted, and male characteristics are weakened. Ding. System searching database to attempt to resolve the impact. Ding. System failed to resolve. No solution available. What? Even the system cannot fix it? Ye Peng was speechless. He did not believe the system could not solve his problem, and he even suspected if the system had done this to him on purpose. No matter how he pleaded, even offering to kneel to the system, the answer remained the same. Then how can I solve this? I cannot be a useless man who cannot get it up forever. Ye Peng asked in a low, humble voice, feeling helpless. Ding. If the host continues to earn cross-dressing points to upgrade the system, you might be able to discover the cause. In reality, given the settings of this cross-dressing system, even if it could be solved, it did not want to solve it for the host so quickly. As long as Ye Peng became more and more feminine, he could better attract high-quality men. Ye Peng felt helpless upon hearing this. The key was that he was afraid he would not be able to hold back. Now, seeing those muscular men made him feel faintly excited. He was afraid that if he did not treat his condition immediately, he would really be bent in the future. I do not seem to have eaten anything suspicious today, just the drink from that handsome guy. I made the system check it once already though. Ye Peng recalled the events of the day, his doubts rising. He did not know if it was the drink, but combined with Gu Junqing's reactions before, and after giving him the drink, he suspected Gu Junqing had poisoned him. Yet, for some reason, when he thought of Gu Junqing's face, his thoughts became blurry. That man surnamed Gu was so handsome. He wondered if he had moved him, and if he really was interested, should he? No, that is not right. He was a man, and even if he was interested, he could not be interested. Ye Peng thought of something that made his scalp tingle, and a chill went through his heart. He forced himself to stop thinking about it. No. It seems I must hurry to get cross-dressing points, and upgrade the system, or I have a feeling I will become increasingly feminine. Ye Peng slapped himself twice to forcibly interrupt his train of thought. However, he still planned to keep in contact with Gu Junqing. There was no other way. This man was just too high quality. If he could make this man his simp, he would definitely get a lot of cross-dressing points from the system, and perhaps then he could return to normal. Although he was afraid he would not be able to hold back, and might end up falling in love with someone else, he could not catch the wolf without sacrificing the cub. He could only try to make contact slowly. Thinking this, Ye Peng began sending messages to Gu Junqing. Brother, thank you so much for today. If it were not for you, I would not have known what to do. Brother, can I call you by your name? Gu Junqing, your name sounds so good. Brother, should I treat you to a meal next time? Ye Peng mimicked the tone of a delicate, infatuated little girl, sending several messages to Gu Junqing in a row. If it were the Ye Peng before he was castrated by Gu Junqing, it would have been hard for him to type these shameful sentences, even if he dressed as a woman. But now, as he gradually became feminine, and his orientation shifted, he could type these words without any shame. Chapter 903. After sending a few messages to Gu Junqing, Ye Peng opened the live stream with a nervous heart. After he started cross-dressing, the system gave him several missions related to streaming. He had become popular in the streaming room because of his pretty face and the songs the system gave him. He was even crowned with titles like Goddess of Otakus, National Goddess, and Beauty of the Millennium, becoming the white moonlight in the hearts of many male netizens. He did not care about these things anymore. He was more worried about whether he could make Gu Junqing a simp for him. His ability to return to his original form all depended on milking Gu Junqing for value. If he did not get enough points to upgrade the system, his little brother might really be useless forever. A real man should know when to bend and when to stretch, when to be long and when to be short, soft and hard in and out. It would be better to die than to be a eunuch for the rest of his life. Moreover, it was not just about being a eunuch anymore. He was truly afraid that if his sexual orientation changed in the future, he would have to wear his long johns backward and keep plenty of lubricant handy. He did not want his future self to be actively pursuing men, constantly surrounded by men, sweating from a crowd, and being locked in embraces by men. Just imagining that scene made him shudder all over. After Ye Peng thought for a while, the number of people in the broadcast room began to gradually increase. The goddess is still as beautiful today. Yes, but the goddess looks a bit haggard. Is she sick? Newcomer here, the streamer is so pretty. Following her immediately, a series of barrage comments flooded in after Ye Peng started, and several rich netizens started sending big rockets. With the appearance of super rocket gifts, more and more passers-by clicked in to watch, attracting an increasing number of people. Under the beauty filter, Ye Peng's charm was fully displayed after cross-dressing. Seeing the series of comments and numerous gifts, Ye Peng's low mood began to improve. With a smile on his face, he began to thank the many bosses who gave gifts. Let me tell you a secret, the streamer met a very, very handsome man today. Ye Peng said, pretending to be playful towards the camera. What? Is the goddess going to fall in love? Goddess, I already told you to hide my identity. Do you have to announce the fact that I am so handsome? The guy upstairs is dreaming. Someone come piss on him to wake him up. If you have diabetes, step back. Don't let him taste the sweetness. Ye Peng covered his cheeks, pretending to be shy, and acted coyly. No, it is just that I fell in love with him at first sight. I just do not know if he likes me back. Boo-hoo, it seems the goddess is really starting to feel love. I am crying to death, I am heartbroken. Goddess, promise me, after you get a boyfriend, your mouth can only be used to eat food, okay? Ye Peng almost burst out laughing when he saw these comments. He was a man himself, so he knew that these men were already starting to drive their cars onto the highway. He still had to pretend not to know, asking with a bewildered face. If the mouth is not for eating, what else can it be used for? Hey, do not talk dirty to our goddess. How would our pure goddess sister know? That is right, it is really disgusting. I have added the comment section to the blacklist. I say, you simps, your dream goddess is going to find a boyfriend, yet you are still protecting her. Even the most desperate simp would give you a cigarette. Looking at the comments section arguing and frantically flooding the screen, Ye Peng was secretly happy. He wanted the heat of the broadcast room to get higher and higher. As long as the comments and likes in the room reached a certain requirement, he could get rewards of cross-dressing value, items, and attribute points from the system. Ye Peng saw the heat was about right, so he adjusted his voice and said softly, "Everyone, stop arguing. Come listen to me sing instead." Afterwards, Ye Peng began to sing some songs given to him by the system. For example, Qi Lian, New Imperial Concubine's Drunkenness, and other ancient-style songs. These songs obtained from the system were all masterpieces that no one had ever heard of, and each could even become a classic. Coupled with the beautiful female voice the system gave him after he completed a main quest once, this allowed him to quickly become popular in the streamer world. He had titles like Ancient Style Beauty and Beauty of the Millennium. In just over a month, he started to become popular on the internet. Almost every live broadcast had at least hundreds of thousands of viewers. Even he himself did not know what kind of sensation it would cause if his male identity were exposed. The goddess is finally going to sing again. I have already prepared my front row seat. Finally, I can hear the goddess's voice again, lingering like a heavenly melody. Did the guy upstairs just use all the vocabulary he learned in his entire life? On the other side, Gu Junqing looked at the message Ye Peng sent, and a chill rose in his heart. This atrophy impotence potion was indeed potent. It had made Ye Peng completely lose his self-esteem as a man. Damn it, acting so cute to another man. Did this Ye Peng really have no shame as a man? However, he also quickly received news that Ye Peng was live-streaming in women's clothing. Watching Ye Peng posing on camera, Gu Junqing felt as complicated as if he had eaten shit. It would be fine if he did not know Ye Peng was a man, but ever since he found out, he could not bear to look at him. Although he wanted to just kill him to avoid feeling disgusted, Gu Junqing had to endure it for a few more days to milk more value from Ye Peng. Gu Junqing tried to type words like cross-dressing on the public screen, but they were all displayed as blocked words. It seems he is quite smart to have blocked words similar to cross-dressing, Gu Junqing muttered. Is the woman in your phone live stream better looking than me? At this moment, a pair of fair arms wrapped around Gu Junqing's neck, and Yu Ruwen said lazily while holding a glass of red wine. Naturally, she is not as good looking as Aunt Yu, Gu Junqing said with a light smile. You know that, so stop talking about her. Even that person, Chu Yuchen, could never compare to me in her entire life, Yu Ruwen said triumphantly. However, after she took a close look at the woman in Gu Junqing's phone, she suddenly let out a soft exclamation. I have actually seen this woman before. When I confronted Chu Yuchen today, she even came out to mediate. So that is how it is. Gu Junqing was slightly enlightened. He had just left at that time, and he did not expect that someone would almost take advantage of the situation. Fortunately, Yu Ruwen and Chu Yuchen were already his women, and they possessed special warnings, so they would not be taken advantage of by the Son of Destiny. Alright, what position are you planning to use tonight? In Yu Ruwen's eyes, a touch of intoxicating affection drifted, and a charming voice slowly lingered in Gu Junqing's ear. Chapter 904. Inside a high-rise building in the capital, King, the major families in the capital have agreed to the existence of our Azura Association. They have finally permitted us to live in the Xia Kingdom. A man wearing a Azura mask looked at the man before him with excitement. The man with a cold and ordinary face was the protagonist, Dao Tianyan, the younger brother of 7 sisters. Dao Tianyan's expression was indifferent. He did not seem moved by his subordinate's words. However, anyone who knew him could see a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. Finally, he had the strength to confront Gu Junqing again. After learning that his overseas Azura Association had collapsed overnight, he had been terrified that his sisters would fall into Gu Junqing's clutches while he was away. Whenever he thought of his sisters with Gu Junqing, his heart felt as if it were being squeezed, a sensation of suffocating pain. Therefore, he did not dare return to the Eagle Country to investigate the Azura Association's affairs. In the meantime, he could only focus on establishing a new Azura Association within the Xia Kingdom. The Xia Kingdom was different from the Eagle Country, and its level of control was incomparable. Fortunately, after he spent most of his energy and the remaining resources from the previous Azura Association, the authorities finally agreed to the establishment of the organization. This meant he could finally make a comeback. Why did the Overseas Azura Association collapse? Who was responsible for it? Have you found out yet? Dao Tianyan calmed down for a moment. He narrowed his eyes, which contained dangerous cold light. So much time had passed, and he still did not understand why the headquarters of the Azura Association in the Eagle Country had been destroyed. To conceal things so secretively and make his subordinates betray him, this force must have a significant background. Reporting to the king, not yet. The subordinate stammered, seeing that Dao Tianyan, who was usually unruffled, was so angry. Dao Tianyan was irritated by this response, and he could not help but release a trace of his aura. The subordinate felt that the aura from Dao Tianyan was as vast as the abyss, making him feel both fearful and awestruck. King, have you ascended to the God realm? The subordinate was shocked and couldn't help asking in disbelief. That is correct, Dao Tianyan replied indifferently. In the martial arts world, the God realm was roughly equivalent to the foundation establishment stage in cultivation. Dao Tianyan had been just one step away from the God realm. He would have ascended earlier if not for his desire to perfect his foundation. Having disappeared for so long, he had finally elevated his realm to a new level. The power of the God realm was incomparable to his previous Grandmaster state. Ever since he ascended to the God realm, he felt his spirit and strength growing day by day. With his current strength, there were not many people in the entire Xia Kingdom who could be his opponent. In fact, the reason the higher-ups agreed to Dao Tianyan's request to rebuild the Azura Association was partly due to his exceptional strength. They wanted Dao Tianyan to stay in the Xia Kingdom and contribute his strength. Then there is hope for our Azura Association to revive. The subordinate roared with excitement. Do not worry. What belongs to our Azura Association will always be ours. Your primary task now is to find out who has been targeting us behind the scenes. Dao Tianyan ordered calmly. Yes, King. If it were not for the fact that the Azura Association did not have a habit of shouting slogans, he almost wanted to shout about reigning over the world for 1,000 generations. After his subordinate left, Dao Tianyan got up and walked to the window alone. He looked at the gorgeous, bustling capital outside, and made a firm decision in his heart. This time, he would not let his sisters be taken away by that bastard Gu Junqing again. He must win back the hearts of his sisters. He was the only man his sisters should be close to. As Dao Tianyan was indulging in his grand ambitions, his mobile phone suddenly rang. At first, Dao Tianyan did not want to answer it. However, he suddenly realized that the ringtone was coming from his private mobile phone. This made Dao Tianyan overjoyed, and he quickly picked up the phone. Because he had only given his private number to his sisters, it was very likely that one of them was calling. Dao Tianyan picked up the phone excitedly, but frowned slightly when he saw the number. The caller was not any of the sisters, whose numbers he knew by heart. After Dao Tianyan answered the call, a voice he deeply hated came from the phone, a voice that made him want to strangle the speaker even in his dreams. Eighth brother, what are you doing? Brother-in-law misses you very much. Gu Junqing's teasing voice came from the phone. This sentence made Dao Tianyan's face look ferocious. Gu Junqing, you damn bastard. You will never be my brother-in-law. How do you have my number? He deeply cherished the memory of his 7 sisters taking care of him when he was young. Even during the darkest days of his struggle in the Eagle Country, he had always regarded that time as the most beautiful moment of his life. His 7 sisters were his spiritual pillars that made him strong. But it was this bastard who had snatched his sisters away from him. Whenever he heard this bastard's voice, his mind could not help but recall scenes of him with his sisters. The thought of him being intimate with his sisters, snuggling together to stay warm on cold nights, and the perfect bodies of his sisters pressed against this bastard made him furious. He was consumed by fury and jealousy. Ding. The host has caused the protagonist Dao Tianyan to be furious, causing his mental state to suffer. The host is rewarded with 2,000 villain points. This sheep was always so easy to shear, and I am starting to hate to let him go, Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Naturally, your sister gave it to me. Although you do not recognize me as your brother-in-law, I still recognize you as my brother-in-law. It is cold, and your sisters and I are worried that you are lonely and have no one to keep your bed warm. So, we specifically introduced a woman to you. Gu Junqing spoke slowly with a smile. Introduce. Gu Junqing, would you be so kind? I think you want to plant someone by my side. Dao Tianyan sneered. You really misunderstood me this time. Let me tell you, I am not familiar with that girl. However, I think she is beautiful and elegant, and she is quite suitable for you. I even told your sisters, and they are very supportive too. Gu Junqing did not seem to care at all about what Dao Tianyan said, and continued. By the way, she is also a big streamer. I will send you her live broadcast room name later. Let us leave it at that. Gu Junqing laughed and hung up the phone. Chapter 905. Dao Tianyan, I can tell you that even if you take a fancy to her, she might not even look your way. Gu Junqing added that remark before hanging up the phone. Dao Tianyan sneered immediately after the call ended. He truly did not believe a word of Gu Junqing's nonsense. He felt that if Gu Junqing wasn't actively plotting against him, it would be a miracle. As for introducing a girlfriend, that had to be a joke. Moreover, Gu claimed this girl's beauty wasn't far off from his sister's. That was completely impossible. Even if he searched the entire world, he wouldn't find many women who could compare to his 7 sisters. In the end, Gu didn't forget to use reverse psychology on him. Worried the girl wouldn't like him, that was a joke. Dao Tianyan scoffed in his heart. How could any woman possibly look down on him? Women were nothing but playthings anyway. Besides, did he, Dao Tianyan, really need someone else to introduce a girlfriend to him? His heart only held space for his sisters. Just as Dao Tianyan was sneering, Gu Junqing quickly sent over a text message. It contained the name of the livestream platform and the streamer's name. Dao Tianyan stared at the information Gu sent, hesitated for a moment, and threw his phone to the side. No, the ones I love the most are my sisters. My dream is to marry all 7 of them, so how could I watch other women? Gu Junqing definitely had bad intentions. Dao Tianyan scoffed to himself. But after a short while, he turned his head and looked at the phone again with hesitation. What if I don't check and Gu looks down on me later? And maybe Gu was lying about her looks being comparable to my sister's. Whatever, I will just treat it as a pastime. I will take one look, and if she isn't pretty, I will exit immediately. I will just verify if this woman's beauty is actually close to my sister's like he said. After giving himself a mental excuse, Dao Tianyan finally picked up the phone. He began searching for the livestream platform, and the name Gu gave him. Ming Ming baby, that name is really tacky. Could she really be a beauty, even if she has millions of fans? Dao Tianyan muttered to himself. He opened the stream and froze the moment he saw the streamer's face. A stunning face came into view. The woman was wearing a form-fitting, pale white dress, her skin like jade, her lips like delicate petals. Even through the screen, he could notice the rippling charm in her eyes. Apart from her figure seeming a bit lacking, she was truly a goddess-level figure. No wonder Gu Junqing said that even if she isn't as good as my sister's, she is quite close. Dao Tianyan muttered to himself. The person currently live streaming was none other than Yapeng in drag. Daily awoken by my own handsomeness tipped a unicorn, 88 yuan. Waiting on the wall for red apricots tipped a hot air balloon, 66 yuan. Old monk washes hair with soft shampoo tipped a carnival, 300 yuan. While heard that names too long get bitten by dogs also tipped. The consecutive gifts filled the entire screen with colorful notifications. The chat box was flashing rapidly as well. Almost every sentence was pushed down by the next one before it could even be read. Thank you brothers and family for the gifts. Thank you brothers. Yapeng in the screen was looking surprised and thanking everyone for the gifts. But in reality, Yapeng felt little interest, because these were all small gifts, worth at most a few hundred yuan, which made Yapeng feel quite regretful. Although he had already earned a lot of money through live streaming, nobody would ever complain about having too much money. Dao Tianyan watched so many people sending gifts and felt a bit hesitant. He hesitated between trying to woo her on his own, or using Gu Junqing to get to know this streamer. After all, Gu Junqing had sworn up and down that he knew her. Why should I go through him? I can do it myself. Isn't it just sending gifts? Once Dao Tianyan thought of Gu Junqing's face, his desire to meet this beauty through Gu faded away. He felt that he had to rely on himself to woo this female streamer. To woo a female streamer, gifts were definitely essential. With a thought, Dao Tianyan topped up 1 million into the platform immediately. He casually picked the most expensive gift and held down the send button with his thumb, clicking away mindlessly. In an instant, the screen was dominated by cosmic star gifts. The special effects of the cosmic star appeared one after another. The dazzling, colorful gifts flashed densely on the screen like a bombardment. Even Ye Peng's figure was obscured. Azura King tipped the streamer a cosmic star. 5,888 yuan. Azura King tipped the streamer a cosmic star. 5,888 yuan. Azura King tipped the streamer a cosmic star. 5,888 yuan. This continuous bombardment covered the entire chat interface. Ye Peng's fans didn't even have a chance to chat. As soon as a sentence was sent, it was buried behind the gift notifications. The sudden change left the fans chatting in the box in a state of confusion. Thank you brother Azura King for the cosmic star. Thank you brother Azura King for the cosmic star. Ye Peng's face wasn't even visible on screen. Only his shrieks of excitement could be heard. Damn it, he had been live streaming for so long, and this was the first time he had encountered such a wealthy tycoon. He had sent him over 100 cosmic stars. Azura King. Why does this name sound a bit edgy? Whatever, he had to cling to this wealthy tycoon's leg. Ye Peng's eyes seemed to shine with the light of money. Bald donkey, don't fight with this poor Taoist for the nun. Holy shit, where did this wild tycoon come from? Spending so much money, he must want to bang my goddess. Chief instructor of slutty women. Rich brother, please follow back. Let's get to know each other. You are so handsome, I am willing to change my ways for you. Where did the blonde hair come from? Brother, can you let the goddess wear the lipstick I sent tonight so I can have some sense of participation when you kiss her? Number 1 simp. Brother, if you are tired tonight, can you let me be the first to push her buttocks? I will close my eyes. Dao Tianyan watched Ye Peng's crazy fans and revealed a look of pride and disdain. He suddenly felt that this was somewhat satisfying, watching so many people in shock. No wonder so many people preferred to eat instant noodles every day just to gift streamers. It was all for this sense of vanity. However, although Dao Tianyan had some feelings about this, they were not deep. Accepting the worship and cheers of others was already a daily occurrence in his position. What he cared about most was how this streamer would reply to him. Chapter 906. Thank you, brother Azura King, for the universe star gift. Thank you again, brother, you are very generous. Family, please give brother Azura King a follow to show your support. Ye Peng was excited, and not just because of the money. A crucial reason was that he could earn cross-dressing points from the live stream. As long as others worshipped or admired him, the system would reward him with points. The deeper their admiration or affection, the more points he received. This was why he frequently danced and sang on the internet. As a man, he had absolutely no sense of feminine shame. Exposing his waist and legs was a daily routine. In a word, he was full of seductive charm. The man who took the pretentious name Azura King had spent so much money on him, so he must have been deeply in love. Fanatical fans provided 10 times more points than ordinary followers. Ye Peng's prediction proved correct. After checking his system, he was shocked by the points provided by Azura King, despite having prepared himself for a large amount. Azura King's contribution was 10 times that of a fanatical fan. If an ordinary fan provided 1 point, and a fanatical fan provided 10, Azura King provided a full 100. The points were even higher than what the usual fanatics provided. Watching the rate at which his points increased made Ye Peng tremble. Is this what the system calls a person of great fortune? Ye Peng muttered to himself. Although fanatical fans could provide 10 points, they were still ordinary people in the end. Dao Tianyan heard the exceptionally clean female voice and immediately felt a shiver of comfort. Without the enhancement of a sound card, Ye Peng's voice was even clearer and sweeter. The woman Gu Junqing introduced was indeed good. Although Gu Junqing was a terrible person, his taste was quite decent, Dao Tianyan thought to himself. Then he thought of his sister, who had been occupied by Gu Junqing, and his mood darkened. His sister was the most important relative he had in this world. As for Gu Junqing, who had taken his sister, he would never forgive him for as long as he lived. Send me a picture of your daily life. Dao Tianyan saw that the other person started using voice messages, so he decided to stop typing and spoke with an arrogant tone. Brother, would you like me to wear something revealing for a private photo? Although Ye Peng inwardly criticized this man for being just as greasy as all the others, he did not let it show due to his acting skills. He even added a playful tone. Do you treat all your financial supporters like this? Dao Tianyan frowned and asked instead of feeling happy. To him, if a woman was not clean, she would always just be a toy, no matter how beautiful she was. Of course not. I am only like this because I see that you like me so much. I have never sent private photos to fans before. Also, I think your voice is very pleasing. I am sure you must be a very handsome man, and I like you very much. Ye Peng was startled inside and hurriedly replied, with a slightly aggrieved tone. You have good taste. Dao Tianyan sighed in relief upon hearing this and stopped pursuing the matter. Being complimented on his appearance made him feel quite happy. Gu Junqing's looks were always a point of insecurity for him, as they did not seem to belong in the human world at all. Even when he merely passed by, his charm was enough to make a woman chase after him for a lifetime. This made him worry that even if he eventually exposed Gu Junqing's villainous side, his sister would still be infatuated with him forever. Chapter 907. Thinking of Gu Junqing, Dao Tianyan had a terrifying thought. He immediately asked the person on the other end. By the way, someone introduced me to you. Do you know that bastard Gu Junqing? He almost called him a son of a bitch, but he held back in front of a woman. Gu Junqing? Ye Peng, on the other end, was stunned. He thought of the handsome, cold man he had met that day. Ye Peng was full of questions. He had underestimated these wealthy, powerful elites. If he remembered correctly, he had not told Gu Junqing he was a streamer. He did not expect to be investigated so quickly. He felt lucky that his system had forged his identity information to help his journey as a crossdresser. The system had completely masked his status as a man and created a fake identity. This way, his cross-dressing streams would not be discovered. Even if they investigated, they would only find the forged information. What is wrong? Do you know him? Dao Tianyan asked, confused by Ye Peng's silence. Ye Peng was introduced to him by Gu Junqing. He worried that Gu Junqing had introduced him to someone he had already slept with, which would make him a cuckold. We only met once. He helped me out. Ye Peng hesitated. He did not know why Gu Junqing had introduced this wealthy Azura king to him. He worried the other party was testing him, so he briefly explained what had happened. Did he only help her once? Dao Tianyan breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he was not a cuckold, he would not worry. However, if Gu Junqing had broken up with his sister, he would be ecstatic to take over. He was still suspicious of why Gu Junqing would introduce this pretty girl to him. He did not hide such a pretty girl for himself, but gave her to someone who was hostile toward him. There must be something wrong, and he did not believe it for a second. He could not guess what conspiracy Gu Junqing was hiding. Was Gu Junqing trying to compete with him to see who could get her first? Maybe the girl seemed pure but was actually diseased. Is she toxic? Is he trying to harm me? Dao Tianyan's mind began to wander. Brother Azura King, should we meet up? I want to thank you in person. Ye Peng spoke with a coy voice. A pretty, pure girl acting cute online with a crisp, sweet voice was something no man could resist. As a man, Ye Peng knew how to manipulate men's psychology perfectly. Men understand men best. Sure, we can meet. I see your address is in the capital. Where are you? Dao Tianyan's body tingled. He had not been with a woman much since returning to the Xia country. First, because seeing his stunning sisters filled his heart with love, making it hard to accept women with less beauty. Second, because the girl who pursued him at school, weighing hundreds of pounds, made him want to vomit. Her grease made him lose interest in women. However, this streamer's looks and charm were not much inferior to his sister's. He gained a bit of interest. He might as well see what she looked like in person. Nowadays, streamers relied on filters, makeup, and plastic surgery. He had no interest in technological beauties. Otherwise, with his status as the Azura King, he would never lack women. I am currently studying at Huaking University. Are you curious about why I became a streamer? Ye Peng continued speaking on his own. My family is poor. Even though I got into university, I could not afford to attend. I had no choice but to try online work. Fortunately, I got lucky and went viral, so I had money to go to school. But streaming is just a hobby and a way to make money. Now that I have money, I still want to study hard and struggle. Ye Peng said with gentleness and determination. He sounded like a remarkable woman striving for the rise of the Xia country. The female college student identity was also a fake identity arranged by the system to hide his true self and better hook a rich man. After all, everyone with social experience understood what a good female college student implied. At this point, Ye Peng had established his image in Dao Tianyan's heart. The image of a self-reliant, beautiful, and pure college student. This was the seed Ye Peng had quietly planted in his target's heart. So far, few men had not fallen for Ye Peng's routine. Not bad, Dao Tianyan praised. Almost no man could dislike such a self-reliant and beautiful girl. Even Dao Tianyan was moved by the girl's resilience. His brain automatically began to fill in the gaps about this beautiful girl's tragic background. This girl had an unyielding soul, which perfectly matched the spirit of his Azura society. She was the most suitable woman for him besides his sisters. I am actually also at Huaking. If you need any help, you can come find me. There was a hint of seriousness in Dao Tianyan's heart, and less of the casual indifference. He had begun to find this girl interesting. Both her appearance and character were to his taste. This sentence was a promise from the Azura King. So far, aside from that rich kid Gu Junqing, my techniques for flirting with men have never failed. You will not be an exception either, middle schooler. Ye Peng thought to himself as he saw the man on the other side show genuine enthusiasm for chatting. Brother, are you a teacher at the school? Ye Peng asked, feigning surprise. No. Why do I need to be a teacher to help you? It is good that you are not. It is good that you are not. Ye Peng said it was not good twice. Oh, why is it good that I am not? Does it matter if I am a teacher or not? Dao Tianyan's surprised voice came through. Because I heard that teachers and students cannot date. Oh, it is nothing, I was just asking. Ye Peng spoke coquettishly, as if trying to cover up something. In an instant, Dao Tianyan understood exactly what Ye Peng meant. Teachers and students cannot date? What a cute girl. Dao Tianyan thought with pleasure. The women he had slept with in the past were all open and aggressive foreign women. This was the first time he had taken a strong interest in such a shy, gentle girl. He felt a sense of love. Dao Tianyan felt that it would not be a bad idea to add Ye Peng to his harem in the future. Chapter 908. Ding. Host has orchestrated the loss of male-led Dao Tianyan's luck from behind the scenes, intercepting male lead Ye Peng's luck. Plundered 300 points of Dao Tianyan's luck. Host villain luck plus 300. Ding. Host has altered the plot, rewarding Host with 3,000 villain points. While Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng were flirting, Gu Junqing received the system prompt. He was not surprised by this at all. He had deep appreciation for Ye Peng's ability to woo men. After all, whether it was master-level acting skills or master-level voice changing and makeup techniques, they were skills capable of working miracles. Ye Peng used these skills to captivate the vast majority of men. Once someone was truly devoted to Ye Peng, even if they eventually discovered Ye Peng was a man, their hearts would already be filled with Ye Peng's image. In the end, they would only think of fencing with Ye Peng, and their orientation would be completely twisted by him. He felt that if he didn't know Ye Peng was a man, even he might not be able to hold himself back. Ye Peng's system relied on plundering the luck of the men who fell in love with him to grow. After learning how Ye Peng's system obtained energy, Gu Junqing formulated the scheme to fleece the sheep. He let Ye Peng flirt with Dao Tianyan. After Ye Peng gained Dao Tianyan's favor, Dao Tianyan's luck would gradually be absorbed by Ye Peng's system. However, Gu Junqing had already rigged the system. At their first meeting, Gu Junqing used his more advanced Heaven's Villain system to directly and forcibly link to Ye Peng's cross-dressing system. This ensured that most of the luck Ye Peng plundered from others flowed directly to himself. Otherwise, with the massive amount of luck Dao Tianyan possessed, which Gu Junqing hadn't finished milking even after dealing with his several sisters, how could it only provide Ye Peng with 10 times the fanatic fan cross-dressing points? In short, everything Ye Peng did was just creating a wedding dress for Gu Junqing. It was equivalent to Ye Peng working for Gu Junqing. Even the statement the peerless cross-dressing system made to Ye Peng, that once the system upgraded, it could remove the effects of the castration medicine Gu Junqing had given him, was instructed by Gu Junqing. Otherwise, why would Ye Peng work so hard to woo men? Gu Junqing was like a capitalist, wanting to squeeze every drop of labor and utility out of every protagonist. Ye Peng's combat power was not high and could even be described as very weak. Compared to Dao Tianyan, his danger level was far inferior. Coupled with the fact that Ye Peng had been drugged, leaving him with almost zero interest in women, Gu Junqing did not take Ye Peng seriously. Dao Tianyan was different. Not only did he possess the tough methods common to many protagonists and a brave, fearless heart, but he also had combat power that did not lag too far behind his own. He was a character with absolute threat level. To fleece Dao Tianyan, one could not just attack from the aspect of women. One also had to start fleecing him through his career, connections, and various other means. Therefore, Ye Peng was used by Gu Junqing as one of the necessary tools to consume Dao Tianyan. Brother Junqing, what are you thinking about? Why are you ignoring me? A sweet and pleasant voice echoed in Gu Junqing's ears. Gu Junqing turned his head and discovered Qingtong wearing a form-fitting chiffon suspender dress. Her pair of smooth, moist, long legs were straight and pressed together on the sofa. Her delicate and exquisite jade feet were crystal clear, with a row of perfect, pearl-white toes arranged neatly, tipped with a faint pink. Exquisite and beautiful. Brother Junqing, what are you looking at? Qingtong's face blushed slightly, and she nervously tugged at the hem of her skirt, trying to cover her legs. It was not that she didn't want Gu Junqing to see, but being stared at so directly by him made her fear she wasn't perfect enough, and that Gu Junqing would dislike her. Nothing. Gu Junqing calmly retracted his gaze. He realized that after being raised by Yu Ruwen for so long, the delicate beauty on Qingtong's body was increasingly revealing that unique charm of a heroine. She was like a thin little lamb that had now become a tender and delicious fat sheep. Gu Junqing licked his thin lips, thinking with a hint of amusement. Still, she needed to be raised a bit more. Gu Junqing felt a little regret in his heart. In Qingtong's heart, he had completely become the brother she could rely on, but he still didn't know if Qingtong would be willing to accept mother and daughter together. Ahem, by the way, what did you call me for? A thought flashed through Gu Junqing's mind, and then he coughed slightly to interrupt his own thoughts, and asked. Mom asked you to go drink soup, Qingtong whispered. What? Again? Didn't she have her period today? Gu Junqing stopped abruptly, suddenly remembering Qingtong was there. Have what? Qingtong looked at Gu Junqing with confusion. Nothing. It wouldn't happen to be that 10 complete vitality soup again, would it? Gu Junqing's mouth twitched slightly. Did he look like a man who needed nourishment? Which time had he not stopped the battle only under Yu Ruwen's request? However, Gu Junqing could also understand. A woman in her 30s who had only just started tasting forbidden fruit was almost desperate for it, so it was normal for her to be afraid that her man would become weak one day and fail to provide her with pleasure. Besides, recently, Yu Ruwen seemed to have started competing with Chu Yuchen. They were both beginning to compare whose skills could satisfy him more. Brother Junqing, are you having some unspeakable difficulty? I see Mom often stewing these things for you to drink. Qingtong lowered her head, blushing as she stammered. Little girl, what kind of unspeakable difficulty could Brother Junqing have? Would you like to try it yourself? Gu Junqing rubbed Qingtong's hair with one hand, his slightly exposed teeth gleaming with a cold light, as if he were about to eat her. No need. Upon hearing this, Qingtong quickly covered her face, but the smile peeking from the corner of her mouth had already been captured by Gu Junqing. Your wings have hardened, you dare to tease me? Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow slightly, his hands reaching toward Qingtong's tender, white, and beautiful body. Ah! Qingtong laughed and started to dodge Gu Junqing's attack. Between their playfulness, they arrived at the kitchen and happened to run into Yu Ruwen, who had come out looking for them. Because they were in her own home, and Gu Junqing was the only man in the house, Yu Ruwen was just loosely draped in a palace-style robe. Her graceful and enchanting jade body was partially visible, enticingly alluring. I'm going to study first. Seeing her task complete, Qingtong stopped playing with Gu Junqing and skipped back to her room, sneaking a coquettish glance at Gu Junqing before she left. Isn't Qingtong becoming more and more beautiful? Yu Ruwen looked at her increasingly cheerful and graceful daughter with relief, then glanced at Gu Junqing with a playful smile. Aunt Yu, why are you asking this kind of question? Don't you know whether your daughter is beautiful or not? Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow slightly. Then, would you like me and Qingtong to serve you together? Yu Ruwen's seductive and alluring eyes lingered on Gu Junqing's face, almost as if they were stringing threads. Aunt Yu, just tell me what conditions you have. I don't want you both together, I just purely want to fulfill your wish, Aunt Yu. Gu Junqing said righteously. As long as you dump that bitch Chu Yuchen, Aunt Yu and Qingtong will both be yours. Do whatever you want. Yu Ruwen's pink lips parted slightly, her soul-snatching almond eyes filled with life-threatening ripples of emotion. At the same time, a slender jade finger circled gently on Gu Junqing, attempting to lure him into making an irrational move. Aunt Yu, you also know this is impossible. If I abandoned Yuchen for you too, it is possible I might abandon you one day for another woman. Gu Junqing sighed and said full of affection. I won't let you go hook up with other women. Can't the two of us, Qingtong and I, satisfy you? Although Yu Ruwen knew it was impossible, she still asked with a cold face, unwilling to give up. This greedy man. She and Chu Yuchen were both famous figures in the capital, peerless beauties of the golden flower level. If anyone could gain the favor of just one of them, it would be enough to say their ancestral graves were smoking with good fortune. Yet Gu Junqing actually wanted to keep both. How could there be such a cheap thing in this world? Aunt Yu, I won't interfere in the fight between you and Sister Yuchen, but don't bring up such things again in the future. Gu Junqing had no intention of explaining further, and said indifferently. How could a man have no majesty? Did she really think he was made of clay? If she wouldn't listen to reason, he would have to force his dignity as the head of the household. Got it. I won't mention it again. Seeing Gu Junqing's angry and cold appearance, Yu Ruwen was not angry at all. Instead, looking at Gu Junqing, her eyes revealed a look of submission and obsession. She looked like a little wife who treated her husband as heaven. Yu Ruwen liked men who could conquer her, not men who obeyed her every whim. Otherwise, what was the difference between that and a hired subordinate? Outside, she was the high and mighty head of the Yu family, but at home, she wanted to be Gu Junqing's obedient little kitten. This cold posture of Gu Junqing made her love him even more. Seeing Yu Ruwen, who had just been so stubborn, now transformed into a well-behaved and sensible wife, Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow slightly. Could Aunt Yu have a bit of masochistic tendency? If so, should he try some new games later? Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Drink the soup first. Yu Ruwen obediently ladled a bowl of vitality soup for Gu Junqing. Aunt Yu, didn't you say you have your period? Why give me this? Gu Junqing sighed. This vitality soup had become an unspoken signal between him and Yu Ruwen. Whenever Yu Ruwen wanted it, she would make him a bowl of vitality soup as a signal. After all, with Qingtong in the house, Yu Ruwen couldn't quite let go, so she could only hint to Gu Junqing like this. What character is painful when put together, but very pleasurable when separated? Yu Ruwen looked at Gu Junqing playfully with her beautiful and enchanting face, suddenly posing a riddle to Gu Junqing with thousand-fold charm. What character? Bite. Chapter 909. Everyone who hasn't followed, please hit that follow button. If you have gifts, keep them coming, and if you don't, please help me out with some likes, Ye Peng said, using his sweet, syrupy voice in the live stream. The goddess is asking for gifts. I would sell my own blood today just to gift the goddess. My fingers are smoking from tapping. Wait for me to turn on an auto-clicker to like the goddess. User going to the kindergarten to pick up girlfriend gifted 20 super rockets. User poor as a sheep gifted 50 super rockets, saying he will love the streamer forever. As Ye Peng acted cute and spoiled, the screen flashed with special effects as gifts poured in. It wasn't quite as much as the last time Dao Tianyan gifted, but it was substantial enough that the difference was negligible. Ye Peng sang a few more songs. Seeing that the heat could not climb any higher, he ended the broadcast. He let out a tired sigh and collapsed onto his bed. He began to review his gains from the stream. Previously, he had not overly relied on his cross-dressing beauty to attract people. He rarely maintained relationships with his big donors. He mostly relied on system-rewarded songs and dances to harvest leaks and complete the tasks assigned by the system. But now, to regain his masculine virility, he had gone a bit crazy. The number of streams and their duration had increased significantly compared to before. The intensity of his harvesting had to be stronger. He knew this was not a long-term solution. Fans would eventually burn out their passion if he kept harvesting them like this. But Ye Peng had no other choice. He had to use this method to earn those cross-dressing points as quickly as possible. However, very few of his fans were truly fanatical. None of them were like Dao Tianyan, who provided points far beyond even a fanatical fan. I guess I thought too much, he muttered to the ceiling. Big lucky people like Dao Tianyan are not that common. It looks like I have to focus on Dao Tianyan. If I can turn him into my simp, the points should be enough to cover half my system upgrade. Actually, besides Dao Tianyan, there was another potential target. That was Gu Junqing, who had introduced Dao Tianyan to the stream. Since Gu Junqing could know a lucky person like Dao Tianyan, he was likely one himself. Given Gu Junqing's looks, he felt it was impossible for him not to be a lucky person. Someone that handsome could not have bad luck. If he could seduce him too, he would likely have enough points for the system upgrade. The problem was that Gu Junqing seemed completely uninterested in him. Otherwise, he would not have introduced another man to him. Suddenly, his phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The number was unfamiliar. Hello, may I ask if you are Miss Ye Mingming? A steady, respectful female voice asked. Yes, that is correct, Ye Peng replied, feeling suspicious. Ye Mingming was the alias he used to protect his cross-dressing identity, and it was the name the system had forged for him. Hello, this is Lu Qingyi's studio, the woman said. Ye Peng was already frustrated and felt impatient. Sorry, I don't know you, and I don't want to be, he replied immediately. He had been a streamer for a while, and thanks to his stunning appearance, many scouts and agencies wanted to collaborate. He had never had much interest in that. The gap between online and offline was just too large. Online, he could be careful, but offline, it was very easy for people to discover he was a man. His reputation would be ruined, and he might even face contract breach penalties. He had always been indifferent to becoming a star. Wait, Lu Qingyi studio? Lu Qingyi? He was about to hang up when the name flashed through his mind, and his brain suddenly reacted. Wait, are you Lu Qingyi studio? Are you under Miss Lu Qingyi? Is it the superstar Lu Qingyi? Is it really her? Ye Peng asked, his voice rising with sudden excitement. The staff member on the other end seemed used to this and replied professionally. Hello, sorry, I didn't hear clearly earlier. May I ask why you are calling? Ye Peng forced himself to calm down, apologizing while asking for their purpose. It is fine. Miss Lu Qingyi is coming to the capital to participate in a program. She heard the songs you sang on the streaming platform, and spoke highly of your voice and songwriter. We would like to ask if we can use the songs you created on the show, the staff member asked politely. Of course, it would be an honor for Miss Lu Qingyi to use my songs. Absolutely, Ye Peng said, his emotions running high. Understood. I will send you a contract and the details of the collaboration shortly. Thank you for your help, and I look forward to working with you. The staff member hung up after expressing thanks. After the call, Ye Peng remained in a state of excitement and disbelief. That was the famous Lu Qingyi. She was one of the few super A-list divas in the country. She was a superstar with over 10 million fans globally. Even if she just posted a period on social media, she would get millions of likes. He was somewhat famous in the streaming world, but he knew the truth behind his million fans. At least half of them were bots. Lu Qingyi's fanbase was different, with numbers dozens of times larger than his on every platform. Once, her studio posted an update about her. Even though everyone knew she did not post it herself, it set a historical record for the platform with millions of likes and shares in a day. That was a true superstar. He was a huge fan of hers too. Now, this goddess-level diva wanted to collaborate with him. This was the perfect opportunity to get close to her. Even though he did not want to go offline, he could not pass up this chance. Chapter 910. Ye Peng turned to look at the wall of his room. A massive poster was plastered there. Her face was dreamlike, with hair cascading down to her waist. Her features were as delicate as a celestial being's, her long lashes like curved moons. Her bright, deep almond eyes seemed to contain a galaxy, accented by a seductive beauty mark beneath one eye. Her soft, pale chin was tilted slightly upward. She exuded a noble, captivating aura that was breathtakingly beautiful. This was Lu Qingyi, the goddess in Ye Peng's heart. Even Ye Peng hadn't expected he would one day have the chance to collaborate with his goddess. Even though he was currently impotent, he remained obsessed with her. Shortly after, Lu Qingyi's studio sent over the partnership details and a contract. The offer was generous, exceeding Ye Peng's expectations. After all, he wasn't collaborating with her for the money. He only wanted the chance to see Lu Qingyi in person. He was finally going to see his dream lover in person, and maybe he could even get intimate with the goddess, because he was cross-dressing. When Ye Peng imagined holding hands with the goddess, he expected to be excited. Instead, a wave of nausea suddenly washed over him. He was initially very happy and excited to see Lu Qingyi, having been a fan of this idol for so long. It felt like finally obtaining something he had craved, but couldn't get for a long time. However, regarding the body of this woman he had once dreamt of day and night, Ye Peng felt a deep, soul-level fear and disgust. In other words, he felt terrified and shivered at the sight of any woman's body. Damn it, no. I must recover before I see Lu Qingyi. Ye Peng knew his body was playing tricks on him again, his eyes hardening with determination. The mysterious poison Gu Junqing had redeemed from his system did more than just quietly castrate a man physically. It also induced subtle, indescribable psychological changes. An ordinary person might not notice these physical changes. But Ye Peng was different. He possessed great destiny, and could easily detect the shift. That was the only reason he was frantically trying to upgrade his system to solve his problem. Dao Tianyan. Ye Peng murmured the name. He then pulled out his phone and sent him a message. Brother, are you there? What's up? Are you live streaming, and do you want me to boost your popularity? On the other side, having just finished his work, Dao Tianyan typed a casual reply. He assumed the other party was live and wanted him to gift some items to boost viewership. There were often such unspoken rules in the streaming industry. The streamer would coordinate with a sponsor beforehand. Once the stream started, the sponsor would shower them with gifts to boost traffic, and the streamer would refund the money later. Both parties came out ahead, because they were just fleecing the audience. The rich sponsor got his money back, and the streamer kept the profits from the general public. No, that's not it. I'm free tomorrow. Brother Azura, do you want to meet up tomorrow? Ye Peng replied with a sugary, sweet tone. Didn't we agree to meet in a few days? Dao Tianyan asked with a hint of confusion. But I just can't wait to see you, Brother Azura. Ye Peng spoke in an affected, sugary tone, sounding like a stereotypical manipulator. Dao Tianyan felt a flutter in his heart. No man could resist a soft, sweet girl, and he was powerless against a woman who knew how to act coy. If a woman's flirting didn't work on a man, only two possibilities existed. Either the woman was too ugly, or the man was too dense and didn't like her. The second possibility was essentially based on the first. In short, men just didn't like ugly women. For instance, the thought of a massive, sweating, half-ton pig flirting with him made Dao Tianyan lose his appetite for the whole day. Fine, let's make it tomorrow then. Dao Tianyan hesitated for a moment before agreeing. In truth, his second sister, Ji Hanyan, had invited him to dinner tomorrow, which had originally made him incredibly excited. She had doted on him back in the orphanage. Even after all these years, he still remembered her warm, refreshing smile. He was looking forward to the meeting and didn't want anyone to interrupt their private time together. That included Ye Peng. Even though he had some interest in Ye Peng, he mostly viewed her as a plaything. He simply wanted to compete with Gu Junqing to see who could win her over first. After all, his seventh sister had become Gu Junqing's girlfriend simply because he'd arrived a few days too late. He refused to believe that he would lose to Gu Junqing in a fair competition. His heart sank, however, upon receiving another piece of news. Gu Junqing would also be at the dinner tomorrow. He didn't know when Gu Junqing had met his second sister, but it had clearly been before him. Though he knew their relationship wasn't what he feared, it still made him mad with jealousy. He was supposed to be their dearest younger brother, so why did another man keep intruding on their sibling dynamic? After some thought, he decided to bring Ye Peng along. He wanted to deflate Gu Junqing's arrogance. If Gu Junqing thought he was so capable and handsome, he should experience the feeling of having a woman snatched away from his side. That's wonderful. I'll be able to see you tomorrow, Brother Azura. By the way, are you handsome? Just the thought of meeting you makes my heart race. Blush. In order to capture Dao Tianyan's heart quickly, Ye Peng suppressed his disgust and continued to flirt. Would you not like me if I weren't? Dao Tianyan snorted. Although he wasn't unattractive, he was far inferior to Gu Junqing. He had never cared about looks, but after meeting Gu Junqing, he realized how important they were. Otherwise, why would his sisters fall for a man like Gu Junqing, who was all looks and no substance? He could only curse Gu Junqing, hoping he was useless and incapable of satisfying his seventh sister. Of course not. I have never cared about looks. As long as I like someone, I would like you regardless of how you look. Ye Peng realized he had touched a sore spot for Dao Tianyan and quickly explained. That's good. By the way, what do you think of that man, Gu Junqing, who helped you last time? Ye Peng's heart tightened. Even as a man who was currently impotent, he still understood male psychology. He absolutely couldn't praise another man for being handsome. But even if he wanted to lie, he couldn't bring himself to say Gu Junqing was ugly. Dao Tianyan wouldn't believe it anyway. Anyone who had met Gu Junqing knew what peak handsomeness looked like. It was an indescribable, unparalleled elegance. In reality, Ye Peng was deeply jealous of Gu Junqing as well. He had thought he was the most handsome person alive, otherwise, he wouldn't have attracted so many perverts while cross-dressing. He hadn't expected someone to be even better looking. Why aren't you saying anything? Seeing a new line of text appear in the chat, Ye Peng snapped out of his trance and thought about how to reply. Brother Azura, I admit that Gu Junqing is handsome, and I am grateful that he saved me, but I don't like him. I prefer a man like you, who is full of masculine charm and possesses what feels like a superpower. After crafting what he felt was a perfect response, he sent it to Dao Tianyan. Dao Tianyan's question had been a bit of self-deception. Everyone who had met them both knew Gu Junqing was far more handsome than he was. Upon reading the reply, he was immediately overjoyed. You have a good eye. I'll send you some gifts in a moment. Dao Tianyan rarely praised Ye Peng. Brother Azura, do you think I'm the type of woman who only cares about money? I don't want your money. I just wanted to speak my heart and get to know you. If you think I'm that kind of woman, then I might as well return all the money you gave me. Hurt. Knowing that wealthy men disliked gold diggers, Ye Peng hurriedly typed to clear his name. He even painfully returned the millions that Dao Tianyan had gifted him previously. This left Dao Tianyan somewhat stunned. Chapter 911. The forest rustled as a light breeze blew through. Gu Junqing had been enjoying the hospitality of Yuruwan, but his second sister, Ji Hanyan, had suddenly called him back. Second sister, why did you call for me? Gu Junqing returned to the Seven Sisters villa and looked at his second sister, Ji Hanyan, who was as intelligent and beautiful as ever. Under the lights, she wore a simple white shirt and black jeans, though this simple outfit could not hide her graceful and moving figure. Small pendants hung from her crystal-clear earlobes, and their metallic luster added a touch of stability and beauty to her elegance. Can I not look for you if there is nothing wrong? Or do you find me troublesome? Ji Hanyan narrowed her star-like eyes and smiled. How could I say such a thing, second sister? I would go through fire and water for you, so how could I find you troublesome? Gu Junqing laughed and shook his head. It is not as exaggerated as you say. By the way, what have you been doing lately? Why have I rarely seen you come home recently? Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing's handsome face with surprise. He used to hate not living here every day. Every time she came home, she could see him wandering around in front of her. She had not expected him to return home so rarely over the past few days. She felt that there might be something fishy about what he had been doing lately. Could it be that he went out to fool around with other women? Ji Hanyan wondered suspiciously. I have been immersed in the ocean of learning recently, diving deep and surfacing often, and because there were too many things to deal with, I had no time to come back, Gu Junqing said without changing his expression. From a certain perspective, he was not lying. Learning from you Ruin was truly a process of diving deep and surfacing often. I just wanted to find you to go eat together. I heard that your relationship with Dao Tianyan is not good, and he seems to be blaming you for taking his sister, so I wanted to bring you two together to mediate. Ji Hanyan looked into Gu Junqing's eyes and spoke slowly. Since my second sister has come to act as a peacemaker, I naturally agree. I have actually always wanted to interact with Dao Tianyan, but he has always been hostile toward me, which makes me feel helpless. Gu Junqing sighed as if he truly wanted to get along with Dao Tianyan. Ji Hanyan scrutinized his eyes, wanting to see if he was telling the truth. However, Gu Junqing's acting skills had already reached a state of perfection, so even Ji Hanyan, who had excellent insight into people's hearts, could not find any flaws. Fine, I will believe you for once. Ji Hanyan waved her hand and rolled her eyes at him. No child would believe such words, let alone her. He was absolutely off flirting with other girls. She was too lazy to investigate anything though. After all, he was not her man yet, and as for the future, she could only wait and see. We should set off, the time is almost here. Ji Hanyan looked at her watch and calmly changed the subject. Are just the two of us going? Are Yechin and the others not going? Gu Junqing asked in surprise. Yechin has a meeting and no time, and Painting is working at your place, right? As for Yushin, she is probably staking out some wealthy family again. I really do not know when she will grow up. Ji Hanyan shook her head with a look of disappointment. Actually, Yushin is already very excellent. It is just that you sisters are too dazzling, and she has been protected very well by you, so she has not grown up completely yet. Naturally, she does not look as outstanding as you all. Gu Junqing chuckled and stroked his chin. He naturally had the most say on whether Yushin was as grown up as her sisters. Gu Junqing lowered his head slightly and glanced at the fullness of Ji Hanyan's chest, muttering to himself. Let us not talk about this. Let us go to the banquet first, and do not let that kid Dao Tianyan wait too long. Ji Hanyan took Gu Junqing's arm and walked out, chatting with him as they went. Time flies so fast. In the blink of an eye, more than a decade has passed. I have not seen him since the orphanage fire when I was a child. I was quite surprised and happy to hear the news that he was still alive. A look of emotion appeared in Ji Hanyan's eyes. When the orphanage caught fire, the younger sisters like Yushin did not have deep memories of it. Unlike the younger ones, she and the eldest sister were 12 or 13 years old at the time. It could be said that their time at the orphanage was their childhood. Naturally, she felt quite nostalgic for those happy times and her playmates from the orphanage. Gu Junqing stood by with a smile, listening silently as Ji Hanyan recounted the past. By the way, second sister, what was the reason for the orphanage fire back then? Hearing you say it, it seems that it started suddenly, and the fire was quite large. After Ji Hanyan finished speaking, Gu Junqing suddenly asked a question. Ji Hanyan turned her head and looked deeply at Gu Junqing upon hearing this. Actually, we do not know why it caught fire suddenly. The situation at the time was complicated, and we investigated many times without any results. Ji Hanyan shook her head. If you have any information, you can tell us. After all, you are not an outsider. She patted Gu Junqing's shoulder, as if she had entrusted him with something important. Since I am not an outsider, when will I have the opportunity to become my second sister's intimate partner? Gu Junqing blinked and asked cheekily. Fifth sister was right. You are someone who pushes for an inch and takes a foot. Ji Hanyan stood on tiptoe, tapped Gu Junqing on the head, and said irritably. Second sister, you really misunderstood me. I just want us to be closer. Besides, I saved you on the plane once. Should you not offer yourself in marriage? Gu Junqing quickly stopped her, as she seemed to want to say something. Look, just like in the dramas, if the handsome one saves you, you offer yourself, and if the ugly one does it, you repay him in the next life. I consider myself not ugly, so why does second sister not just submit to me? Gu Junqing said while reaching out to wrap his arms around her thin, supple waist. Slap. Ji Hanyan glared and slapped away his hand that was attempting to take advantage. It is not enough that I already agreed to your relationship with the fifth sister. I am turning a blind eye to your affairs with the sixth and seventh sisters. Now you are not even letting me go? Cough. Second sister, what are you saying? I do not understand. Gu Junqing coughed and opened his eyes wide, pretending not to understand. Still pretending? Ji Hanyan snorted lightly. Pretending what? Why do I not understand what second sister is talking about? Gu Junqing looked confused, like a curious child. Forget it. It has already happened, and I am too lazy to lecture you. Seeing that he refused to admit it, she could not do anything about him. Besides, she only had a vague guess that Yushin and Mu Painting were with him. After all, she had never caught them in bed, so she was not very certain. Stop, hold it right there. We are almost there. Seeing that Gu Junqing was about to explain something, Ji Hanyan pointed to the hotel in front and spoke slowly. Gu Junqing looked in the direction she pointed and immediately laughed. This hotel was the very one where he had first had relations with Yushin. At that time, Dao Tianyan had gotten his seventh sister, Yushin, drunk, and he, Gu, had carried her to the room next door to succeed. He still had a vivid memory of the scene at that time. If he remembered correctly, the groans Yushin made under him were a bit loud, and Dao Tianyan, with his amazing hearing, heard them and shouted for the brother next door to keep going. Little did he know that the object of his cheering was his beloved seventh sister and Gu Junqing. It was really fated. Gu Junqing chuckled as he looked at the hotel. Chapter 912. Just as Gu Junqing and Ji Hanyan were about to reach the entrance of the hotel, Someone was watching from the other side. Dao Tianyan looked at the building with a dark expression. This hotel was the site of his greatest pain and shame. If he had killed Gu Junqing back then, or had not let his seventh sister get drunk, she would not have had that relationship with him. Could that bastard Gu Junqing be planning to use the same trick again? Is that why he booked this hotel? Dao Tianyan's face turned extremely ugly as his mood plummeted at the mere thought of the place. He calmed himself down and sent a message to Ye Peng. Ye Peng did not reply but called instead. Dao Tianyan answered, puzzled, but there was no sound on the other end. Just as he felt something was strange, he sensed someone approaching him stealthily from behind, causing his guard to rise instantly. When he was the Shura King in the Eagle Kingdom, assassins often approached him this way. However, he quickly relaxed. First, this was the Xia Kingdom, where few knew his identity as the Shura King. Second, the person behind him held no killing intent. Ye Peng tapped Dao Tianyan on the shoulder. He bounced in front of him, mimicking a cute little girl, and looked up with a bright smile. He was determined to give Dao Tianyan the perfect first impression. Dao Tianyan looked at the girl before him and revealed a look of amazement. Ye Peng wore a pleated skirt that ended at his knees, paired with crystal-clear black stockings on his long, slender jade legs and shiny leather shoes. This attire perfectly accentuated his body proportions. He had dyed his slightly curly long hair a flaxen color, which looked meticulously cared for, soft, and glossy. His snow-white skin was accented with light makeup, and he looked incredibly radiant. This streamer was even prettier than he appeared on camera. Even without the filters, he remained stunningly beautiful. He looked every bit as good as his sisters. Dao Tianyan felt a rush of excitement. Do I look good like this, brother Shura King? Ye Peng watched Dao Tianyan's unblinking stare and secretly mocked him for being a pervert, though he acted bashfully on the surface. He had carefully curated this outfit just to meet Dao Tianyan. The pleated design gave him a fluttering, elegant aura, while the black stockings perfectly embodied a woman's soft and feminine beauty. It was an outfit designed to capture any man's heart. Seeing Dao Tianyan's obsessed look, Ye Peng felt quite proud of himself. Men understood men best, after all. You can just call me Dao Tianyan, he replied, coughing lightly. On the surface, Dao Tianyan maintained his cold and mysterious facade. Inside, however, he felt a twinge of annoyance. He was the dignified Shura King, a man who stood above thousands, and had seen countless beautiful women. His 7 sisters were unparalleled beauties, and yet he found himself dazed by a woman, which felt embarrassing. Still, this proved that Ye Peng's cross-dressing look was indeed breathtaking. His beauty was enhanced by the system, after all. But I want to call you brother Shura King. It feels more intimate, Ye Peng replied. He knew exactly how to manipulate men. Although the name Shura King was a bit cringy, Dao Tianyan's willingness to adopt it meant it held immense significance to him. His willingness to use the name was an affirmation of Dao Tianyan's identity. As Ye Peng expected, Dao Tianyan's eyes softened significantly. He seemed quite pleased. Although he knew it was embarrassing to be called Shura King in public, the Shura society was his creation, and the title was his obsession. Since Ye Peng did not find the name embarrassing or pathetic, his favorability toward him rose again. Ding. Detected that the great luck holder Dao Tianyan's favorability toward the host has increased by 10, now at 40. 80 is a fanatical believer. Rewarding the host with 400 cross-dressing points. Host mission: Prince falls for Mr. Cinderella. Mission brief: cross paths with a noble, wealthy young master. Make him fall deeply for you and engage in a wonderful, melodramatic romance. P.S. Even if he discovers the host is a boy, make him unable to let you go. Mission failure penalty: tossed into a group of hungry, strong men. Bound target: Dao Tianyan. Target favorability 40. Host completion 50%. I am the #1 crossdresser in the country. Did you really think my reputation was unearned? Ye Peng felt secretly delighted as he watched the favorability points climb. If he could turn Dao Tianyan into a fanatical believer, he could not imagine how many points the system would reward him. He might even be able to restore his body to its original state. You can call me that in private, just call me by my name when we are out, Dao Tianyan asked with gentlemanly warmth. Of course. But when are we considered to be in private? Ye Peng asked, twisting his body and acting coy. Every gesture and expression had been carefully designed. He did not believe Dao Tianyan would not be bewitched by this. It is when we are alone together, Dao Tianyan said, his eyes revealing a hint of heat. He felt this girl was built exactly to his aesthetic. Whether it was the shy fidgeting of his fingers or his bashful expression, he felt his heart racing. Except for his 7 sisters, no woman had ever given him this feeling. Being alone together, that would be so embarrassing, Ye Peng said, covering his face in shame. Coupled with his makeup, he truly looked pitiable and shy. Dao Tianyan swallowed hard, and was about to make a move when a voice from afar caused his eyes to well up with tears. Little 8, are you doing well? Ji Hanyan and Gu Junqing walked over slowly. Dao Tianyan's body trembled slightly, his eyes turning red as the lust ignited by Ye Peng was instantly extinguished. Second sister, he said, his voice trembling. Why are you crying? Aren't you ashamed? Ji Hanyan walked over with a warm smile on her beautiful face. I am not crying, Dao Tianyan said, using a coquettish tone. If his subordinates saw this, their eyes would surely pop out of their heads. Dao Tianyan was the ruthless, powerful Shura King, yet here he was, acting spoiled like a child with a woman. However, Dao Tianyan was being completely genuine. Having lost his parents at a young age, second sister was like an elder to him. All right, you are not a child anymore. Stop acting spoiled. I am just relieved to see you are safe, Ji Hanyan said with a touch of helplessness. Gu Junqing found this scene rather unexpected. Just a moment ago, Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng were chatting so intensely he thought they were about to head to a hotel room. He had not expected Ji Hanyan to appear and call out to him, much to his regret. This was the protagonist's luck at work, Gu Junqing thought, shaking his head. Whenever danger or disadvantageous situations arose, the protagonist always found a way to turn them around. Even things that should have been extremely dangerous could be transformed into something beneficial. Otherwise, these sons of luck would not be so difficult to deal with. Mr. Gu, I see you again. Thank you so much for your help that day, Ye Peng said, looking at Gu Junqing with infatuation. Since his physical issues began, not only was he not in control of his little brother, but his sexual orientation seemed to have shifted slightly. He used to be a pure man who liked beautiful women, even though he cross-dressed. Now, he frequently watched videos of muscular, handsome men on social media, and every time he peeked, he felt a wave of heat and itching in his body. This change terrified him, but he was powerless to stop it. Looking at Gu Junqing's handsome face now, he felt that familiar heat surging within him once again. He could not help but strike up a conversation. Gu Junqing glanced at him and felt a chill. This cross-dressing master was becoming increasingly feminine, to the point where it disgusted him. You are welcome, Gu Junqing said expressionlessly. That is not like you, Ji Hanyan said, surprised. She was shocked by Gu Junqing's cold attitude toward a pretty girl. Had the sun risen from the west today? Chapter 913. Gu Junqing was extremely cold toward the pretty girl. Ji Hanyan was quite surprised by this. That is not like you, she said. Ji Hanyan rubbed her chin with her slender hand, eyeing Gu Junqing up and down with genuine bewilderment. Based on her understanding of him, even if he were uninterested, he was not the type to treat a woman with such indifference. On this hot summer day, Gu Junqing felt a chill run through him. He was a man of high moral character, not the type to pounce on every woman he saw. Just as he was about to retort to Ji Hanyan, Dao Tianyan chimed in. Gu Junqing, improve your attitude. Can you not see that Ming Ming is greeting you? Dao Tianyan's heart had skipped a beat when he first saw Ye Peng speaking to Gu Junqing, terrified that Gu Junqing might steal Ye Peng away. Fortunately, Gu Junqing's attitude toward Ye Peng seemed cold, allowing Dao Tianyan to heave a sigh of relief. As a man himself, he knew exactly how much allure Gu Junqing's looks and background held for women. However, seeing the look of grievance on Ye Peng's pretty face, Dao Tianyan's protective instinct flared up. Disliking Gu Junqing anyway, he stepped forward to rebuke him. Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow and sneered. If I had a better attitude, someone would start worrying that their partner was being stolen again, right? Gu Junqing, you shit. You piece of shit, Dao Tianyan sputtered, too angry to form a coherent sentence. Ye Peng watched them glare at each other, feigning worry while secretly rejoicing. In his eyes, these two incredibly elite men were fighting over him. All right, enough, Ji Hanyan stepped in to interrupt them, her expression helpless. I thought this was just a minor disagreement I could mediate, but you started fighting the moment you met. Let us go inside to eat before the food gets cold. Under the second sister's urging, the two men ceased their bickering and entered the familiar hotel. And who is this little sister? We have not been introduced. After everyone took their seats, Ji Hanyan looked kindly at Ye Peng. Hello, sister. I heard from brother Tianyan that you are the sister he respects most. My name is Ye Ming, and I am a streamer, Ye Peng said, looking up with a respectful expression. He knew how to curry favor with a man's family, especially since Dao Tianyan clearly valued this second sister. When Ye Peng's gaze met Ji Hanyan's, and he saw that flawless, breathtaking face, his heart raced. However, the surge of heat quickly vanished, leaving him indifferent. In the past, he would have been incredibly excited to meet such a beauty. Since his body changed, he felt nothing, worried only that her beauty might interfere with his plans to hook men. A streamer? With your looks, you must be quite popular, Ji Hanyan said with a smile. No, just average. Ye Peng waved his hand modestly. Second sister, Ming Ming is one of the top streamers on her platform. Seeing Ye Peng's modesty, Dao Tianyan felt his affection for him grow. That impressive? Little sister, you do not need to be so humble. By the way, what is your relationship with Tianyan? Ji Hanyan asked with a smile. Our relationship? Sister, you should ask Tianyan. Ye Peng knew how to manipulate a person's heart. He acted coyly on purpose to pass the question to Dao Tianyan. He was not actually shy, he was just calculating. By refusing to answer and passing the buck, he could turn Dao Tianyan into a love-struck fool and keep him on a leash. To Ji Hanyan, it was obvious that the streamer named Ye Ming liked Dao Tianyan. Since Dao Tianyan brought him to the gathering, he must have some feelings for him as well, or he would not have brought him along. Tianyan, the lady has already made her stance clear. Why have you not made yours yet? Ji Hanyan teased, acting as if she were watching a show. Dao Tianyan hesitated. He feared that if he agreed, he would lose his chance to pursue his sisters. Clearly, the sisters were more important than Ye Peng. Although Ye Peng was very beautiful, there was still a gap between him and the sisters. Should he really agree to date Ye Peng, or wait until after the gathering to be with him in secret? Dao Tianyan was usually decisive, but this situation had him stumped. He feared hurting Ye Peng, but also feared that agreeing would end his pursuit of his sisters, effectively handing them over to Gu Junqing. Tianyan, what are you waiting for? Can you not see how pitifully the girl is waiting for you? Seeing Dao Tianyan stalling, Ji Hanyan frowned and spoke with authoritative presence. Dao Tianyan stood up almost reflexively. Back in the orphanage, whenever the eldest sister did not intervene, the second sister managed everything. Consequently, Ji Hanyan possessed an aura that commanded obedience from everyone there. It is all right, second sister. I have not known brother Tianyan for long, so it is normal that he does not like me. I have just been clinging to him, Ye Peng said, his eyes flashing as he spoke with a firm expression. Anyone could see the grievance and glint of tears in his eyes. Only Gu Junqing, who knew Ye Peng's true colors, could spot the performance. Gu Junqing was stunned by the acting. It was masterful, refined, and better than the real thing. This cross-dressing expert was just as good as he was, truly a master of acting. Seeing the tears shimmering in Ye Peng's eyes, Dao Tianyan felt his heart ache. It was clearly his own fault, yet Ye Peng was taking the blame. He could not let Ye Peng down. Dao Tianyan felt dejected. Exactly. Are you a man or not? The girl is giving you so much face. If you do not want her, plenty of others will, Gu Junqing said, blinking and adding fuel to the fire. He made it seem as if he would pursue Ye Peng himself if Dao Tianyan declined. Ji Hanyan rolled her eyes at Gu Junqing, as if to ask why he was sticking his nose into this. Second sister, I like Ming Ming too. From now on, Ming Ming is my girlfriend. Dao Tianyan gritted his teeth and stood up, speaking with determination. Chapter 914. Seeing that the woman had already confessed, Dao Tianyan felt he wouldn't be much of a man if he didn't speak up. He didn't even bother to think about why Ye Peng had openly declared her affection for him upon their first meeting. After all, as the powerful Azura king worth hundreds of billions, was he not worthy of love at first sight? Second sister, I like Ming Ming too. From now on, she is my girlfriend. Dao Tianyan gritted his teeth and stood up, looking at Ye Peng's delicate face with a possessive air. Ye Peng shuddered imperceptibly. He didn't actually want to develop a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with Dao Tianyan. Becoming a couple this early was not exactly great news for his plans to exploit him. Ye Peng quickly formulated a response. He intended to decline by citing the short duration of their acquaintance, while ensuring he looked regretful and considerate of Dao Tianyan's feelings. This way, he wouldn't diminish the favorable impression he had made. Clap, clap, clap. Good. You've got guts, you're a real man. Then I wish you both a lifetime of happiness, never to be parted. To everyone's surprise, the first person to stand and applaud was not Ji Hanyan, but Gu Junqing, who had been at odds with Dao Tianyan just moments before. Gu Junqing clapped his hands, looking at Dao Tianyan with an expression of genuine admiration. He was already looking forward to the day Dao Tianyan discovered Ye Peng was a cross-dressing man. He wondered if Dao Tianyan would choose to screw Ye Peng, or choose to kill him. Ye Peng's prepared speech was interrupted by Gu Junqing's outburst. He stared at Gu Junqing, stunned. Was it really okay for someone to make decisions for him before he even had a chance to speak? Dao Tianyan was also bewildered to see Gu Junqing clapping. He expected the bastard to sabotage him, not bless him. Moreover, Ye Peng's appearance could be described as pure and beautiful, far superior to half-ton counterparts. Why would Gu Junqing let him have this win? Dao Tianyan felt increasingly suspicious. However, Ji Hanyan didn't think too much of it. Seeing Gu Junqing's reaction, she assumed he truly wanted to reconcile and be friends with Dao Tianyan, which brought her great comfort. She had invited them both specifically to mediate their relationship, and seeing Gu Junqing take a step back made her very happy. Ye Peng didn't dare look at Gu Junqing. His current state was too dangerous. He feared that if he looked at Gu Junqing for too long, he would fall in love with him. For now, he had no choice but to accept Dao Tianyan. In that case, Ming Ming, you will be my sister-in-law from now on. Let's all have a drink. Ji Hanyan raised her glass, smiling at Ye Peng. Thank you, second sister. Ye Peng raised his glass with a bashful, coy expression. Internally, he was ecstatic. As long as he kept Dao Tianyan hooked, he had secured a constant supply of cross-dressing points. If he could successfully milk Dao Tianyan, his physical recovery would be within reach. By the way, Tianyan has several other sisters. I will introduce you to them next time. Ji Hanyan finished her wine and said with a smile. Ye Peng nodded happily. Once his body was fully recovered and his vigor restored, he might even be able to try his luck with those sisters as well. As Ye Peng fantasized about his bright future, he failed to notice the profound, meaningful gaze Gu Junqing was fixed upon him. Since all four were practically family, the atmosphere began to warm up. This wine is exquisite. The aroma is mellow and drifting, the taste pure and rich. I have traveled all over the world, but this is the first time I have tasted such good wine. After finishing her glass, Ji Hanyan closed her eyes slightly, savoring the taste on her taste buds, and couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Second sister, this wine is called Immortal Drunk. It is my exclusive brew. Gu Junqing replied with a light chuckle. Immortal Drunk? A good name. Ji Hanyan's eyes brightened. Dao Tianyan, who was whispering to Ye Peng, stiffened at the mention. It was this very wine that had been used to get him drunk last time, leading to seventh sister being taken away by that animal, Gu Junqing. I thought you had changed, but you are still a beast, trying to use the same old tricks. You bastard. Dao Tianyan cursed Gu Junqing through gritted teeth. Remembering something, he sneered. This time, he would protect his sisters well, and never let Gu Junqing succeed again. Tianyan, is this wine good? You drank quite a few bottles of it last time. Gu Junqing seemed to recall something and spoke to Dao Tianyan with a smile. Ding. The host has caused the protagonist Dao Tianyan's mindset to be damaged, rewarding the host with 500 villain points. Dao Tianyan stiffened for a second, his expression turning ugly. He knew Gu Junqing was deliberately trying to provoke him. He reasoned that Gu Junqing did it to gain second sister's favor by making him angry, hoping second sister would be disappointed in him. It's not bad. Dao Tianyan managed a strained smile. With second sister right there, he couldn't argue with Gu Junqing. That would only play into his hands. He didn't want Ji Hanyan to be disappointed. Although he now had Ye Peng as a girlfriend, he didn't intend to let go of his sisters. The 7 sisters were the women he loved most, and he would protect them forever, never allowing any other man to get close. Then drink more. As long as you want it, brother-in-law here has plenty. Gu Junqing wore his signature smile on his handsome face. Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing with approval. Gu Junqing had not lied. He really was trying to send messages of reconciliation to Dao Tianyan. Dao Tianyan was her brother, and Gu Junqing was her brother-in-law. Naturally, she wanted them to live in peace. A family should be harmonious. Ding. The host has caused the protagonist Dao Tianyan's mindset to be damaged, rewarding the host with 1000 villain points. Ha! Dao Tianyan sneered, clenching his fists and draining his glass in one gulp. The wine, which had been sweet and mellow just moments ago, now tasted slightly bitter. He couldn't stand the sight of Gu Junqing's mocking gaze anymore, and turned his attention to Ye Peng, his newly minted girlfriend. After tasting the wine Gu Junqing brought, Ye Peng also found it fragrant and sweet. He had unconsciously finished a few glasses. Because of their relationship, Dao Tianyan viewed Ye Peng through a filter of affection. Seeing Ye Peng licking the wine from his red, seductive tongue like a cute kitten, and his flushed, tipsy face, Dao Tianyan felt his throat go dry, and his mouth water. He stared straight at Ye Peng. Since returning to the Xia kingdom, he hadn't had a single day of peace. On the first day, he discovered his 7th sister had been snatched away by Gu Junqing. He had struggled to transfer into 6th sister's class, only to be scolded severely by her after being caught installing a wiretap in her office. That encounter left him too ashamed to contact her much. And 5th sister? He had barely seen her once before she left on a business trip to the Eagle Kingdom. At the time, he had been too tied up with the Azura Society to follow her. Had he been there, perhaps his base in the Eagle Kingdom wouldn't have been destroyed. In short, ever since returning to the Xia Kingdom, nothing had gone his way. It was a far cry from his fantasies of returning to dominate, commanding the world, and being surrounded by sisters. Feeling depressed, Dao Tianyan downed his drink. Perhaps because of Ye Peng, his fighting spirit gradually rose again. Women were like a man's refueling station. Even if they eventually weakened a man's body, they made his fighting spirit soar. Dao Tianyan looked at Ye Peng with increasing tenderness and heat. Gu Junqing felt a slight regret that Dao Tianyan stopped taking the bait. He was being too stingy with his points. However, seeing Dao Tianyan's growing affection for Ye Peng, Gu Junqing felt a sense of amusement. He was becoming more and more interested in seeing Dao Tianyan's reaction when he found out Ye Peng was a man. Could Dao Tianyan actually be turned gay by Ye Peng? Gu Junqing muttered to himself. After all, while Dao Tianyan was the ciscon son of luck, Ye Peng was also a crossdresser son of luck. The love between these two was truly something to behold. Drink less, drink less. It's not good for your health. Seeing Ye Peng greedily drinking, Dao Tianyan took the glass away, speaking with forced tenderness. No, I want more. Just one more glass, okay, brother Tianyan? Ye Peng was slightly tipsy, pouting with his lipstick-painted lips. All right, just one more. Dao Tianyan sighed and eventually handed the glass back. But as he handed it over, he saw Ye Peng's smooth forehead and, unable to help himself, leaned over and kissed it. Feeling the kiss on his forehead, Ye Peng felt his entire body go numb. Goosebumps erupted across his skin, and his tipsy, dreamy haze instantly vanished. He was, after all, a man even if a malfunctioning one. Being kissed by another man made him feel a wave of intense disgust. Chapter 915. Ming Ming, what is wrong? Dao Tianyan looked at the stiff-bodied Ye Peng and asked in a low, gentle voice. And nothing. Ye Peng forced a smile and replied. Suddenly, he remembered that they were boyfriend and girlfriend now, and Dao Tianyan would definitely start getting handsy with him. Being handsy was not a huge deal, and if he forced himself to swallow his disgust, he could let Dao Tianyan touch him. The problem was if Dao Tianyan wanted to have sex with him, what was he supposed to do then? He could not actually have sex with him. Ye Peng raised his head and looked directly at Gu Junqing for the first time. Resentment began to rise in his heart toward him. A notification sounded, indicating that the protagonist Ye Peng had suffered a mental blow, rewarding the host with 1000 villain points. If it were not for Gu Junqing forcing everyone to stand up and cheer just now, he would not have been unable to refuse Dao Tianyan. It left him in a state of extreme embarrassment. He did not know what excuse to use to refuse. He had previously acted like he could not live without Dao Tianyan, but now he was resisting physical contact, and anyone would be suspicious of that. Dao Tianyan noticed that his girlfriend was looking at Gu Junqing with resentment. His smile stiffened instantly as he shouted, Gu Junqing, what did you do to Ming Ming? Gu Junqing's confused expression made Ji Hanyan, who was watching from the sidelines, laugh. She let out a snort of laughter. I was watching right next to you, and he did not do anything. Ji Hanyan could not bear to see Gu Junqing being wrongly accused, so she stood up and said with a smile, It is fine. You just kissed me suddenly, and I was caught off guard and felt shy. Ye Peng did not want the atmosphere to become too awkward, so he quickly said to Dao Tianyan. So that is what it was. I thought Gu Junqing was secretly touching you. Dao Tianyan let out a sigh of relief. It was not that he was paranoid. It was that Gu Junqing was too cunning. Gu Junqing had already stolen the hearts of several of his sisters. He was truly afraid that he would lose Ye Peng, whom he now considered a treasure. If Gu Junqing knew what Dao Tianyan was thinking, he would probably say 4 words, there is no need. He was not about to go as far as fighting Dao Tianyan over a man. Haha. Ye Peng could only force a dry laugh. He did not realize that Dao Tianyan was so wary and hostile toward that wealthy young master named Gu Junqing. Then again, if it were his own girlfriend, he would not want her to get too close to Gu Junqing either. The main thing was that Gu Junqing was too handsome, so much so that even he, a man, did not dare to look him in the eye. His own body had been having some minor issues, reacting to nothing from the enthusiastic girls he used to like, yet reacting to handsome men instead. Therefore, he really did not dare to look into Gu Junqing's eyes. Just by glancing at him earlier, his anger and resentment toward Gu Junqing had miraculously vanished. If he had not forced himself to hold back, he probably would have flushed red with embarrassment and excitement. Dao Tianyan would have definitely fought Gu Junqing on the spot. Actually, another thing that Ye Peng found very strange was that Gu Junqing really did not seem to like him at all. When they locked eyes, he only saw playfulness and coldness in Gu Junqing's eyes. There was not a shred of the pursuit or admiration one usually expects from a man toward a beautiful woman. This was very strange for Ye Peng, who was used to the gazes of men. Unless a man was gay or a eunuch, he would not be indifferent to a beautiful woman. Even an old man would be the same. Ji Hanyan had also noticed this, as Gu Junqing did not seem interested in Ye Peng at all. Ye Peng's appearance was actually quite high tier. Even if he was not on par with the 7 sisters, he was not far behind. However, Ji Hanyan attributed this to Gu Junqing's respect for Dao Tianyan, and since she was also there, she did not think much of it. Once Dao Tianyan knew that Gu Junqing had not harassed his girlfriend, he felt much more at ease. He began drinking small glasses of alcohol. This wine was specially exchanged by Gu Junqing, and martial arts were completely useless against its effects, so it began to make Dao Tianyan feel slightly drunk. When a man gets drunk, he likes to touch things. Dao Tianyan was no exception, as he placed his hand extremely naturally on Ye Peng's waist. In an instant, Ye Peng felt his scalp go numb. He could only force himself to endure the disgust in his heart. He only prayed that Dao Tianyan would get drunk quickly, so he could escape from Dao Tianyan's clutches. Chapter 920. Dao Tianyan licked his lips as his right hand traced down the fair, soft skin of Ye Peng's neck. It finally came to rest on his slender waist. Ye Peng's expression turned slightly bitter, as he felt Dao Tianyan's hand roaming restlessly across his waist. Goosebumps spread from his waist to the surrounding skin, sending shivers through his entire body. Damn it. If I had known he was such a lecher, I would have risked his favor rating dropping and rejected him first. Ye Peng felt a sense of lament in his heart. He blamed Gu Junqing for instigating the situation, which made it impossible for him to back down at the time. Otherwise, given his years of experience in manipulating spare tires, he would never have agreed to be someone's girlfriend so quickly. He had completely played himself. Ding. Host, the male lead Ye Peng's mental state is damaged. You are awarded 1000 villain points. Ding. Host, the male lead Ye Peng's mental state has collapsed. You are awarded 2000 villain points. Gu Junqing looked at the various notifications from the system, his eyebrows raising slightly with a smile. The impotence and atrophy potion was of the subtle, gradual variety. If it weren't for Ye Peng's deep reserves of luck, which alerted him whenever something felt wrong or a crisis loomed, he would have struggled to notice the changes in his own body. An ordinary person would have been hard-pressed to notice the physiological changes, simply assuming they were underperforming and that their orientation had shifted. This was because the potion had not yet taken full effect. Therefore, Ye Peng was currently in a state of being repulsive to both men and women. Once the potion completed its transformation of Ye Peng's body, his orientation would change entirely. Nearby, Ji Hanyan watched the affectionate display between Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng with a touch of relief in her eyes. Seeing the children who survived the orphanage fire start families one by one made her feel as though a great burden had been lifted. It was, in a way, fulfilling the last wishes of the teachers and staff from the orphanage. However, seeing Dao Tianyan's uninhibited display of affection toward Ye Peng, Ji Hanyan felt a little embarrassed. In truth, Dao Tianyan behaved this way not only because he had been holding back for a long time, but mostly to show off in front of Gu Junqing. No matter how handsome Gu Junqing looked, he, Dao Tianyan, also had the capability to attract beautiful women. Dao Tianyan held Ye Peng's waist with a firm, possessive grip, looking proud and triumphant. He glanced at Gu Junqing from time to time with eyes full of provocation and smugness. Having been suppressed in front of Gu Junqing for so long, he could finally vent his pent-up frustration. However, he remained vigilant of Gu Junqing's movements. Remembering the lesson with his 7th sister, he warned his 2nd sister repeatedly not to overindulge in the wine. 2nd sister, this wine smells rich and lingering, but it gets you drunk very easily. Don't drink too much and let someone take advantage of you. It's fine, I have never been drunk in my life, Ji Hanyan said, waving her hand dismissively. Dao Tianyan wore a wry smile, remembering he had thought the same thing. What kind of wine could possibly intoxicate the Azura King at the half-step god realm? Yet, that bastard Gu Junqing had taken his 7th sister away after he got drunk. That was how she had lost her virginity to Gu Junqing. If she hadn't explained later that it was consensual, he would have fought Gu Junqing to the death. Now, even though he had crossed into the new realm of a god, the wine still made him feel dizzy, and his senses blurry. He truly didn't know where Gu Junqing had sourced this liquor. It tasted good, but the after-effect was damn strong. You should focus on your girlfriend instead. I think she's about to pass out from the drink, Ji Hanyan chuckled, signaling toward Ye Peng, who kept eagerly sipping the wine. All right then. Seeing that Ji Hanyan was still clear-headed, Dao Tianyan nodded slightly. In reality, even if she did get drunk, he would never make the same mistake twice. He would never let a drunk Ji Hanyan leave alone with Gu Junqing. With that thought, Dao Tianyan relaxed and focused his attention on his girlfriend. Simultaneously, he kept checking on Gu Junqing, determined to find a way to interrupt him whenever he tried to speak with the second sister. Gu Junqing found Dao Tianyan's guard dog gaze amusing. Did he really think a constant stare could stop him from mooring his sister? To be honest, he was more interested in watching how Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng interacted than in flirting with the second sister. It would be truly hilarious if Dao Tianyan discovered Ye Peng was a man. Time passed quickly, and once everyone was wined and dined, they began discussing their return home. Ye Peng, unaware of the potency of Gu Junqing's wine, had drunk several extra cups and was now completely unconscious. If not for Dao Tianyan propping him up, he would have likely slumped into a pile of mush. Ji Hanyan felt she had achieved her goals for the day. First, she had seen her long-lost eighth brother, Dao Tianyan, and was relieved to find he was doing well. Second, she had aimed to mediate the relationship between Gu Junqing and Dao Tianyan, and she was satisfied with Gu Junqing's attitude. Although they still bickered, they had at least restrained themselves in her presence. Everyone has had enough to eat and drink. Tianyan, why don't you take Ming Ming home first? Ji Hanyan said with a chuckle, pointing toward the dead drunk Ye Peng. Second sister, are you drunk? You've had quite a lot tonight. Don't let some despicable villain take advantage of the situation, Dao Tianyan said, looking at the tall, upright Gu Junqing beside her with concern. Rest assured, I will definitely take advantage of it, and I'll do it thoroughly. Gu Junqing sneered in his heart upon hearing this. Dao Tianyan, I can sue you for slander, Gu Junqing said indifferently. Don't worry, I'm fine. Besides, Gu Junqing doesn't seem like the type to take advantage of others, Ji Hanyan said, her face flushed with the hue of alcohol, showing a hint of helplessness as she watched the two about to bicker again. She had spent some time with Gu Junqing now, whether based on her own judgment or the accounts of her other sisters. The collective opinion of him was quite high, even though he occasionally had a silver tongue and said things that made people blush. Overall, his character was that of a refined gentleman. Considering his family background, appearance, and capabilities, he was a top-tier man in every aspect. Otherwise, her quirky and beautiful seventh sister Shi Yushin, the brilliant and stunning sixth sister, Mu Peining, and the strategic and elegant fifth sister, Chu Yuchen, wouldn't have been so attracted to him. Furthermore, Gu Junqing had saved her, and an entire plane full of passengers. Therefore, Ji Hanyan had always held a high opinion of Gu Junqing. She couldn't understand why Dao Tianyan was so fixated on targeting him. Besides being a bit snarky, Gu Junqing rarely seemed to provoke Dao Tianyan actively. So, the second sister was truly my kindred spirit. My true nature as a composed, morally upright gentleman had finally been seen through. Gu Junqing looked at Ji Hanyan with the gaze one would reserve for a soulmate. If their relationship weren't so complicated, he would have sworn a blood brotherhood with her. Second sister, I feel like you're the only one in this world who understands me, Gu Junqing said, gazing at her with deep affection. All right. He's not the type to take advantage of someone? Dao Tianyan laughed in anger. If Gu Junqing wasn't an opportunist, then everyone on earth was a saint. Seeing his second sister persist in her view, he felt a sense of despair. He had lost count of how many times he had warned his sisters that the bastard Gu Junqing was an unadulterated villain, ruthless, addicted to lust, greedy, and shameless. But his sisters were all swayed by Gu Junqing's handsome face. They didn't believe a word he said. Just because he's a little handsome. Dao Tianyan thought sourly. Ugh, I hiccup. Where am I? I want to go home. Just then, Ye Peng suddenly woke up, eyes bleary, and mumbled. Fortunately, even in his drunken state, he maintained his transformation. Otherwise, his cover would have been blown right then. Okay, I'll take you home now. Good boy. Dao Tianyan looked at Ye Peng with doting affection and coaxed him gently. Second sister, I will definitely make you see his true face. Dao Tianyan cradled Ye Peng in his arms. Seeing that Ji Hanyan spoke clearly and, despite a slightly unsteady gait, didn't seem drunk, he relaxed, left this threat, and took Ye Peng away. Watching Dao Tianyan like this, Ji Hanyan shook her head with a smile. She was filled with mixed emotions. When he was young, Dao Tianyan had even joked about marrying all 7 of them when he grew up. Though it was just a childhood jest, she hadn't expected him to forget his sisters after finding a wife. She felt like a mother watching her son leave the nest. Just as Ji Hanyan was deep in thought, Gu Junqing suddenly leaned in, interrupting her train of thought. Second sister, I brought so much good wine for your banquet today. How are you going to thank me? Gu Junqing looked at Ji Hanyan's face, flushed with the rosy glow of wine, his eyes deepening. Ji Hanyan glanced at Gu Junqing and said slowly, you performed well tonight, so you should be properly rewarded. Gu Junqing's eyes brightened slightly at this, and his heart stirred. If the second sister was the one initiating it, then he wasn't really taking advantage of the situation. If Ji Hanyan knew what Gu Junqing was thinking, she would likely agree with everything Dao Tianyan had said. I can disclose one piece of information to you in advance. In a few days, someone will drop into the capital. You should prepare yourself. Ji Hanyan looked up at Gu Junking's handsome, indistinct face in the night and chuckled. Is that it? Countless people arrive in the capital every day. How could I possibly prepare for all of them? Gu Junking's heart skipped a beat, but to fish for more information, he feigned a helpless expression, clutching his forehead and sighed. Hee, that's all I'm saying. Ji Hanyan raised her brows at his reaction, turned around, and began walking home along the path in the night. Hey, second sister, is that all the reward I get? A piece of information with no beginning or end? Can't you provide something more practical? Gu Junqing asked, anxious, as he followed Ji Hanyan. Practical? What kind of practical reward do you want? Ji Hanyan turned her head. Her beautiful face, obscured in the shadows, had somehow become bewitching, cold, and ruthless. For a moment, Gu Junqing barely recognized this side of the second sister. The usual Ji Hanyan was dignified, graceful, and intelligent. She always exuded a sense of reliability. Yet, the current Ji Hanyan was bewitching and icy, her eyes devoid of emotional fluctuation, looking at people as if they were nothing more than cold corpses. Gu Junqing blinked, looking at the unnatural flush on Ji Hanyan's face, and understood instantly. She was actually drunk. She had been too confident, failing to realize she was intoxicated herself. That was the power of the immortal drunk wine. It intoxicated people inexplicably and confusedly. Is this what the second sister is like when she's drunk? Or is this her true nature? She's terrifyingly intense. Gu Junqing muttered to himself as he watched her. No, never mind. Let's just go home and get some sleep, second sister. Gu Junqing hurriedly coaxed her in a soft voice. He used to be able to joke with her, and she would simply look at him with a smile. But he felt that the second sister, as she was now, was truly dangerous. He felt that she was truly dangerous. Never mind. You say never mind, so it's never mind. Chapter 919. Second sister, sober up. You are drunk and playing with a knife, aren't you afraid of hurting yourself? Gu Junqing looked at Ji Hanyan with a wry smile. She looked cold, emotionless, and every bit like a dark queen. If he had known she would change so drastically when drunk, he would have advised her to drink less. Sober up? I am not drunk at all, Ji Hanyan said indifferently. Of course, drunk people always claimed they were sober, because they lacked the awareness to realize their state. Gu Junqing muttered this to himself. Sure. I know you are not drunk, but could you please put the knife down? Gu Junqing spoke with a helpless tone. Ji Hanyan remained silent this time. Her eyes, usually gentle, but now cold and piercing, suddenly flashed. She seemed to have noticed a flaw in Gu Junqing's defense. She lunged forward like a ghost, brandishing a butterfly knife she had pulled from somewhere. Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow. He knew all his sisters were exceptional, so naturally, the second sister could not be a mere flight attendant. With such combat skills, Ji Hanyan was clearly no ordinary person. Where on earth was she hiding that knife? He wondered if she had hidden it in her chest. Gu Junqing dodged easily, his toes barely touching the ground. He floated out of range of her attacks. Hiss! The sound of the blade slicing through the air echoed. When Ji Hanyan realized she had missed, she twisted her body in an inhuman way to strike again. Second sister, are you playing for real? Can you even recognize me? Gu Junqing dodged the flash of cold steel as he spoke to her. He was trying to snap her out of her stupor. She seemed unable to hear him at all. She obsessively slashed and stabbed, acting as if she were attacking a heartless lover. Sigh. Gu Junqing shook his head in frustration. Since he could not wake her, he decided he would just keep dodging until she tired herself out. He observed her technique. It did not look like any traditional martial art. It was a brutal, efficient method of killing. Every motion was stripped to the absolute minimum, designed with the sole purpose of ending a life. If Gu Junqing were not so much stronger than her, a normal person would have been cut down in a few moves. Maybe her real job was not just a flight attendant. Was she a secret agent or an assassin? Perhaps her job was just a cover to travel the world and eliminate targets. Gu Junqing dodged her relentless attacks while these thoughts swirled in his mind. He had already suspected her skills were off when she handled the hijackers on the plane. Just as he prepared to end the skirmish, a series of system notifications froze him in his tracks. Ding. The child of fortune Ye Peng feels resentment toward the host. Reward. 1,000 villain points. Ding. The child of fortune Ye Peng feels resentment toward the host. Reward. 2,000 villain points. Ding. The child of fortune Ye Peng feels affection toward the host. Reward. X villain points. What the hell? He had not even interacted with the man. He felt sick just looking at him, and now Ye Peng loved him. He had done absolutely nothing to deserve this. He felt a wave of nausea, as if he had swallowed a fly. This was worse than having a cockroach crawl into his ear. Dao Tianyan, are you a useless sack of shit? Your man is lying in bed thinking about another man, and you do nothing? Deal with him. Gu Junqing raged internally. He stood frozen for a moment, and Ji Hanyan seized the opportunity. She struck with a sharp blade. Clang! She froze when Gu Junqing caught her arm. He sent the knife flying, and it landed firmly in a nearby tree. Second sister, if you do not wake up now, do not blame me for not holding back. Gu Junqing held her hand and huffed. He was a gentleman who hated taking advantage of others, but if she kept playing with such dangerous toys, he would have to teach her a lesson. Chapter 917. Unlike the danger Gu Junqing faced, things were getting much hotter for Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng. Dao Tianyan initially felt he could not follow the example of that scoundrel, Gu Junqing, intending to act like a gentleman and send Ye Peng home. However, after calling out for a long time, Ye Peng remained unconscious. This left Dao in a dilemma, with an angel and a devil fighting in his heart. One side told him not to copy Gu Junqing, a piece of human scum, and that he certainly should not take advantage of someone in such a state. The other side thought that copying Gu might not be so bad, given how carefree that scoundrel still lived. Thinking about how Gu was embracing his seventh sister at night made him itch with maddening jealousy. Besides, he was not really taking advantage of a stranger, since Ye Peng was his girlfriend. He would surely take responsibility, as he was not the type to sleep with someone and run. Dao was conflicted, but the doubt soon vanished. He realized he did not know where Ye Peng lived, and since she would not wake up, he had no choice but to take her to a hotel. He told himself he was not copying Gu, just doing what was necessary. Looking down at Ye Peng's flushed, semi-intoxicated face, he could not help but grin. Suddenly, Ye Peng clung to him like a koala, muttering about cross-dressing and Lolita styles. Seeing her delicate face and smelling her sweet fragrance, desire flared up within him. He finally made up his mind. He felt that acting shameless like Gu Junqing once in a while was not so bad. If she scolded him in the morning, he would just claim they were both too drunk to know better. He would vow to treat her well for the rest of his life, and she would surely forgive him. He had already plotted his foolproof defense for dealing with Ye Peng. Yet, he wondered what she meant by cross-dressing. He recalled Ye Peng saying she was poor, and had to live stream to make ends meet. He assumed she loved those outfits, but could not afford them, hence why she was babbling about them in her sleep. Determined to surprise her, he called his most trusted subordinate. "My king, what are your orders?" The subordinate's voice was calm, though he was surprised to receive a call so late. "Go buy me some Lolita outfits and sailor uniforms, and bring them to the Jinyuan Hotel." After hanging up, his subordinate was left in a state of bewilderment and gratitude. He was bewildered because buying such things so late implied a night of cosplaying, and he wondered why he had to be the one to buy them. He felt grateful because being trusted with such intimate errands confirmed his status as a key subordinate. After the call, Dao naturally checked them into a room. He placed Ye Peng on the bed, then went into the bathroom to shower. He did not want to leave a bad impression on his beauty. Ye Peng was still dazed when tossed onto the bed, only opening her eyes when she heard the splashing of water. "Where am I?" She held her aching head and pulled herself up, realizing from the decor that she was in a hotel. "Was I not drinking? How did I end up here? Oh no, did I get drunk and reveal my secret?" As her memory cleared, the reality of her situation hit her. "Is that Dao Tianyan in the shower? I was brought to a hotel by a man." Suddenly feeling a sharp sense of urgency, she realized the danger. It was a good thing she woke up now, or she would be engaging in intimate acts with Dao Tianyan in a few minutes, and she would certainly be on the receiving end. Damn it, get out of here. Terrified by the thought, she scrambled to head for the door. Just then, the bathroom handle turned, and the splashing water ceased. Her expression changed instantly, and she quickly threw herself back onto the bed. She wanted to see if Dao Tianyan would actually try anything. Chapter 926. Second sister, if you do not sober up, do not blame me for using force. Gu Junqing grabbed Ji Hanyan's hand and snorted. She seemed to react to the mention of force, her eyes turning cold as she struggled to break free. Though he restrained one hand, she still had another and both legs. She kicked out toward his vital points. At the same time, she poked at his eyes, every move meant to cripple him. Anyone else might have shivered at her ruthlessness. But with Gu Junqing's reactions, her moves were useless. He neutralized her attacks in a few motions. However, in blocking her strikes, he inevitably risked hurting her in return. Since he did not want to truly harm her, he had no choice but to release her. Ji Hanyan rolled away, putting distance between them. She spun around in midair and pulled a small, exquisite pistol from somewhere on her person. "Second sister, are you Doraemon? How can you pull anything out of thin air? Besides, that is not what I meant by force. If anyone is going to pull anything out, it should be me." Gu Junqing stared in shock before speaking. Ji Hanyan's drunk mind was gone, acting purely on instinct. She ignored him and pulled the trigger at his head. Gu Junqing sighed, realizing he had to take her down properly. Bang! A small caliber bullet fired straight toward his forehead. They were barely 10 meters apart, a distance that would be impossible for an ordinary person to react to. At 10 paces, a gun is fast, and at less than 10, it is both fast and accurate. But to a martial arts expert, there was still a chance to dodge, especially for a foundation establishment cultivator like Gu Junqing. He stood still, pointing his index and middle fingers forward. A cold current of air suddenly swirled around him. Just as the bullet was about to hit his face, it was blocked by an invisible barrier of energy. The bullet spun at high speed, creating sparks in the air, but it could not penetrate the wind barrier. This was a skill Gu Junqing had mastered after reaching the foundation establishment stage. He used his true energy to compress the surrounding air, creating an intense pressure differential. Ordinary bullets were now completely unable to reach him. Ji Hanyan was confident in her aim, and stood stunned by the result. In that split second, a blur appeared beside her. She had forgotten everything from the night before, remembering only walking home, after parting ways with Dao Tianyan and the others. The next thing she knew, she had just woken up. Ji Hanyan sat up, stretched her body, and habitually reached for her thigh and chest. Her expression stiffened, and she rushed to the bathroom for a full inspection. Even after searching her entire body, she could not find what she was looking for. Where did my gun and knife go? She walked out of the room, looking confused. She decided to ask Gu Junqing. He was the only one who might know, as she had returned with him. She gathered her courage and knocked on his door. Soon, there was movement inside, and the door opened just a crack to reveal Gu Junqing's pale, exhausted face. "Second sister, do you need something?" he asked, forcing a smile. Seeing him tremble and look so pale, Ji Hanyan's suspicions grew. What happened last night to make him look like this? Is he afraid of me? What did I do to him last night? Nothing, I just woke up. Did you bring me home last night? She asked with a forced, friendly smile. That is correct. Gu Junqing hesitated before nodding. Ji Hanyan was a master of reading people, and she easily saw the hesitation on his face. She felt anxious. She wondered if she had done something to him, or why else would he be so terrified? What happened after I got drunk last night? Why are you in this state? She pushed her way into his room and closed the door, her expression stern. It is nothing. Gu Junqing hesitated, but finally shook his head. But Ji Hanyan was not so easily fooled. Just as she was about to press him, she caught a scent and her expression changed drastically. She reached out and pulled back his sleeve to reveal a bleeding scar on his arm. Looking at the scar, her expression flickered with a bad premonition. She recognized it was made by the knife she usually kept on her person. Tell me, what happened last night? How did you get this scar? If you do not talk, do not think about seeing my sisters ever again. Ji Hanyan stared intensely at Gu Junqing's pale, weak, yet still handsome face, asking in a deep voice. Sigh, last night, we were walking on the road when you suddenly stopped moving. I thought something had happened to you, and just as I was about to call out, you suddenly looked at me as if I were a complete stranger. Chapter 921. Look at these bleeding scratches as proof. Second sister, you really wanted to kill me. If you truly hate me, I should just move out. Gu Junqing sat on the sofa with his head lowered, pointing to the numerous wounds on his arms. His tone was depressed, dull, and even somewhat mournful. It was as if he were sorrowful after learning some terrible truth. It was truly a pitiful and heartbreaking sight to behold. Gu Junqing, however, was secretly delighted. Hearing Ji Hanyan's question, he knew she had absolutely no memory of last night. Everything could now be fabricated by him to win her favor. With this thought in mind, Gu Junqing's voice became even more pained. Ji Hanyan could not see the expression on Gu Junqing's face, but she could hear the sorrow and grievance in his voice. Anxious, she stepped forward and pulled his head into her soft embrace. I really do not hate you. I was truly drunk last night, and had no consciousness, and I do not know what I did. Ji Hanyan said this carefully, her heart full of apology. She did not exactly have deep affection for Gu Junqing, but she certainly did not harbor the hatred he described. Ji Hanyan was filled with regret. She felt she really should not have drunk so much alcohol last night, as she had beaten Gu Junqing to such a heartbroken state. Could I have beaten him half to death last night, or humiliated him in some way? Otherwise, why would he be so sad? Seeing how extremely sad Gu Junqing seemed after their fight, Ji Hanyan was still somewhat puzzled. If you don't hate me, second sister, then do you like me? Gu Junqing felt as if he were wrapped in her fragrant scent, his nose filled with the floral and milky aroma of her body. He could not help but rub against her chest, enjoying the sensation of the soft embrace. Sensing Gu Junqing's movements, Ji Hanyan felt a tinge of regret for having impulsively pulled him into her embrace. However, seeing that his mood was no longer as depressed as before, she did not force him away. Why do I feel like I am coddling a child? Ji Hanyan thought helplessly. But thinking about how Gu Junqing was actually around the same age as her seventh sister, the strangeness she felt dissipated. Although he seemed very mature usually, he was still a teenager after all. A hint of amusement rose in her heart. I like you, I like you. Ji Hanyan coaxed Gu Junqing in the same tone she used for her younger sister. Seeing that Gu Junqing's mood had returned to normal, Ji Hanyan continued to ask about what happened last night. Well, second sister, if I didn't have some skills, I would have said goodbye to this world when you pulled out that small pistol. Listening to Gu Junqing's account, Ji Hanyan felt a lingering fear. She knew her own marksmanship, having trained in 60-round rapid-fire pistol shooting where every shot hit the bullseye. She had broken over 60 records in firearms events, a feat that could be described as unprecedented. If she had truly used a gun last night, and Gu Junqing had survived, it would certainly prove his skill and luck were excellent. What Ji Hanyan could not imagine, however, was that not only had Gu Junqing dodged her bullets, but he had also knocked her unconscious and taken liberties with her. In the end, Ji Hanyan had been too confident in her marksmanship and combat skills. It was a pity that Ji Hanyan had no memory of last night, and there were no surveillance cameras nearby. Ultimately, she could only let Gu Junqing, the sole witness, weave his own story. Then, did I injure you anywhere else? Ji Hanyan asked again, annoyed. Hearing this, Gu Junqing suddenly pulled away from her embrace, turning his head away unnaturally as if he dared not look her in the eyes. He then said with an expression that clearly showed he was lying, no, nothing else, except for my arm. Where else is there? Do not be afraid, where else were you hurt? Second sister will take responsibility. Seeing his expression, Ji Hanyan knew he was lying, so she sighed and blamed herself. Second sister, I really don't have any other injuries. Gu Junqing still acted as if it were unspeakable. Your acting is so poor, do you really think you can hide it from me? You must be hurt somewhere else. If you don't tell me, I will get angry. Ji Hanyan hummed lightly and said calmly. Not acting is the best acting, Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Last night, I was afraid that you would hurt people after getting drunk, so I tried to subdue you. After pinning your hands, I forgot that you still had your legs, and you ended up using a knee strike. Gu Junqing bowed his head lower and lower. The rest of what he meant was self-evident. Hearing this, Ji Hanyan's cherry lips parted slightly, and her expression turned blank. She pointed a trembling finger toward a certain part of Gu Junqing's body. Did I injure you there? Don't scare me. Ji Hanyan, who was usually unflappable and composed, became stuttering because of this news. Seeing Gu Junqing bowing his head in silence, Ji Hanyan became anxious. She stepped forward, pulled Gu Junqing up, and headed outside. Quick, what are you standing there for? Let's go to the hospital and see if it can be saved. I have already seen a private doctor. The doctor said the blood vessels there are blocked, and it will recover if massaged. Gu Junqing sighed. He had not yet displayed his medical skills in front of Ji Hanyan, so he began to spout nonsense at this moment. It can be saved. That's good. Then make sure to massage it properly, and if you need anything, make sure to tell second sister. Ji Hanyan breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Gu Junqing was clearly at an age where he had not yet had children, and it would be a huge sin if she had caused him to lose the ability to have any. The doctor also said it is best to have someone else help. Preferably a woman, as receiving more stimulation will help clear the blood vessels. It's fine, fifth sister can help you. If you are too embarrassed to ask, I will go talk to her, Ji Hanyan said with a look that suggested it was handled. But Sister Yuchen is on a business trip. It is said to be a very important project. Then sixth sister, Sister Painting is currently working for me in Lodu. Then seventh sister, Ji Hanyan gritted her teeth. Yuchen is playful and has not been studying, plus the school curriculum has become more difficult recently. She doesn't have time to come back. Gu Junqing blinked his eyes and said slowly. So, Ji Hanyan swallowed hard. So it can only be you, second sister. Gu Junqing looked up, his eyes filled with a hint of hope as he looked at Ji Hanyan. Chapter 922. So I'm afraid I have to ask you, second sister. Gu Junqing looked up, hope flickering in his eyes as he watched Ji Hanyan. Ji Hanyan's beautiful eyes widened in surprise. She stared at Gu Junqing in utter disbelief. Are you saying you want me to help you massage, down there? She asked again, struggling to believe she had heard him correctly. Is that not allowed? Just a moment ago, you said that if you did something, you would take responsibility. Gu Junqing blinked, realizing he couldn't force out tears even with effort, so he abandoned the attempt. He felt his acting skills still needed some refinement. I didn't mean that kind of responsibility. Besides, I've never done anything like this before. What if I accidentally hurt you even more? Ji Hanyan explained, looking flustered. It's all right. I trust you, second sister. Gu Junqing gazed at her, his eyes filled with pure trust. No. Ji Hanyan tried to refuse, but seeing the trust in his eyes, the words died in her throat. Ultimately, she was the one who had injured him. Why can't you just find a female doctor to massage you? Ji Hanyan asked, still unwilling to give in. Second sister, I am the only seedling of the Gu family. My mother's side also views me as their successor, so if I truly end up incapacitated, the consequences would be severe. Gu Junqing explained. The fewer people who know about this, the better. Let me think about it. Ji Hanyan sighed, then turned and walked out of the room. Gu Junqing watched her retreating figure, a smile slowly forming in his eyes. He had figured out Ji Hanyan's personality quite well. Although she appeared gentle, her nature was actually quite honest and straightforward. Perhaps it was her position as the second child in the orphanage that made her feel such a deep sense of responsibility. This was evident in how she treated the eighth brother, Dao Tianyan, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. Even after so much time apart, she still loved to fuss over his affairs. At the banquet, she noticed Dao Tianyan's feelings for Ye Peng and began playing matchmaker. Otherwise, Gu Junqing alone wouldn't have been able to convince Dao Tianyan to admit that Ye Peng was his girlfriend. As for why someone so responsible would become an agent and assassin, Gu Junqing guessed she felt a sense of belonging to the country. It was much like Spider-Man, guided by the belief that with great power comes great responsibility. Second sister, what will you choose for your disabled brother-in-law? Gu Junqing chuckled, his eyes gradually darkening. As for whether he felt guilty about exploiting her sense of responsibility, that was a joke. He never concerned himself with such things. If something was beneficial to him, he would do whatever it took. After leaving the room, Ji Hanyan couldn't help but sigh. She really wanted to refuse his request outright. However, that heavy sense of responsibility in her heart made her feel guilty. If she really had broken Gu Junqing, how could she face his family? She wouldn't even know how to answer to her own sisters. They were also young to be left as widows. Still, she wouldn't believe his words completely. It would be better to call her sisters and see what they were doing. If one of them was free, she wouldn't have to do such a shameful thing. Ji Hanyan called her fifth sister, Chu Yuchen, but the phone went unanswered for a long time. Usually, Chu Yuchen was never too busy to take her calls. Had something happened? Ji Hanyan's brows furrowed slightly. Fortunately, she didn't have to wait long before Chu Yuchen called back. Hello, is that you, second sister? Yes. What were you doing? Why didn't you pick up? Ji Hanyan asked, puzzled. I was in the middle of a project discussion and left my phone in the office. Chu Yuchen's voice sounded tired, as if she were extremely busy. Where are you now? I had an urgent matter to attend to out of town, and won't be back for a couple of days. What's wrong? Did something happen? Chu Yuchen asked, sounding concerned. It's nothing. You didn't come home yesterday, so I was just worried. Ji Hanyan sighed internally. If Chu Yuchen was out of town, there was really nothing she could do. Oh, as long as everything is okay. I didn't expect things to be this urgent, but our company landed a major contract. If we can sign it, our position in the Fortune 500 will improve. Although Chu Yuchen sounded tired, Ji Hanyan could hear the excitement in her voice. Every Fortune 500 conglomerate was immense in scale. Moving up even a single step was incredibly difficult, requiring capital that could be measured in the trillions. Because of this, Ji Hanyan understood why Chu Yuchen was both so busy and so happy. Then let me congratulate you. I don't need anything, so you carry on with your work. Ji Hanyan felt happy for her, knowing how much effort Chu Yuchen had poured into her company. After a few more words of caution, she hung up the phone. On the other end, Chu Yuchen shook her head, feeling a bit confused. She had thought her sister missed her, but the call ended abruptly. Puzzled, she shook her head and returned to the conference room. She looked at the woman sitting across from her, someone whose appearance was unremarkable, but whose capabilities were outstanding. Hello, Director Xiang. Let's continue. Director Chu, please, call me Xiang Shui. I'm just a minor figure. The woman, Xiang Shui, shook her head with a smile. A minor figure? I doubt that. Why would Gu Junqing entrust such an important matter to someone minor? Chu Yuchen laughed softly. It is only because the young master trusts me. The woman named Xiang Shui shook her head. Well, if I may digress, what does Gu Junqing mean to you? Chu Yuchen paused, asking curiously. Xiang Shui froze upon hearing this, a flash of memory surfacing in her mind. It was during the most desperate moment of her life that Gu Junqing had personally led her to the person she hated most, allowing her to finish him off with her own hands. Since then, she had sworn to follow him for the rest of her life. He is a god. The world exists for him, and the stars shine because of him. Xiang Shui regained her composure and spoke with reverence. Chu Yuchen stared at the woman across from her, rendered speechless. Had she walked into the wrong scene? Was Gu Junqing the leader of some evil cult? She muttered to herself. Xiang Shui knew her words sounded strange, but others wouldn't understand her inner thoughts. Gu Junqing had pulled her out of the filthy quagmire, shining like the sun and stars, and so she was willing to lay down her life for his ideals. Fine, fine. Let's get back to business. Chu Yuchen shook her head, watching Xiang Shui, who became all mystical whenever Gu Junqing was mentioned. Although she didn't know the specifics, she could feel the absolute reverence Xiang Shui, and indeed all the Gu family members she knew, felt for Gu Junqing. They truly viewed him as a god and an object of worship. But this also made her feel incredibly proud, as Gu Junqing was her man too. Chapter 923. Seeing that Chu Yuchen was truly at a loss, Ji Hanyan dialed her seventh sister's number directly. She did not call her sixth sister, Mu Painting, because she knew Mu was currently in Loda working for Gu Junqing. Hello, Yushin? Yes, it is me. Second sister, why are you calling me all of a sudden? Don't tell me fifth sister is coming to catch me again? Shi Yushin's voice, as clear and melodic as a bird, came through the line. However, it was tinged with clear apprehension. Because of the incident where Shi Yushin and Mu Painting had secretly recorded the bed scene between her and Gu Junqing, Chu Yuchen was furious. Mu Painting had used the excuse of working for Gu Junqing to hide out in Luodu. Meanwhile, Shi Yushin had no choice but to hide at school. Chu Yuchen did not have time to go to Luodu, but she certainly had the time to go to the school and catch Shi Yushin. However, every time Chu Yuchen went, she ended up coming up empty-handed. This was naturally due to Ji Hanyan tipping her off multiple times. No, your fifth sister is away on a business trip. She probably will not be back for a few days, so do you have time to come home to stay? Ji Hanyan said helplessly. She pampered this youngest sister the most. Now that she actually needed her help, it was truly a case of raising troops for 1,000 days to use them for one moment. How could I possibly have time to come back? That bastard Gu Junqing does not go to class himself, so he threw all his homework onto me. Final exams are coming up soon, and I am already struggling to catch up. I have even lost weight recently. Hearing this, Ji Hanyan knew without even looking that Shi Yushin must be making a crying face on the other end of the line. It seemed like Shi Yushin would not be able to come back either. Why did the timing have to be just perfect? The fifth sister was on a business trip, the sixth was out of town, and the seventh could not return. As a result, she was the only one left in the house, and she was the only one available to give Gu Junqing a massage. Ji Hanyan lowered her phone, her face looking ashen. Second sister, are you missing me? I miss you too. Do you miss me? Hello? Second sister, are you listening? Hello? Shi Yushin chattered on for a while. Getting no response from Ji Hanyan, she could not help but pout. On the other side, Dao Tianyan opened his eyes from his slumber. Waking up, Dao Tianyan felt a soft, delicate warmth in his arms. Ye Peng was still curled up in his embrace, asleep. Last night, Ye Peng had been worried that Dao Tianyan would make a move and discover his secret as a man, so he had fought hard to stay awake. However, he was already in a drunken state, and by the second half of the night, he could not hold on any longer and fell asleep. He ended up sleeping until nearly noon. For some reason, Dao Tianyan felt a hint of warmth and a touch of regret. How good it would be if, upon waking up in the morning, the person he was holding was not Ye Peng, but one of his sisters. As soon as this thought crossed his mind, he felt an even deeper resentment toward Gu Junqing. Because that bastard Gu Junqing could spend his nights holding the seventh sister. Just thinking about how the seventh sister had already been penetrated by Gu Junqing, and might even have been molded into Gu Junqing's shape by now, made Dao Tianyan feel as if his heart was being seared by flames. His jealousy and rage toward Gu Junqing surged like a rushing river. However, now was not the time to completely finish off Gu Junqing. He still had to let his sisters see Gu Junqing's ugly face for themselves. Just as Dao Tianyan was fantasizing in his heart about how to torture Gu Junqing and tear him to shreds, Ye Peng stretched and woke up from his deep sleep. Noticing that Ye Peng had woken up, Dao Tianyan looked at him with an extremely doting gaze. Although they had not crossed that line as husband and wife yet, the fact that they were sleeping in the same bed meant that day would not be far off. That was such a good sleep. A voice with a slight masculine, magnetic quality suddenly rang out in the air. Dao Tianyan was taken aback when he heard it. Why had his voice suddenly sounded like a man's? Ye Peng suddenly felt the temperature behind him, and the memories of last night flooded back into his mind. He realized quickly that he had forgotten to change his voice. Resourceful Ye Peng quickly pretended to have phlegm caught in his throat. He coughed a few times, then changed back to his crisp, sweet female voice. Looking at his surroundings, he asked with feigned confusion, "Where am I?" So it was just phlegm caught in his throat. Dao Tianyan was relieved when he heard this. He told himself that Ye Peng's voice was clearly a crisp, pleasant female tone, so how could it have been the voice of that grown man just now? He quickly patted Ye Peng on the shoulder. "We are in a hotel. Have you forgotten what happened last night?" Dao Tianyan was always gentle and patient with his woman. He spoke with a smile on his face. Ye Peng had been very drunk last night, so he did not suspect anything. He simply assumed that Ye Peng's resistance toward him last night was just his instinctual behavior. "We are in a hotel." Ye Peng pretended to be shocked. He clutched his clothes nervously and said, "Then, last night, did we do anything? Do you think we did anything?" Looking at Ye Peng's expression, Dao Tianyan found him extremely cute and teased him deliberately. Ye Peng truly brought him a sense of romance, offering solace to a heart that had suffered setback after setback and was immersed in depression and loss. "I have not done that kind of thing before. I only know that my body does not hurt right now. But even if we did, we did. If it is you, brother Tianyan, then I am willing." Ye Peng sounded aggrieved at first, then expressed his feelings. He was truly a master at manipulating a man's heart. Just as Ye Peng expected, Dao Tianyan could not handle this side of him at all. His love for Ye Peng increased by a few points. He leaned forward and kissed Ye Peng deeply on the forehead. Ding. Detected that the great destiny holder Dao Tianyan's favorability toward the host has increased by 10. It is now 60. 80 is a fanatic believer. Rewarding host with 600 points for cross-dressing. Host task status. Prince falls in love with Cinderella. Task brief. Brush shoulders with the noble rich young master, and make him fall deeply in love with you. Have a beautiful, melodramatic romance with him. P.S. Even if he discovers you are a man, you must make him unable to let you go. Task failure penalty. Thrown into a group of hungry, hulking men. Binding object. Dao Tianyan. Binding object favorability. 60. Host completion status. 75%. Ye Peng's peerless cross-dressing system sent many messages to him in a timely manner after Dao Tianyan's favorability increased. Seeing this information made Ye Peng ecstatic. He was getting closer and closer to making Dao Tianyan his obedient lapdog. However, for some reason, the image of another man popped up in his heart, a man whose looks were simply perfect. Thinking of Gu Junqing made Ye Peng feel a sudden, unwanted emotion toward Dao Tianyan. Damn it, am I really about to start liking men? As Ye Peng began to sink into his thoughts, he suddenly felt a jolt of alarm and woke up again, quickly stopping those dangerous thoughts in his brain. Chapter 925. The live stream was ablaze with colorful virtual gifts, drawing in fans from all across the platform. Another whale in the goddess's stream, Xiaoqiang typed. "I was watching another stream, but these fireworks blew me over here," added Rain Night Slasher. "Damn, how much money is he spending?" Seeing the name above, I can't help but open my browser. Midnight Butcher joked. "That's enough Duyan for me today." After sending a few more Heart of the Universe gifts to Ye Peng, Dao Tianyan stopped, satisfied with the sudden surge in popularity. He would have preferred to just transfer the money directly to Ye Peng since the platform took a significant cut. However, Ye Peng had explained that their contract ensured most of the gift money went to him, so Dao Tianyan dropped the issue. Besides, he wasn't exactly short on cash. As Dao Tianyan gazed fondly at the live stream, a phone call interrupted him. His expression shifted instantly upon seeing the caller ID. "Eighth brother, are you awake yet?" Gu Junqing's voice flowed through the speaker, as magnetic and warm as a sunny day, a voice that could easily captivate any woman. Only Dao Tianyan knew just how detestable the man actually was. "Whether I'm awake or not is none of your business," Dao Tianyan snapped. "Hey, can't a brother-in-law check in on you?" Gu Junqing sighed with mock melancholy. "Cut the crap and get to the point." Dao Tianyan didn't offer him any kindness. He would never acknowledge Gu Junqing as his brother-in-law, because his 7 sisters belonged only to him. Tisk, tisk. "You're so heartless, eighth brother. If I hadn't introduced Ye Mingming to you, would you have your little sweetheart now?" Gu Junqing chuckled. "Oh right. Didn't you both head into a hotel last night? How was that night of passion?" Gu Junqing knew perfectly well that nothing had actually happened. If Ye Peng, disguised as a woman, had deceived Dao Tianyan like that, Dao Tianyan wouldn't have let him off easily. He didn't believe these protagonists of destiny were saints. Between Ye Peng, the cross-dressing protagonist, and Dao Tianyan, Gu Junqing clearly valued Dao Tianyan more. "Are you having me followed?" Dao Tianyan's eyes narrowed dangerously. Come now, eighth brother, that is a boring accusation, Gu Junqing replied calmly. I don't know who sent people to load it to investigate all my movements either. We are just even. Dao Tianyan let out a cold snort, but said nothing further. He and Gu Junqing had been locked in a silent struggle for a long time. They hadn't fully torn off their masks and started an all-out war primarily because of his sisters. If he killed Gu Junqing, his sisters would know, and they would blame him. Furthermore, if Gu Junqing died now, his seventh sister would forever romanticize his memory. That would make winning her heart nearly impossible. Gu Junqing, as much as I hate you, I have to thank you for Ye Mingming, Dao Tianyan said with a sarcastic tone. She was incredibly tender last night, a truly heavenly experience. I can't even describe the pleasure. Are you asking because you regret introducing her to me? Or did you never expect her to abandon the hero who saved her and choose me instead? He was certain Gu Junqing regretted his decision, which was why he had called. He assumed Gu Junqing was seething with jealousy, just as Dao Tianyan felt whenever Gu Junqing was with his seventh sister. He was determined to use this moment to vent his pent-up grievances. Then I must be incredibly jealous. Gu Junqing couldn't help but chuckle. He realized Ye Peng's techniques in seducing men were truly masterful, if he could hook even Dao Tianyan. I know you're hurting, Gu Junqing. Don't hide it, just talk to me, Dao Tianyan mocked. I'll try to show less affection if it makes you feel better. Oh yes, I am devastated. My heart is burning with rage, Gu Junqing sighed. I suppose I'll have to vent my frustrations by spending the night talking with Yushin and the others. You, stay away from my seventh sister. When I finally settle the score, I will ensure you don't even have a corpse left. Your whole family will die. Dao Tianyan lost his cool completely. The thought of Gu Junqing with his seventh sister fueled his rage, and he swore to destroy the man. Ding. The host has agitated Dao Tianyan, causing his mental state to shift. Protagonist luck plundered 200 points. Host villain luck plus 200 points. Seeing the reaction he wanted, Gu Junqing decided he was done. I'm done wasting my breath on you, but I have one piece of news. I have recorded this entire conversation. Recorded? Why would you do that? Dao Tianyan was stunned. I'm sending it to your second sister, of course. You know how she is. You will have to marry your little girlfriend now, because the second sister hates irresponsible men. Gu Junqing, you bastard. Dao Tianyan hung up immediately, then frantically dialed his most trusted subordinate. Find out where my second sister, Ji Hanyan, is right now. Chapter 929. Ji Hanyan strolled down the street, her expression sorrowful and tangled in thought. She had no specific destination in mind. Upon learning of her location, Dao Tianyan rushed over. He was desperate to explain his relationship with Ye Peng before Gu Junqing could drag his name through the mud. When Dao Tianyan arrived and saw Ji Hanyan wandering aimlessly, he froze in his tracks. She wore a light white dress that perfectly hugged her graceful, curvaceous figure. Her skin was as clear as jade, frost-kissed and snowy, and her lips were as enticing as a dew-drenched flower. Her breathtakingly beautiful face, however, held a hint of sorrow. Anyone could see she was struggling with something deep. Why is second sister so conflicted? Dao Tianyan wondered. Is she stressing over the relationship between Ye Peng and me? Or perhaps Ye Peng made her feel like she can't like me anymore. Maybe Gu Junqing intentionally smeared my reputation, and second sister thinks I will turn into an irresponsible man. Thoughts raced through Dao Tianyan's mind. Combining his thoughts with what Gu Junqing had told him, he concluded that she must be worried about his connection to Ye Peng. Regardless of what she was struggling with, Dao Tianyan felt one thing was certain. He knew he held a significant place in her heart. Otherwise, a woman as wise and far-sighted as his second sister would never display such a bewildered expression. Dao Tianyan felt extremely happy that his second sister valued him so much. However, he still did not know if Gu Junqing had truly slandered him in front of her. At that moment, Ji Hanyan raised her eyes, which seemed filled with autumn water, and met his gaze. The rippling waves in her eyes resembled a dreamy green pool, causing ripples to spread in Dao Tianyan's heart. Eighth brother, why are you here? She asked. Seeing Dao Tianyan, she walked over with a flash of surprise in her eyes. I just came out for a walk, and you are wandering too, second sister. Dao Tianyan rubbed the back of his head, revealing an honest smile. He still did not know what Gu Junqing had said to her, so he found it difficult to offer an explanation immediately. If he said the wrong thing, his image in her eyes would be ruined further. Oh right, eighth brother, may I ask you something? A trace of hesitation suddenly appeared on Ji Hanyan's face, as if it were difficult to say. This is it, she must be asking about me and Mingming. Dao Tianyan prepared himself, his expression becoming cautious as he strived to avoid any mistakes in the upcoming conversation. Yes, second sister, please ask, he replied with a solemn nod. If you made a mistake, but for some reason, you did not want to take responsibility, what would you do? Ji Hanyan sighed, asking with a sorrowful expression. Dao Tianyan was slightly taken aback, thinking that Ji Hanyan did not want to be too explicit, and was merely offering a subtle reminder. He wanted to explain clearly that nothing had happened between him and Ye Peng. However, he feared she would mistake his explanation for lies. The problem was that Gu Junqing had been so vague that he couldn't guess what lies had been told. If I have done something to let others down, I will take responsibility to the end, regardless of what the other person asks, he said after careful consideration. What if the other person asks you to do something excessive? Ji Hanyan's face still showed distress and hesitation, though it seemed to be fading. If the other person asks you to do something excessive, Dao Tianyan found himself confused again. Could it be that Gu Junqing slandered him, claiming he slept with Ye Peng, and now Ye Peng is demanding marriage, which he refuses. Was second sister worried that he wouldn't take responsibility for Ye Peng? This still didn't make sense to him. Dao Tianyan would never dream that Ji Hanyan was only talking about herself, and that Gu Junqing had never mentioned Dao Tianyan to her at all. As long as it was my action, even if the other person makes an excessive request, like marriage or something similar, I will do my best to fulfill it, unless it is truly impossible. I hate nothing more in this life than those who make a mistake but refuse to take responsibility. An irresponsible person is ultimately just selfish. Regardless of the matter or the person, they never consider others and only think of themselves. These people are the scum of society, Dao Tianyan said righteously after reflecting for a moment. Even if he hadn't slept with Ye Peng yet, he decided he must express his extremely responsible character. He understood his second sister, who might seem casual, but was actually extremely serious and solemn about relationships and other people. After finishing his grand speech, he expected Ji Hanyan to praise him or, at the very least, look at him with a look of approval. To his confusion, the look she gave him seemed extremely complex. She seemed to want to say something, but held back. Second sister, did I say something wrong? He asked cautiously. No, you are right, I understand now. She shook her head, feeling internally conflicted. Because Dao Tianyan was indeed correct, and she had no way to refute it. Hee, Dao Tianyan chuckled, filled with pride and joy as he watched her agree with his point of view. She must be satisfied with his words, and he had successfully passed this test. Gu Junqing, you villain, did you really think your smear campaign would make second sister believe you? Fortunately, I am clever enough to pass this test, and maybe my standing in her heart has even improved, he thought to himself. Right, second sister, although I said so much, actually Ye Ming, and I did not, he started to explain, intending to tell her that nothing had happened between him and Ye Peng. However, Ji Hanyan had no interest in listening to any more of his trivial talk. She turned and headed toward home with a melancholy mood. She left Dao Tianyan standing there, scratching his head. He couldn't understand why she still seemed upset, wondering if she was actually jealous. Since he couldn't figure it out, he gave up trying. Believing he had crushed Gu Junqing's plot, he was in an excellent mood. He even called Gu Junqing to gloat. Gu dog, you are truly clever for a lifetime, but foolish for a moment, being so confident when you fed me that news. Second sister has been coaxed by me, and not only does she have no complaints, she even praised me. You didn't hurt me, but instead helped me score some points. You are truly a great man, burning yourself to illuminate others. Please accept my bow, he said with biting sarcasm. Don't be so polite, eighth brother, it is I, your brother-in-law, who should thank you. Gu Junqing chuckled in response. Why are you thanking me? Dao Tianyan frowned slightly. Gu Junqing was not angry, but seemed very happy, which was far from what he had imagined. In his mind, Gu Junqing should have failed his plot, and be feeling depressed or jealous of the approval he gained from second sister. It is better that you do not know. Gu Junqing continued to chuckle. These laughs made Dao Tianyan break into a cold sweat, but upon closer reflection, he didn't seem to have done anything wrong. He felt more and more that Gu Junqing was just bluffing. Perhaps Gu Junqing was secretly furious that he had gained favor with Ji Hanyan. Gu Junqing, don't bluff. I know you are in pain, but don't worry, I might let you taste this feeling often in the future, he said with a fierce tone. Then I shall thank you in advance for your help, Gu Junqing replied. Damn you, Gu Junqing, you just wait, Dao Tianyan retorted. Wanting only to see Gu Junqing disappointed and falling apart, Dao Tianyan grew bored of the verbal sparring. When he didn't get the reaction he wanted, he hung up the phone and returned to his liquor to continue watching Ye Peng's live stream. Meanwhile, Gu Junqing played with his phone, let out a chuckle, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. This Dao Tianyan was truly naive. Did he really think he was the type of person to do good deeds? Second sister, with the assist from your eighth brother, the protagonist, you must have made up your mind, Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Gu Junqing did not wait long, as, after more than 10 minutes, he heard some noises outside his door. He knew the person standing outside was second sister, Ji Hanyan. She was clearly making a final struggle, pacing at the door, and the sound of her frequent footsteps revealed her extremely conflicted heart. After all, for that body part requiring massage, it would be difficult for any woman not to be moved, unless she was a woman who had cultivated the path of heartlessness and had no emotions. Or perhaps a woman of the night, who had seen everything and was bored by such things. Or a doctor who saw human bodies as no different from meat. Aside from these three types, almost no woman would fail to feel shame upon learning she had to provide massage therapy for blood circulation to a man's mysterious part. Ji Hanyan clearly did not belong to any of these three categories. Chapter 927. Gu Junqing listened to Ji Hanyan pacing hesitantly outside the door. He shifted his eyes and called out weakly, asking if anyone was there. Ji Hanyan's expression changed as she heard him. Assuming something had happened to him, she hurriedly pushed the door open and walked in. What's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Ji Hanyan moved quickly, asking anxiously as she walked. Gu Junqing looked at Ji Hanyan, who had finally agreed to enter, a flicker of admiration flashing in his eyes. Perhaps to make it more convenient to provide Gu Junqing with his massage service, Ji Hanyan had combed her long hair neatly back, tying it into a clean and sharp high ponytail. It revealed her smooth, jade-like forehead and her fair, slender neck, which reminded him of a swan's. With her high ponytail, Ji Hanyan looked elegant and quiet. Her features were delicate, soft, and generous. Her business attire tightly wrapped around her full and graceful figure. It was dignified without losing its feminine charm, revealing a mix of maturity and sexiness that was just right. At this moment, Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing with beautiful eyes filled with both worry and hesitation. This gentle, matronly version of Ji Hanyan was vastly different from the cold, assassin-like figure from last night. It was like they were two completely different people. Gu Junqing found it hard to imagine they were the same person. A high ponytail looks good, but it's certainly not as convenient as twin tails. Twin tails can be used as a steering mechanism, and one-handed control is clearly not as effective as two-handed control, Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Cough, it's nothing. I'm just a bit uncomfortable. I wanted a glass of water, but every time I stretch my legs, I end up pulling that area and it hurts. Gu Junqing coughed softly to dismiss the strange thoughts in his heart, speaking in a weak voice. Ji Hanyan's expression was full of hesitation. She remembered almost nothing from last night. However, under Gu Junqing's prompt, she vaguely recalled that after she got drunk, Gu Junqing had tried to stop her from acting wild. When she couldn't break free, she had indeed kicked him hard in that area. Other than that, her memories were blurry and unclear. And tell me honestly, if I treat you, are you sure you'll get better? Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing's weak appearance and finally made up her mind. It was mainly because there were no other women in the house right now. Moreover, Gu Junqing's injury was caused by her kick. If she didn't take responsibility, it would be her fault if he ended up ruined. It was just like what Dao Tianyan said. If you don't take responsibility for doing something wrong, how are you any different from scum? Gu Junqing stared blankly at Ji Hanyan's blushing face, his mind stunned by the enormous happiness and surprise. Even he hadn't expected the harvest this time to be so great. After she finished speaking, Ji Hanyan breathed a sigh of relief. She wasn't so nervous and hesitant because she didn't want to do that kind of thing for Gu Junqing. It was because she was considering the consequences of doing it. If she really had to massage that area for Gu Junqing, she would effectively have had extremely intimate contact with him. Yet her relationship with Gu Junqing was still stuck at that of a sister and brother-in-law. Given this relationship, Ji Hanyan was unwilling to go to that extent for Gu Junqing under any circumstances. She wasn't the kind of modern woman with independent thinking who wouldn't care even after a one-night stand. From the beginning, what Ji Hanyan was thinking about wasn't whether she needed to take responsibility for injuring someone and healing them. Instead, she was worried about whether she should take responsibility for Gu Junqing after massaging that area. That was why Ji Hanyan was so hesitant and lost. She had even reached the point of seeking other people's opinions. In this, one could say Dao Tianyan had made an indelible contribution. If you don't want to, I can help you ask someone else. Receiving no response from Gu Junqing for a long time, Ji Hanyan assumed he didn't agree and prepared to say something polite to break the awkwardness. If Gu Junqing didn't agree, she would feel a sense of relief, but she would inevitably feel a bit regretful. Because Gu Junqing was indeed a man who was worthy of her, it wouldn't be easy to find a man like this again next time. Plus, her sisters had been constantly singing his praises beside her, calling him handsome, elegant, charming, gentle, thoughtful, mature, and steady. Most importantly, they also said that Gu Junqing's length could always reach the depths of their hearts. As for how long it had to be to reach their hearts, Ji Hanyan didn't know. Cough, she didn't even know what they were rambling about. Of course, if Gu Junqing didn't agree, she wouldn't deliberately force him to. She, Ji Hanyan, hadn't dropped her standards that low. Don't want to. Second sister, no, baby. How could I not want to? Gu Junqing snapped back to reality at her words, becoming anxious for a moment, and reached out to grab Ji Hanyan's delicate hand as he got out of bed. A medical miracle? He was sighing a moment ago, and now he could jump out of bed. Ji Hanyan slightly raised an eyebrow at the sight. If she didn't realize that Gu Junqing was faking it now, she wouldn't be Ji Hanyan. A flicker of anger rose in her heart for a moment, but it quickly extinguished. She had indeed kicked Gu Junqing, that was true. Perhaps she had simply imagined the consequences of kicking him there to be too severe. Cough, isn't it a bit too frivolous to call me baby now? I'm older than you, after all. Although Ji Hanyan had forgiven Gu Junqing, she didn't want to let him take advantage of her so quickly, so she took a small step back and didn't let Gu Junqing hold her hand. Gu Junqing hadn't noticed the change in Ji Hanyan, his mind focused entirely on expressing his feelings. Frivolous? This is what I call maturity. What's wrong with baby? While others are still calling you auntie, I'll be having you call me darling. Gu Junqing muttered this to himself. However, he would never dare to say this out loud to Ji Hanyan. Chapter 928. Ji Hanyan had no idea what Gu Junqing was thinking. If she did, she would probably slap him across the face twice. Oh, how are you able to stand now? Didn't you look like you were dying just a moment ago? Ji Hanyan raised an eyebrow. She covered her rosy lips with a slender hand, feigning surprise. Gu Junqing coughed softly. Without even trying to hide his act, he skillfully flopped back onto the bed and groaned theatrically. Baby, haven't you heard that a dying man can suddenly bolt upright? If someone on death's door can sit up, why can't I stand for a moment when I am only injured? Don't call me baby. Keep calling me second sister. Ji Hanyan could not be bothered to call his bluff. She hummed softly and spoke indifferently. All right then, second sister, Gu Junqing said, sounding a bit regretful. By the way, second sister, may I ask why you suddenly made up your mind? Gu Junqing asked humbly. Even he had not expected Ji Hanyan to be such a decisive woman. Her decisiveness was so shocking that he struggled to believe it was real. He even suspected that she might be teasing him. Of course, it would not matter even if she were teasing. There is no such thing as a joke in front of Gu Junqing. Even if it is fake, he will make it real. I caused your injury, so I am naturally responsible for curing you. Ji Hanyan shook her head, her expression quite serious. However, if I am to do as you ask, I must first confirm the relationship between us. Only then can I decide how to take responsibility for you. Besides, I met Dao Tianyan today. What he said really touched me. An irresponsible person is ultimately just selfish. Regardless of the matter, or the person, they never consider others and only think of themselves. Ji Hanyan repeated Dao Tianyan's words to Gu Junqing, looking quite comforted. Gu Junqing's expression grew increasingly strange upon hearing this. What a great eighth brother he is. Your brother-in-law does not even know how to thank you. Perhaps I should just leave your body intact when the time comes. Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Dao Tianyan has truly grown up. That is why I can finally rest easy and find my own other half. Ji Hanyan thought of how Dao Tianyan looked today, feeling quite gratified. Dao Tianyan was their eighth brother among the 7 sisters. Since even he had matured so much, she felt at ease. She had traveled to so many countries and wandered for many years, witnessing so many customs and traditions. In truth, she wanted to find a harbor that could shelter her, a place where she could rely on someone. Gu Junqing was undoubtedly the best candidate right now. First, Gu Junqing was the most outstanding man around her. Furthermore, he had saved her life. Second, her feelings for Gu Junqing were the most complex. It started with cold eyes and prejudice. She felt that few men who were handsome and rich were good people, and she was certain her 5th sister had been deceived by his looks. Later, it turned into gratitude and appreciation after he saved her on the plane. In the end, without knowing when it began, a faint shadow of Gu Junqing had settled into her heart. So you think that since Dao Tianyan, one of the few surviving children from the orphanage, has grown up, you can go and find your own happiness? Second sister, I suspect you were the mother at the orphanage. Gu Junqing said sincerely. However, Ji Hanyan's expression suddenly darkened. A trace of sorrow that others would struggle to understand appeared on her face. After a moment of silence, Gu Junqing showed a hint of apology on his face. I am sorry, second sister. I did not mean to pick at your old wounds. In the fire at the orphanage, very few survived aside from the 7 sisters and Dao Tianyan. Ji Hanyan was clearly reminded of those heartbreaking memories. It is fine. It has been such a long time. A look of reminiscence appeared in Ji Hanyan's eyes, and she shook her head before continuing. You are not wrong. Among the children at the orphanage, only the eldest sister was older than me. Naturally, I had to worry more about them. Don't be sad, second sister. From now on, you sisters have me. Gu Junqing gently held Ji Hanyan's slender hand, looking as if the sisters truly had him. Ordinary people would only say you have me. Only you would say you sisters have me. It seems you are not hiding your covetous heart for us sisters at all. Upon hearing this, the sorrow in Ji Hanyan's heart dissipated slightly. She rolled her eyes at Gu Junqing. Second sister, didn't your master say it? There is a fated person for the 7 of you. I am already the boyfriend of you, Yuchen, Yushin and Paining. I suspect I am very likely that fated person. Gu Junqing blinked, his tone quite relaxed. You even know about that? A trace of surprise appeared on Ji Hanyan's face. She had never told Gu Junqing about this. However, thinking of her 7th sister, the big mouth, she felt that Yushin was the most likely one to have revealed this secret. But do not be so optimistic. I am not like my 5th sister and the others who favor you over our own. I will not help you win the hearts of the other sisters. Whether you have the ability to win over the other sisters depends entirely on yourself. Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing and said seriously, second sister, could you not tell I was teasing you? It takes immense effort just to win one of you sisters, so how could I be so greedy? Gu Junqing patted Ji Hanyan's palm soothingly. I am actually exactly that greedy. Gu Junqing appeared selfless on the surface, but muttered to himself in his heart. Oh right. We forgot to discuss the main issue. Let me ask you, are you actually hurt down there? Ji Hanyan glanced at a certain part of Gu Junqing and asked, implying something. At the same time, she stared at Gu Junqing's eyes and face like a torch, wanting to see if he was lying. It really hurts. It is still throbbing with pain. Gu Junqing nodded. Even if he were not hurt, he would have to say he was. Otherwise, what if Ji Hanyan changed her mind later? It would be hard to find such a perfect opportunity of timing and place again. Even he had not expected things to go so smoothly this time. Originally, he only wanted Dao Tianyan to help him make Ji Hanyan feel a pang of conscience, but he did not expect him to be so effective. Gu Junqing, who had originally just wanted to enjoy the service of Ji Hanyan's slender, fair hands, was completely stunned by the sudden stroke of luck. Then let me take a look. Let me see if there is a way to help you relieve it using your method. Chapter 931. Ji Hanyan looked extremely serious, not joking at all. This concern was not fake, and she genuinely wanted to help Gu Junqing recover. Since she had already agreed to be Gu Junqing's girlfriend, she would not change her mind. Even if Gu Junqing was lying about being injured, her decision remained firm. Ji Hanyan stepped forward and grabbed Gu Junqing's waistband, intent on pulling his pants down. Cough, cough. Let's not do that. Gu Junqing hurriedly grabbed his waistband to stop her, coughing in embarrassment. He knew she cared, but there was a big difference between undressing himself and being undressed by someone else. Even he could feel a bit bashful. Stop pretending. I don't mind, so why are you acting like this? Take them off and let me check your injuries. Ji Hanyan's pretty face flushed with a mix of shame and anger as she struggled with him. All right, I'll do it myself. Gu Junqing looked helpless. It was as if Ji Hanyan had let go of some restraint and was now completely comfortable with physical contact. Previously, because Gu Junqing was her sister's boyfriend, she rarely had intimate contact with him. Their conversations were mostly formal. Even when Gu Junqing tried to flirt to win her favor, opportunities were scarce. Unexpectedly, this opportunity allowed him to ascend to the heavens in one step. Gu Junqing silently thanked Dao Tianyan once again. This was partly due to the foundation he had laid earlier, leaving a great impression on Ji Hanyan. He had saved a plane full of passengers, yet chose to remain humble, even giving the credit to others. Additionally, the other sisters were very fond of Gu Junqing. They constantly praised Gu Junqing to Ji Hanyan. Moreover, even the sisters much younger than her had partners, and she saw her eighth brother, Dao Tianyan, being affectionate with others. As the second sister among the seven, she had never had a partner. No matter how she consoled herself, Ji Hanyan still felt a sense of envy. Over time, it became understandable why she was so fond of Gu Junqing and willing to become his girlfriend. Gu Junqing quickly took off his pants. When Ji Hanyan saw it, her beautiful eyes widened in shock. Her delicate hand covered her lips, which had parted in astonishment. You still say you didn't lie to me. This looks nothing like it was kicked. Ji Hanyan murmured, speechless. Cough. Actually, second sister, this is the state before it stands up. Gu Junqing chuckled, proudly raising his head. So what the fifth sister and the others said was true. Gu Junqing can really reach into their hearts. Ji Hanyan thought to herself, feeling incredulous. Second sister, you should help me with the treatment first. Gu Junqing chuckled, gently moving Ji Hanyan's hand toward the area. No. Second sister, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Dao Tianyan's eyes snapped open as he jolted awake from a nightmare, his hands grasping at empty air and his eyes damp. Phew. Thank goodness it was just a dream. Cold sweat dripped down Dao Tianyan's forehead. He felt relieved, but an inexplicable unease lingered in his heart. He felt an urgent need to call his second sister, Ji Hanyan. The phone rang for a long time before being answered. Chaotic noises could be heard in the background. Then, Ji Hanyan's voice came through, forced into a steady tone despite her panic. Tianyan, shouldn't you be with your little girlfriend? Why are you calling second sister? Her voice trembled slightly, as if she had just experienced something stimulating, but was feigning composure. Dao Tianyan didn't suspect anything, thinking she was just tired. Phew, nothing happened. I just had a nightmare, and was afraid something had happened to you. Dao Tianyan felt a sense of relief. He thought Ji Hanyan was in trouble, which was why he had the nightmare about her leaving him. Second sister is fine. Why are you still like a child, needing me to soothe you after a nightmare? Ji Hanyan chuckled. Hee. Dao Tianyan rubbed the back of his head and laughed foolishly. Ji Hanyan's voice sounded low, as if she were moved. Dao Tianyan felt happy, thinking this method was actually working. Later, I excitedly tried to hold your hand, but you shoved me away. You looked at me with such cold, unfamiliar eyes. Dao Tianyan said, sounding aggrieved. Relax, it's fine. It's just a dream. Dreams are the opposite of reality. Ji Hanyan's voice trembled, and she sounded extremely strained. There was also a splashing sound, or perhaps something else, coming through the phone. Dao Tianyan didn't suspect anything. I understand. Oh right, I remember that in the dream, your face was splashed with some strange liquid. I don't know if it was rain, but it seemed thick and wouldn't drip off. I don't remember clearly, but in the end, you just left without looking back. After Dao Tianyan finished, he waited expectantly for Ji Hanyan to comfort him. He fantasized about her moving in with him out of pity, and how their story would finally begin. My face was splashed with water? Ji Hanyan wanted to laugh when she heard this, but her recent experience made it impossible. Hey, you bastard. You actually got it on my face when he said face. The phone seemed to have been moved away from her, and these were the last, blurry words spoken by Ji Hanyan. Then, the line went dead. Dao Tianyan was left stunned. What did that last sentence mean? Was something on her face? He frantically dialed her number again. This time, the call did not go through. Dao Tianyan began calling her repeatedly, his anxiety growing with every failed attempt. Chapter 930. Dao Tianyan had called Ji Hanyan several times, but received no reply. He jumped up from his bed in a panic, and paced the room for several minutes, yet still, no word came from Ji Hanyan. This caused Dao Tianyan to grow worried about her. He considered ordering his men to track down her location. However, before he could make the call, Ji Hanyan called him back. Seeing her name, he immediately answered, firing off questions without hesitation. Second sister, what happened over there? What got on your face? Is someone with you? Nothing happened. Yushin was playing with a water gun and accidentally sprayed it on my face, so I just went to take a shower. I'm sorry, Tianyan. Ji Hanyan's voice remained steady and calm. Seventh sister is so old, yet she still plays with water guns? Dao Tianyan asked, surprised. Yes, I also think she is too childish. She claimed she wanted to relieve her childhood, but you know what seventh sister's personality is like, Tianyan. Ji Hanyan's tone sounded quite helpless regarding the matter. I'm sorry, seventh sister. I've wronged you, she said silently to herself. Seventh sister is certainly naive, lively, and cute, but her judgment of men is poor. Once you return, second sister, You must keep a close eye on her and scrutinize the man she chose. Gu Junqing is not a good person. He has ulterior motives toward my sisters, and we cannot let him have his way. Dao Tianyan remained deeply resentful that Shi Yushan had chosen Gu Junqing. He took this opportunity to drop some negative hints about Gu Junqing. He really isn't a good person, but I only just understood that now, Ji Hanyan thought silently, recalling the scene that had just occurred. Regardless, he has been chosen by your sisters, so he is your brother-in-law. You must show him respect, Ji Hanyan said sternly. Although she kept criticizing Gu Junqing in her mind, she was actually standing on his side. The plural sisters carried significant weight, but Dao Tianyan did not catch the implication. He only knew that the seventh sister had been with Gu Junqing. He did not know that his sixth and fifth sisters, whom he hadn't seen for days, had also been shaped by Gu Junqing. Dao Tianyan grew anxious at this and said, "Second sister, you cannot be blinded by his looks. Some people have a human face but the heart of a beast. He may look good, but he is a monster on the inside." Ji Hanyan frowned. "Dao Tianyan, have you forgotten about the gathering? I want harmony between you, not for you to disparage each other behind your backs." "Yes, second sister, I understand." Dao Tianyan had no choice but to give up, feeling both suppressed and wronged. He truly did not understand why his seventh, sixth, and fifth sisters all sided with Gu Junqing, and now even his second sister was scolding him for Gu Junqing's sake. Was it just because he was handsome? Did his sisters not know about the things Gu Junqing had done? In truth, Dao Tianyan did not actually know what evil things Gu Junqing had done. He just had a strange intuition. It told him that Gu Junqing was definitely not a good person, and through his gradual interactions and observations, he became even more convinced of this point. He had spent a significant amount of money and manpower investigating Gu Junqing, trying to uncover what despicable acts Gu Junqing had committed. Yet the more he investigated, the cleaner Gu Junqing appeared, almost as if he were a model youth of the new era. This was precisely why he grew increasingly wary of Gu Junqing. He did not believe that someone like Gu Junqing, with such a high-ranking background, could be an inherently good person. This simply meant that the team behind Gu Junqing must have heavily packaged him, while scrubbing away all his flaws. They had crafted him into a nearly perfect human being. He felt more and more that Gu Junqing was someone with a kind face, but a dark heart, and if he could just show his sisters that dark side, then his sisters would surely leave him. Dao Tianyan clenched his fists, a look of determination in his eyes. He would definitely rescue his beloved sisters from Gu Junqing's clutches. "All right, since there is nothing else, I will hang up. I am going to wash my face." After lecturing Dao Tianyan, Ji Hanyan spoke calmly. "Okay, second sister." After saying goodbye, Ji Hanyan hung up the phone. She pressed it against her chest in a praying posture, took a deep breath, and walked out of the bathroom. "Since you've finished your call, second sister, you can focus on massaging me now, right?" Gu Junqing watched as Ji Hanyan emerged from the bathroom, blinking his eyes. It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned it. As soon as he did, Ji Hanyan was filled with rage and strode forward to punch Gu Junqing in the chest several times. She even wanted to kick him afterward. "Massage your mother." Even the usually gentle, intelligent, and considerate Ji Hanyan could not help but curse. This indirectly showed just how excessive Gu Junqing had been. However, with a simple outburst of vulgarity and the ultimate satisfaction, Ji Hanyan felt much more comfortable after letting it out. Gu Junqing quickly pretended to be injured by her blows, clutching his chest and lying back on the bed. Ji Hanyan only looked at him with a cold sneer. Heaven knows how long she had been washing her face in the bathroom, to the point where her skin was almost raw. She had been surprised by Gu Junqing's endowment just a moment ago, but she was not a 17 or 18-year-old girl anymore. Although she felt a bit shy and clumsy performing this vascular clearing massage for a man for the first time, she was still meticulous and serious about following Gu Junqing's instructions for his treatment. After all, she was afraid that Gu Junqing might suffer some lasting damage. Previously, she worried about Gu Junqing because she feared her sisters would blame her, but now that he was her boyfriend, it was also for the sake of her own future happiness. However, halfway through, Dao Tianyan called. She was worried that Dao Tianyan had an emergency, so she crouched down to massage Gu Junqing while talking to him. Originally, as long as Gu Junqing stayed quiet, there wouldn't have been any issues. Multitasking was a basic skill for an agent of her level, and she could easily manage both matters. She just did not expect that Gu Junqing would have such poor sportsmanship. When Dao Tianyan mentioned that she was covered in rain in his nightmare, Gu Junqing had gone and gotten the real thing all over her face. As it was her first time doing this for a man, she hadn't anticipated it and couldn't dodge in time. Thus, Ji Hanyan was truly infuriated. Chapter 934. Ding. Heroine Ji Hanyan has become the host's girlfriend. Host plunders 500 points of protagonist Dao Tianyan's luck. Plunders 500 points of heroine Ji Hanyan's luck. Host's villain luck plus 1000. Ding. Heroine Ji Hanyan's favorability toward the host has increased by 20. Current level is 75. Adoration. Reward. 20,000 villain points. Ding. Host has made a significant change to the plot. Reward. 20,000 villain points. Gu Junqing looked at the series of system notifications, realization dawning on him. He had been wondering why his favorability score with Ji Hanyan had been stuck at around 50, that stage past friends, but not quite lovers. So it was because they hadn't officially become a couple. Given Ji Hanyan's traditional values and sense of responsibility, she would only pour all her love into a boyfriend. Once she finally made up her mind, her favorability toward him skyrocketed. Ji Hanyan, however, was extremely furious. She had been on the phone with Dao Tianyan, chatting away with her brother, while Gu Junqing had humiliated her with such a lewd act. She felt degraded. Did he think she was some kind of streetwalker? The thought made her angrier, and she wanted to beat him to a pulp. Gu Junqing's actions might have given him a sense of conquest, but for the woman on the receiving end, it was nothing but an insult. She felt a strange, lingering sense of guilt toward Dao Tianyan, as if she had deeply betrayed him. I thought you said you were blocked up. Didn't the path seem quite clear just a moment ago? Ji Hanyan glared at him, laughing out of pure rage. Gu Junqing knew she was livid and didn't want to provoke her further. He quickly offered comfort. That was only thanks to your treatment, second sister. Our families owe their future to your help. Get out. Ji Hanyan pointed furiously at the door. But second sister, this is my room. Gu Junqing blinked. Fine, then I will get out. She took a deep breath, the curves of her chest rising and falling visibly as she turned her head away, pouting in frustration. It seemed she was truly enraged. For once, Gu Junqing felt a pang of guilt. Ji Hanyan had genuinely tried to help him, to take responsibility. She had endured long hours of mental anguish, made preparations, and even sought the opinion of her brother, Dao Tianyan, before deciding to become his girlfriend. And here he was upsetting her. Was he being too much? He realized he had slipped up. They had only just established a relationship, and acting this way was a bit much for her to handle. Second sister, don't leave. I didn't mean to make you go. Gu Junqing reached for her hand and began to apologize. He had been impulsive, mostly triggered by seeing her on the phone with Dao Tianyan. He wanted to experience the thrill of, well, let's call it a brother-in-law stimulation. He was terrified she might actually leave, which would be a huge loss. A beauty like you becoming my girlfriend makes me want to be close to you, that's all. Gu Junqing explained with a soft laugh. Don't think that just because you're flattering me, I'll let you get away with such bad behavior. Ji Hanyan's resolve faltered, a faint blush spreading across her flawless face. She was older than him, but she had very little experience in matters of the heart. She couldn't resist his sweet talk for long. Flattery. Second sister, I only speak the truth. I am a man of integrity, I don't lie, and I only do honest work. That's why the others like me, because I'm real. Gu Junqing declared with feigned sincerity. All right, you win. Ji Hanyan pursed her lips, unable to suppress a smile. Gu Junqing breathed a sigh of relief. He had survived this crisis, though he wondered if she would hold it against him later that their first intimate encounter was like that. With other heroines, he usually took things step by step, holding hands, confirming the relationship, kissing, and physical contact. Only after they had spent enough time together would he dare to try more adventurous things. This time, he had jumped straight to the end. It was no wonder she was so angry. If he hadn't patched things up, he might have suffered a penalty to his favorability rating. That would have been a terrible loss for a moment of pleasure. Wait, I forgot to ask. After I kicked you last night, what happened? How did you bring me back? Ji Hanyan asked suddenly, sounding puzzled. Logically, if she had blacked out from the alcohol and entered her operative state, she wondered how Gu Junqing had escaped her assault. She had seen him fight when he rescued the plane, but while he was strong, she didn't think he could best her. She didn't know he was hiding his true strength. He always destroyed or hid records of his past fights. She knew he could fight, but not to what extent. She was proud of her own record, taking down dozens of mercenaries alone and infiltrating military bases. She truly couldn't understand how he had survived. What happened after? Gu Junqing thought to himself, scrambling for an excuse. He hadn't prepared a story for this part. Since their relationship had progressed this far, he decided there was no need to hide his strength anymore. Well, I unleashed my hidden skills and managed to subdue you. Otherwise, given your state, I have no idea what might have happened. Gu Junqing sighed, feigning a look of lingering fear. Chapter 935. Dao Tianyan was completely unaware that his beloved second sister was currently massaging Gu Junqing, the man he hated most. That did not prevent him from feeling a deep sense of melancholy caused by the backlash of his surging fate. He did not know why he felt so frustrated, as if something were blocking his chest. He felt as though something significant was happening right at that moment. Yet he had no idea what it could be. What is wrong with me? Is it because I haven't been with a woman for too long, causing my blood to boil and leading me toward a deviation in my cultivation? Feeling his erratic internal energy, Dao Tianyan quickly channeled his cultivation technique, the 9 heavens Yang divine art. He cycled his energy through several major meridians to smooth them out, eventually stabilizing the chaotic qi within him. Even so, his mood remained unsettled, causing his expression to darken considerably. He had practiced the 9 heavens Yang divine art since he was young, taught to him by his irreverent master. This technique was incredibly powerful. It utilized abundant internal energy to open acupuncture points, clear meridians, and forge pure yang energy, resulting in astonishing power. However, it had one fatal flaw. The yang energy was too potent, making it extremely difficult to maintain a balance between yin and yang. Yin-yang balance was the foundation of vitality, where both sides maintained coordination through constant transformation. It existed as a harmonious state, neither excessive nor deficient. An imbalance made one highly susceptible to cultivation deviation. This was especially true for his condition of excessive yang and insufficient yin. Therefore, he needed to find women to balance his physical state. Currently in the Xia kingdom, Aside from the legal issues regarding such professions, his sisters prevented him from being as reckless as he was abroad. Back when he ruled the Azura Association in Eagle Country, he had no fear of such deviations. Since returning, he was restrained at every turn. Furthermore, if others found out about his activities, that bastard Gu Junqing would never pass up a chance to smear his reputation in front of his 7 sisters. Ming, you need to give yourself to me soon. I cannot hold out much longer, Dao Tianyan muttered to himself while watching Yapeng, who was still live streaming on his phone. His master had actually taught him a solution. His 7 sisters had been taught a technique called the 9 Heavens Yin Divine Art. It was the perfect match for his 9 Heavens Yang Divine Art, as the 2 techniques complemented and promoted each other. If he could conquer his 7 sisters and engage in dual cultivation with them, his technique would reach completion, and his strength would increase significantly. He could even achieve the body of perfection, attaining true yin-yang balance and eliminating the worry of erratic energy caused by imbalance. However, this dual cultivation required mutual affection, total trust, and complete devotion from both parties. Therefore, Dao Tianyan could not force his sisters. In his heart, they were the most important people, and he was unwilling to coerce them. With this in mind, Dao Tianyan began gifting Yapeng again. For now, he could only rely on Yapeng to alleviate the issues with his cultivation. If he could sleep with Yapeng, it would buy him time to stabilize his cultivation and allow him to pursue his sisters. Of course, if Yapeng remained unwilling, he would have to find women elsewhere. Perhaps if he were discreet enough, Gu Junqing would not discover it. However, he would avoid looking elsewhere unless absolutely necessary, as he could not afford the risk of losing his sisters. Thank you again for the gifts, Brother Azura King. Thank you, Brother Azura King. Yapeng smiled sweetly at the camera. He felt his decision to target Dao Tianyan was brilliant. Since pretending to be his girlfriend and spending the night with him, he had received over 1 million in gifts within a few days. Every time he streamed, the man showered him with gifts and provided a massive boost in popularity. His online following was growing rapidly. He was also gaining more and more cross-dressing points. What a total sucker, Yapeng thought to himself. Once he accumulated enough points to upgrade his peerless cross-dressing system and cured his body, he would kick Dao Tianyan to the curb. Dao Tianyan was too dangerous. It was one thing to deal with him online, but meeting in person made it far too easy for his true gender to be exposed. If anyone discovered he was cross-dressing, his streaming career would be over. Thank you for the jet, hubby. Ma. After harvesting another wave of fan gifts, Yapeng ended the stream and opened a chat with Dao Tianyan, placing a call with a coquettish tone. Don't mention it. However, you should really stop streaming. I've seen many people in your chat talking about disturbing things. My girlfriend doesn't need to expose herself like that. I will take care of you, Dao Tianyan said with a possessive tone. He was infuriated thinking about those losers talking about his girlfriend in such lewd ways. If I don't stream, are you going to provide the cross-dressing points? Yapeng muttered internally. Although Dao Tianyan provided many points, streaming added to the total, and every bit counted toward the system upgrade. Hubby, it is fine. They are just joking, and most of them are very pure and just like me. Knowing Dao Tianyan's chauvinism was flaring up, Yapeng quickly placated him. He knew Gu Junqing's background was not simple, otherwise, the greasy uncle in the villa district wouldn't have been so respectful toward him. Since Dao Tianyan was able to fight fiercely with Gu Junqing at the banquet without falling behind, his own status must be extraordinary as well. Therefore, he only dared to coax him, fearing that Dao Tianyan would act like a domineering CEO from a novel and cut off his streaming career. My hubby is the best, my idol. I sing only for you, and my body is only for you to take. To win more favor, Yapeng sang a song specifically for him. Then you must be ready for me to take you. Baby, I am loving you more and more. Hearing this, Dao Tianyan dispelled his worries. He was mostly afraid Yapeng would meet bad people, but he felt he could protect him. Under the protection of the Azura King, he did not believe anyone could steal his girlfriend, apart from that piece of trash, Gu Junqing. Of course, I am ready for you, hubby. Yapeng's tone was coy and shy, though he actually felt nauseated. He could only tell himself that he was doing this solely to restore his body. Dao Tianyan breathed a sigh of relief. His cultivation technique had finally reached a point of stability. For a moment, both of them felt a sense of satisfaction. Chapter 932. So, you were the one who stopped me? Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing with suspicion, clearly not believing him. She had joined the Xia Kingdom's assassin organization when she was just 18 or 19. Over the next 4 or 5 years, her outstanding completion of numerous difficult missions propelled her to 3rd place on the World Assassin ranking list. She was capable of small-scale movement. However, Ji Hanyan only wanted to test Gu Junqing's skills, not actually fight him to the death. Ji Hanyan watched the faint smile still lingering on Gu Junqing's calm face. A wave of anger welled up within her, and she snorted, questioning if he was looking down on her with that attitude. Not holding back, Ji Hanyan bent her knees and leaned forward, coiling her body like a drawn bow. With a sudden release, her figure moved like lightning, swift and blurred as if she were a flicker of light. In just a few breaths, she had flashed behind Gu Junqing. An ordinary person would never have been able to react to such speed. Seeing that Gu Junqing did not turn around, Ji Hanyan assumed he had failed to react in time. She transformed her hand into a palm strike, aiming directly at Gu Junqing's ear. The ear is a major human weak point, where a strike could cause tinnitus, dizziness and loss of resistance, or even a ruptured eardrum, intense pain, shock, or death. However, she suddenly thought about what would happen if she accidentally broke Gu Junqing. So, she restrained her strength and changed her trajectory, swiftly chopping toward the back of his neck instead. The biting wind from her palm was enough to make anyone's hair stand on end. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. As Ji Hanyan felt her palm strike the back of Gu Junqing's neck, the tension in her heart relaxed slightly. She felt that with this strike, Gu Junqing would have to faint instantly. In doing so, she would have finally taken revenge for the humiliation he caused her earlier. If you can't even react to this, why are you pretending to be an expert, she thought, finding it amusing. She only wanted to test his reaction speed, as even a novice martial artist might have reacted. She never expected him to be so sluggish. Smack. Fearing she might kill him, she controlled her force. Her hand left an afterimage in the air, as it struck his neck before her body flipped in midair, and landed some distance away. After landing, she waited in place, expecting to see him collapse. But what she saw made her jaw drop. Gu Junqing simply rubbed the back of his neck where he had been struck, then turned to look at her with a smile. Second sister, you really don't have to hold back. This level of strength isn't even enough to scratch an itch. Gu Junqing said this with a laugh. Ji Hanyan's expression changed, and she snorted. A bastard is a bastard. Not only is his face thick, but his neck is just as tough. After she spoke, her figure flashed again as she charged at Gu Junqing. She now knew that his strength was not simple. Her previous strike could not be withstood even by those so-called masters, like black belt taekwondo practitioners. Yet, it seemed to have caused no damage to Gu Junqing at all. This time, Ji Hanyan did not plan on a sneak attack, and engaged him in close quarters combat directly. Having realized he was not as fragile as he appeared, she stopped holding back. Every move she made was aimed at his fatal weaknesses, such as his waist, abdomen, kidneys, and eyes. Although Gu Junqing blocked every one of her moves, he inwardly marveled. Such natural-born killing techniques were truly impressive. A conscious Ji Hanyan was far more dangerous than she was when she lost consciousness. These refined combat skills meant that even the slightest misstep could result in a fatal blow. If his strength were not worlds apart from hers, he would never have been able to withstand such a dense and dangerous series of attacks. Chapter 933. The spacious third-floor lounge echoed with the rhythmic sounds of combat. They had been sparring for over 10 minutes, though it was more of a one-sided assault from Ji Hanyan. Gu Junqing remained entirely on the defensive against her strikes. While taking the blows, he was carefully studying her offensive style. He discovered that by controlling her muscle contractions and skeletal alignment, she could strike lethal points from impossible angles. She targeted his ears, eyes, jaw, solar plexus, waist, kidneys, and knee joints. This was a killing technique that approached the level of mastery. Ji Hanyan seemed born for assassination, intimately familiar with every vulnerable point on the human body. Even for Gu Junqing, this technique offered valuable insights. He rarely found himself in situations requiring direct combat. Consequently, his true combat experience was limited, consisting only of a few encounters with main characters. Most of his skills relied on the cheat code of his system. However, he could not rely on the system forever. He had to carve out his own path. Thus, training against Ji Hanyan was essential. Despite his perspective, Ji Hanyan, standing opposite him, grew increasingly frustrated. At first, she had held back, fearing she might injure him. She aimed only for points that would hurt, but cause no real damage. Yet every strike was either blocked or dodged. Gu Junqing was actually managing to parry all of her attacks. She eventually lost her temper and sought to test his true skill. However, the more she fought, the more amazed she became, as even with her full strength, she could not lay a scratch on him. I quit. Without a weapon, I cannot even break your defense. Realizing she could do nothing to him, Ji Hanyan stood in place and gestured with her hands in frustration. She rarely relied on bare-handed combat for her assassinations. Since brawling was not her specialty, she reluctantly let go of this chance to get even. Even with a weapon, you still could not break it. Gu Junqing muttered to himself. He was merely learning her lethal techniques, which did not imply he was inferior to her. Excluding physical stats, his raw combat ability was actually superior to hers. Does second sister believe me now? Gu Junqing asked with a smile. I believe you, but if you are so strong, how were you kicked in that spot by me? And how do you explain how quickly you recovered down there? Ji Hanyan glanced at his lower region, her eyes flashing with a dangerous glint. She suspected she had been deceived. During the massage, his lower self had indeed been weak, yet it regained its virility after she touched it for a few minutes. If she had truly injured him, could he have recovered that quickly? She had been too focused on ending that embarrassing situation to think about it at the time. Now, considering his master-level martial prowess, something felt off. If she was no match for him while conscious, how could she have possibly injured him while she was unconscious last night? Gu Junqing stiffened slightly, feeling helpless. As the old saying goes, one lie requires countless others to cover it up. Being such an honest boy, he struggled to conjure up enough lies to continue deceiving her. Forget it, forget it. Let us not dwell on these things anymore. Ji Hanyan finally gave in, offering a truce with a sigh of resignation. That would be for the best. Gu Junqing nodded with a smile. Oh right, second sister, I almost forgot. Before you lost consciousness last night, you mentioned a secret. You said someone was coming to the capital in a few days and told me to prepare. Gu Junqing recalled this suddenly and asked, Although she seemed sober last night, she had actually been quite drunk, leaving her memories hazy. After pondering for a moment, she realized something. It was probably that third sister will be arriving in the capital in a few days. Gu Junqing froze in absolute shock. Chapter 936. Time passed, and just like that, several days flew by. In those few days, Dao Tianyan felt his relationship with Ye Peng had become increasingly stable. The two of them flirted with each other online quite often. Dao Tianyan had not stopped trying to contact his second sister, but every time, Ji Hanyan could not chat for long, as she always seemed so busy. He really hoped that she would run into some trouble, allowing him, the Azura King, to step in and save the day. Otherwise, his relationship with his sisters always felt stuck in a weird middle ground. His sisters treated him very well, but it was just the affection they held for a younger brother. What he truly desired was the love of a romantic partner. Every time he tried to curry favor with his sisters, that bastard Gu Junqing seemed to get there first. This made Dao Tianyan feel incredibly depressed. At the same time, his jealousy and hatred toward Gu Junqing deepened. It was all his fault for stealing the sisters' attention. If it were not for Gu Junqing, his sisters would surely come to him for help whenever they had problems. Unable to kill Gu Junqing for the time being, Dao Tianyan had no choice but to shift all his focus onto Ye Peng. "Babe, how about we go out on a date?" Dao Tianyan asked, hoping to get Ye Peng to meet him in person. Ever since that night they spent lying in the hotel, he had been missing Ye Peng intensely. With the influence of his internal energy techniques, he could not wait to see that soft, beautiful face again, and hear that delicate, sweet voice of hers. Okay. Ye Peng hesitated for a moment before ultimately agreeing. As long as Dao Tianyan did not try to touch him, he was confident that no one would be able to see through his disguise. He had cross-dressed so many times and had never been discovered. Just recently, he had even shared a bed with Dao Tianyan, and the man hadn't noticed anything. Plus, spending time together offline would help him gain more favor with Dao Tianyan. Although there was a risk of his true gender being revealed, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. With that thought in mind, Ye Peng gritted his teeth and agreed. After deciding where to meet, they hung up the phone and started preparing for their date. Dao Tianyan wanted to meet Ye Peng to vent his frustration and mitigate the flaws in his cultivation technique. Ye Peng, on the other hand, wanted to milk Dao Tianyan for points. The scheming of these two protagonists had already been factored into Gu Junqing's calculations. He wanted these two protagonists to drain each other, wasting their own destiny energy in the process. Whatever luck they lost would be absorbed by Gu Junqing. Only he, Gu Junqing, would emerge as the final winner. This was a classic case of the snipe and the clam fighting, while the fisherman walked away with the prize. However, Gu Junqing currently had no time to worry about the developments between Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng. After all, he had a gorgeous beauty in his arms. Gu Junqing loosened his embrace around Ji Hanyan, ceasing his kisses for the moment. Instead, he lifted his head to look into her gentle, intellectual eyes. The two met each other's gaze, and he slowly took her slender hand in his. His other hand gently stroked and traced the smooth, satin-like skin of her cheek. He carefully studied her features, from her long, curled eyelashes and cool, phoenix-like eyes to her beautiful, straight nose. He admired her full, soft lips, delicate chin, and long, well-proportioned legs that shimmered with an alluring luster, her skin as white as pure jade. Her figure was graceful, and her presence was noble. From his height, Gu Junqing could look down from her fair, jade-like neck to see a deep cleavage that was incredibly distracting. Yet, her proud, exquisite figure and curves could not mask her elegant, aloof, and otherworldly temperament. Gu Junqing found the temptation of his second sister increasingly difficult to resist. Unable to stop himself, he lowered his head once more to peck at her bright, vibrant red lips. After that first day of kissing, their intimacy had become increasingly natural. Ji Hanyan no longer resisted Gu Junqing's touch at all. In fact, she was gradually starting to enjoy it. "Second sister, how was that?" Gu Junqing leaned in close to her ear and whispered with a smile. "It was average." Ji Hanyan tucked a stray, crystalline strand of hair behind her ear, deliberately turning her head away to hide her flushed cheeks. She felt incredibly embarrassed. She was the second sister of the seven, yet she was being toyed with by a man who had only recently come of age. Furthermore, Ji Hanyan had originally viewed Gu Junqing as a junior. This shift in their relationship and dynamic made her feel even more ashamed. However, the thought suddenly occurred to her that his kissing technique might have been practiced on other women. Her eyes narrowed as she asked, with feigned indifference, "Young Master Gu, I haven't asked you yet. How many women has this mouth of yours touched?" "4, I suppose." Gu Junqing thought for a moment before holding up 4 fingers with a look of righteous integrity. 4, that's right. The 7th sister, the 6th sister, the 5th sister, and the remaining one is you, second sister. Gu Junqing said with absolute sincerity. "Do you think I believe that?" Ji Hanyan asked with a knowing smile. "Second sister, you cannot wrong me like this. I gave my first kiss to Yushin." Gu Junqing wore the expression of someone who had been deeply wronged. Whether Ji Hanyan believed him or not, he certainly believed it himself. Women were all the same. Even if they smiled and asked about your exes, claiming they didn't mind, you would be in trouble if you actually told the truth. The 7 sisters were as close as one body, so admitting he gave his first kiss to the 7th sister, Yushin, wouldn't make Ji Hanyan jealous. But if he said it was someone else, Gu Junqing wouldn't be able to get close to her for days. Whether the lie worked or not, it was always the right move to start with a lie. As for the concept of a first kiss, Gu Junqing figured that everyone technically has a first kiss every single day. He hadn't even bragged about the fact that he had been a virgin for the last several days. I heard that the time you spent with Yushin wasn't that long ago, so you better have still been a virgin then. Ji Hanyan rolled her eyes. Was Gu Junqing trying to scam a ghost with that story? Still, she didn't want to dwell on it anymore. Perhaps she was just getting older, and she didn't place as much importance on such things as a young girl might. Ji Hanyan just asked a few questions and let it go. She felt that she rarely heard a word of truth from this bastard anyway. By the way, are you planning on going out? I've been staying at home for so many days that my body is practically rusting. Ji Hanyan stretched her body and asked Gu Junqing. Ever since the plane crash incident, the organization had given her time off. Because she didn't want to be too far away from her sisters anymore, she was basically in semi-retirement and rarely went out on missions. For someone like Ji Hanyan, who had been constantly traveling and working for years, this life felt almost too comfortable. If the second sister is inviting me, how could I possibly refuse? Gu Junqing nodded with a smile. Opportunities for a private outing like this were rare, and he would certainly make the most of it. Chapter 937. Although she knew Gu Junqing would accompany her, Ji Hanyan was very pleased once she received his confirmation. She rushed back to her room to change into an outfit for their outing before heading out with Gu Junqing. Even Gu Junqing, who was accustomed to the stunning beauty of heroines, was visibly amazed when he saw Ji Hanyan's attire. She wore a long blue dress, with the hem embedded with crystals that resembled waves, perfectly accentuating her cold and noble temperament. She rarely wore 5-centimeter silver high heels. Since Ji Hanyan was already 1.75 meters tall, her legs accounted for 110 centimeters. With the heels, her proportions became even more perfect. Her long, straight, and slender legs featured flawless lines without any excess fat, making one's heart burn at the mere sight. I put on high heels just to help you save face, Ji Hanyan said calmly, her delicate chin slightly raised as she observed Gu Junqing's scorching gaze. She was a top-tier assassin and operative, a profession that generally shunned items capable of reducing combat effectiveness. Every operation often involved life-or-death stakes. Therefore, she had to maintain her full combat capabilities at all times. In movies, female assassins wearing short skirts and 10-centimeter heels was something that never happened in reality. Unless they were planning to seduce the target, they would not do it. Otherwise, high heels were not only easy to twist an ankle in during combat, but the rhythmic clicking sound while sneaking would be a sure giveaway. She rarely wore them. She specifically chose to wear heels for Gu Junqing to dazzle him. Gu Junqing's reaction certainly made Ji Hanyan feel very pleased. Save face. Second sister, I would rather not have this face, Gu Junqing sighed suddenly. What? Is my outfit not good looking? Ji Hanyan raised an eyebrow at his words. On the contrary, your outfit is so beautiful that I am reluctant to let other men see it. I just want to hide you away and admire you by myself. Gu Junqing shook his head, his expression furrowing as if he were jealous. How did your mouth get so sweet? Ji Hanyan felt a glimmer of happiness. Women dress for those who appreciate them, and even she was no exception. Naturally, it is because after kissing you, I became tainted with your taste and became this sweet. Gu Junqing walked forward, his tall and sturdy physique engulfing her shadow as he gently lifted her chin. Hey, can you not be so disgusting? Ji Hanyan spat, casting a look of disdain at Gu Junqing. By the way, I noticed you were looking at my legs earlier. Do you men always look at legs first? She flicked her dress, revealing a stretch of fair, glowing calf, and asked with curiosity. Most men are like that, Gu Junqing said with a light laugh. And you? She asked, curious. I am different from the average man, of course. I usually look at a woman's eyes first. She had truly never encountered someone so shameless. It seemed like every word he said left him a path of retreat, allowing him to be understood while making him difficult to refute. Moreover, his roguish attitude made her want to beat him. Do you think I need your help to use a gun? Ji Hanyan took a deep breath to calm her anger before speaking calmly. Though she was in a semi-retired state, shooting was not difficult for her. She did not need Gu Junqing for that. I want to compete with you again, and this time, we compare marksmanship, she said, looking intently at Gu Junqing's face. Chapter 938. Compete against me in shooting? Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. That is right. Ji Hanyan hummed coldly. She refused to believe that while she could not match Gu Junqing in hand-to-hand combat, she could not beat him in shooting. This was for the sake of their future hierarchy, preventing her from constantly being suppressed by him. Much like when she lost to Gu Junqing last time, she felt she could never hold her head high in front of him. She struggled to even maintain her dignity as his second sister. Gu Junqing pondered for a moment. Little Gu, how about it? You are not scared, are you? Seeing Gu Junqing's thoughtful expression, Ji Hanyan asked provokingly. She was impatient to compete with him. Although she was not Gu Junqing's match in close combat, that was only because their physical capabilities were vastly different. A martial artist capable of resisting her moves with such relaxed ease would at least have to be a grandmaster. Naturally, her physical fitness could not compare to a grandmaster, a fact Ji Hanyan understood well. Whether it was speed, strength, reaction time, or durability, the gap between her and Gu Junqing was too vast. Even though she could be considered the peak of ordinary humans, she paled in comparison to Gu Junqing. When she first discovered his strength, she found it unimaginable and was filled with shock. Who in this world could step into the realm of a grandmaster before the age of 20? Yet, even with Gu Junqing's peerless talent, she was not afraid. After all, this was a shooting contest. She had never lost to anyone when it came to using firearms. Scared, Gu Junqing chuckled and shook his head. I was just thinking that we can compete. But shouldn't you place a bet, second sister? You want to bet? Very well, if you want to gamble, I accept. What do you want to bet? Ji Hanyan was surprised at first, then happily agreed. She originally thought it would be good enough to deflate Gu Junqing's arrogance, but she did not expect an unexpected bonus. As for whether she might lose, that was nearly impossible. If I lose, I will let you handle me as you please. But what if you lose, second sister? Gu Junqing's words seemed to contain a smile. Would I really lose to a child like you? Ji Hanyan tilted her chin up slightly, speaking proudly. She knew Gu Junqing seemed to be setting a trap for her, but so what? She could not possibly lose at shooting. Well, you cannot refuse to offer a wager, second sister. Fine, if I lose, I will also let you handle me as you please. But that does not include the final step. Ji Hanyan pondered for a moment before speaking calmly. Although she was confident, she added that last sentence just to be safe. Aren't you very confident, second sister? Why add that last condition? Are you afraid of losing to me? Gu Junqing raised an eyebrow upon hearing this, feeling a trace of regret in his heart. He had originally intended to use this opportunity to take possession of Ji Hanyan right then and there, but he did not expect her to be so alert as to add a restriction. However, even if he could not act on it immediately, he could still use this opportunity to advance his relationship with Ji Hanyan. That is my business. Do you agree or not? If you agree, let's start. Ji Hanyan would not fall for Gu Junqing's provocation and insisted on adding the restriction that excluded the final step. She was worried that, in the 1 in a million chance that Gu Junqing actually won, she would not only lose the shooting contest, but might also end up being shot by him. Very well, Gu Junqing agreed. He was not worried about whether Ji Hanyan would honor the bet if she lost, given her strong sense of responsibility, even feeling obligated when she accidentally injured him while unconscious. He did not think a woman with such a strong sense of responsibility would back out of her wager. Just as Gu Junqing and Ji Hanyan settled the terms of their bet, several shooting instructors nearby were already fighting over who would accompany Ji Hanyan during her practice. After all, firearms were considered dangerous items for the general public. Therefore, under normal circumstances, shooting required the accompaniment of a professional. When Ji Hanyan and Gu Junqing first walked in, many of the shooting range instructors' eyes lit up. They had never seen a woman as beautiful as her. If anyone could get close to her, it would be a dream come true. In their line of work, because they had to correct clients' postures, unavoidable physical contact occurred frequently. Sometimes, when dealing with timid female clients, it was common for them to easily wrap their arms around them from behind while firing. Even if the women refused, they could use the guise of professional instruction to make them comply. Therefore, after seeing Ji Hanyan enter, even with a handsome man standing intimately by her side, the instructors remained very excited. So what if she had a boyfriend? In the end, he would just have to watch his girlfriend get molested. As several instructors were eager to step forward, a tall, handsome coach who considered himself the best shot pushed through the crowd. The other instructors sighed upon seeing him walk out, declaring it was a lost cause. This coach was the most skilled in their shooting range, having won a championship at a large shooting competition, with a skill level comparable to a world-class athlete. Among all the shooting instructors, his technique was the best. Usually, whenever clients came to find an instructor, they sought him out. Beautiful lady, my name is Ji Hao. Are you here to experience shooting? I can serve as your instructor and teach you how to shoot. The coach, named Ji Hao, looked at Ji Hanyan's stunning and cold face with an obsequious smile. He thought to himself that he was in for a good time. Female players who came here to shoot usually enjoyed pursuing thrills. Some female clients not only pursued the thrill of firing real weapons, but would even go to offline hotels to experience the feeling of being fired upon by their coaches. Even if he could not arrange an offline experience, getting a taste of the beautiful woman's graceful figure would be nice enough. Ji Hao felt secretly pleased. Just then, he suddenly received an emotionless, cold glare, which made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, causing his thoughts and movements to stall. This gaze came from Gu Junqing. Gu Junqing glanced indifferently at the shooting instructor, an aura gradually gathering on him, though he felt a bit surprised internally. How could he, a great villain, run into a minor, throwaway villain like this while on a date with the heroine? This did not make sense, unless a piece of trash like you is qualified to teach my second sister? Who do you think you are? Following Gu Junqing's thought, a devilishly arrogant voice suddenly echoed. Everyone's gaze turned toward the entrance. Dao Tianyan appeared there, holding Ye Peng's hand, looking dominantly at the shooting instructor. Very good. Whatever he thought of, it arrived, and there were two of them. A sense of helplessness rose in Gu Junqing's heart. Chapter 939. Gu Junqing withdrew his energy as soon as he saw the two protagonists arrive. A golden light flickered in his eyes as he activated his inside ability to examine their fortune. The fortunes of Dao Tianyan and Ye Peng were currently intertwined. Dao Tianyan's fortune was significantly greater than Ye Peng's, yet it seemed to be quietly being devoured. Ye Peng's fortune acted like a parasite, feeding on Dao Tianyan's massive fortune to fuel its own growth. Gu Junqing watched this all with indifference. He intended for Ye Peng to consume, and deplete Dao Tianyan's fortune. That consumed fortune would then be transferred to him. He had already tampered with Ye Peng's system long ago. Gu Junqing shifted his gaze to Dao Tianyan, a faint smile playing on his lips. He had yet to properly thank Dao Tianyan for Ji Hanyan deciding to become his girlfriend. After Gu Junqing withdrew his energy, the shooting coach named he how suddenly felt a wave of relief. The inexplicable pressure he had just felt vanished. This confused him, leading him to think his previous inability to move was merely a hallucination. However, it made him recoil, and he cast a fearful, furtive glance at Gu Junqing. The sensation seemed to have emanated from this man, who was so handsome it made him jealous. Just as the shooting coach was about to back down, a wickedly charming voice rang out. A piece of trash like you thinks he is qualified to teach my second sister. Who do you think you are? Dao Tianyan walked over slowly, holding Ye Peng's hand. He looked at He Hao with an overbearing expression, his entire demeanor radiating a wickedly charming arrogance. He and Ye Peng were on a date and accidentally heard his second sister's voice as they passed by. He walked in and sure enough, saw her there, along with that most detestable Gu Junqing. Hello, second sister. Hello, brother Gu. Ye Peng greeted them, pretending to be a cute, obedient girl. Although Gu Junqing didn't seem interested in him, he still didn't want to miss an opportunity to utilize his feminine disguise. After finishing the shooting, he cast a proud look toward Dao Tianyan. To get intimate with this beauty, he had performed beyond his usual standards. If he could maintain this state in an actual competition, winning a world championship would not be difficult. However, his jaw dropped when he saw Dao Tianyan's shooting form. Dao Tianyan raised his pistol casually, hitting the bullseye on his first shot with ease, followed by nearly every shot landing in the 10 ring, leaving the onlookers stunned. Yet, the sudden conflict and competition between the two did not move Ji Hanyan. She only felt a wave of speechlessness in her heart. Setting aside whether she even needed anyone to teach her, given her own skills, erupting into conflict over such a trivial matter was simply too reckless. She, the person involved, hadn't even said a word yet. Tianyan's marksmanship is quite good. It looks like he has already won, Gu Junqing said with a smile as he stepped closer. It is indeed good. He must have had systematic training. Ji Hanyan nodded slightly as she watched Dao Tianyan's shooting posture. She even felt that Dao Tianyan's marksmanship was not much different from her own, so he would naturally easily defeat this so-called coach. In that case, second sister, shall we head out? We haven't finished our own wager yet, Gu Junqing suggested. Chapter 940. Second sister, perhaps we should leave. We haven't even finished our bet yet, Gu Junqing suggested to Ji Hanyan. He really did not want to watch the protagonist lecture a minor villain. He could guess the outcome with his eyes closed. It was nothing more than the protagonist showing off, slapping the villain's face, and stepping on him. Maybe they would add a follow-up scene where the villain calls his master, who also loses, and then they call the grandmaster. He had seen enough of those tropes. Furthermore, he worried that Dao Tianyan would interfere with his bet with Ji Hanyan. He had originally just wanted a private date with her. Perhaps Dao Tianyan's destiny felt the heroine's situation, bringing them together. No one could say for sure. We're leaving now? Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing with confusion. In the end, Dao Tianyan was only in this conflict because of her. She could not just run off before the competition ended. Second sister, haven't you noticed? Eighth brother is ostensibly doing this for you, but he's actually showing off for his little girlfriend. Gu Junqing smiled and pointed at Dao Tianyan, who was shooting, and Ye Peng, who was cheering him on. Every time Ye Peng called out encouragement in a delicate voice, Dao Tianyan stood even straighter. During the shooting, he would look back at Ye Peng with a sweet gaze. Their relationship is progressing rapidly. Ji Hanyan looked at their interaction and nodded with relief. This meant her decision to play matchmaker had not been a mistake. Matchmaking was a responsibility. If either party was dissatisfied, they would blame the matchmaker. There was a saying that one should not act as a middleman or matchmaker if one wanted to keep peace for 3 generations. However, Dao Tianyan was her younger brother, and the better he fared, the happier she was. Does someone else's business affect our bet? Are you saying you want to leave because you are afraid? Ji Hanyan turned her gaze to Gu Junqing and teased him with a smile. Second sister, please do not tell Dao Tianyan about us, Gu Junqing said, shaking his head helplessly as she showed no signs of wanting to leave. Why? Are you afraid because his marksmanship is excellent? Ji Hanyan raised an eyebrow. She had never seen Gu Junqing act cowardly, yet he seemed intimidated by Dao Tianyan's shooting skills. Gu Junqing shook his head with a laugh. Didn't you say you wanted me to stop clashing with him? The reason we clash is because of you. If Dao Tianyan knew you were my girlfriend, do you think he would be aiming at the target, or at my head? If you were more serious, stopped flirting with everyone, and behaved yourself, you wouldn't have so many conflicts, Ji Hanyan said, gently tapping Gu Junqing's arm in a mix of scolding and punishment. Gu Junqing thought to himself that his second sister did not understand Dao Tianyan's feelings for her. A protagonist would never let go of any man near the heroine. He also did not want to break with Dao Tianyan just yet. There was still too much luck to be harvested. Second sister, how can you say that? Am I not serious and upright? Gu Junqing spoke with righteous indignation, brushing the subject aside. Your skin is truly thick, Ji Hanyan said, pinching his cheek with delicate fingers. She inwardly admired how smooth his skin was, even better than many women's. No matter how picky one was, they could not fault his appearance, as every contour was as perfect as if carved by a knife. Look, who is the one acting improperly? You are taking advantage of me in public. Gu Junqing quickly caught her hand, not letting her pull away. What are you doing? Let go. Ji Hanyan looked anxiously toward Dao Tianyan. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw he was still shooting, and had not noticed the commotion. She was not unreasonable, and she knew if Dao Tianyan found out about her and Gu Junqing, they would surely fight. She did not want either of them to get hurt. Kiss me, and I will let go. Otherwise, I am not moving. You are impossible. Ji Hanyan felt helpless. After a moment of hesitation, she looked back to ensure Dao Tianyan was still occupied, then stood on her tiptoes to kiss Gu Junqing on the cheek. Gu Junqing let go of her hand, satisfied. However, he was still not content, so he stole a quick peck on her soft, cherry-like lips. Her lips felt cold yet incredibly soft, vibrant as a meadow in early spring, with a hint of peach fragrance. Kissing his favorite sister with her back to Dao Tianyan felt quite thrilling. You are truly a rogue. Ji Hanyan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and scolded him in a low, coquettish voice. It was fortunate that all the tourists and coaches in the shooting range were focused on Dao Tianyan. Otherwise, their beautiful and dreamy kiss might have caused quite a stir. However, everything between Gu Junqing and Ji Hanyan was witnessed by Ye Peng. He felt a complicated mix of emotions. He really was a playboy. Last time, he had not noticed them being this intimate. In such a short time, he had already managed to conquer such a beautiful woman. Jealousy filled Ye Peng's heart. Yet, he did not dare look at Gu Junqing too much, as he needed to avoid changes in his own hormones and dopamine. His body felt increasingly withered, and his body had not reacted in a long time. Even his sexual orientation was subtly changing. Ye Peng looked at Dao Tianyan again, his heart filled with complexity and hesitation. Since getting together with Dao Tianyan, they had talked about his sisters, and he knew how much Dao Tianyan valued Ji Hanyan. If he found out that Ji Hanyan was with Gu Junqing, and had been so intimate with him, he did not know how Dao Tianyan would lose his mind. Perhaps this was leverage for Gu Junqing. Ye Peng plotted secretly in his heart, wondering if he could use this to manipulate Gu Junqing. Chapter 941. Bang. As the final bullet hit the target, Dao Tianyan frowned slightly. His last shot had missed the bullseye. He had lost his focus for a split second, though he couldn't say why. It was nearly impossible for a shooter of his caliber to miss. Dao Tianyan didn't dwell on it. He took off his ear protection and goggles, turning to face the shooting coach, He Hao. He Hao had been arrogant just moments ago, but now he was practically kneeling before him. Even the onlookers who had looked down on Dao were changing their tunes. Damn, that's Coach He Hao, a national games champion, one murmured. Even he was decimated by this young man. Who is he? This is too ridiculous, another added. Even a world champion couldn't pull this off. Exactly. I just checked, and he hit the bullseye on every shot except the last one. Dao Tianyan basked in the cheers and the attention of the crowd, feeling his excitement rise. Did his second sister really value him less than Gu Junqing? This was a question he had been too afraid to ask Ji Hanyan, fearing the answer. The crowd followed Dao Tianyan's gaze and looked toward Gu Junqing. When they saw Gu Junqing's face, a wave of gasps rippled through the audience. His features were indescribably handsome, and his dark eyes were deep like the cosmos, shimmering with a brilliant, magnetic light. His physique was tall and upright, and his perfect golden ratio, combined with an air of immense nobility, left the women in the crowd breathless and dazed. So his name was Gu Junqing. He was so incredibly handsome. Was he even human? The women were practically hysterical, staring at Gu Junqing as if they were under a spell. If imagination had any physical power, Gu Junqing might have already been stripped bare by their stares. Fortunately, there weren't many women there to test out the real firearms. I knew it, Gu Junqing thought with a sense of helplessness. His charm stat was something he had always prioritized. Even the heroines who didn't care much for looks were often drawn to him at first sight. Beauty was a valid currency, after all. Human beings were always inherently biased toward beautiful things. However, having such high charm had its downsides. It attracted intense, almost fanatical followings. In the world of his previous life, minor celebrities could cause airport terminals to paralyze and force fans to spend their families' life savings just to boost their rankings. But his main mission was still to get closer to the heroines. He wouldn't do anything foolish that would jeopardize that. Just then, with Dao Tianyan calling his name, the women in the venue stared at Gu Junqing like predators. Even the usually composed Ji Hanyan couldn't sit still, whispering a jab. Young Master Gu is quite charming, she teased. I wonder if your body can handle so much attention from all these women? Enough, second sister. Now is not the time for jealousy, Gu Junqing replied with a wry smile. I told you we should have left earlier. He knew that after slapping the face of that minor villain, Dao Tianyan would be riding a wave of confidence, and would inevitably challenge him. This was the classic routine for a child of destiny. Just like in a tournament, the protagonist would steamroll the side characters, and then challenge the main antagonist at the peak of his power. Who is jealous? Ji Hanyan's face flushed slightly. How would I know? Gu Junqing laughed. I thought you were just scared and wanted to run away. Ji Hanyan lowered her gaze, feeling too guilty to meet his eyes. I don't care, Gu Junqing continued. We have to accept the challenge now. How about we change the terms of the bet, and have Dao Tianyan take your place? If I lose, I will be at your disposal. But if I defeat Dao Tianyan, you must promise me one thing. How does that sound? Chapter 942. If I lose in a moment, I am at your disposal. If I win against Dao Tianyan, you must promise me one thing. How about that? Gu Junqing pondered for a moment, looking at Ji Hanyan with a serious expression. Ji Hanyan was slightly stunned, and after a moment of thought, she agreed. She had carefully observed Dao Tianyan's shooting technique earlier, and found it excellent. Except for the last shot missing the bullseye, every other shot was stable and perfect. This shooting ability was not much different from her own. If Gu Junqing could beat Dao Tianyan, he could essentially beat her as well. Therefore, she did not think much about it, and agreed directly. In truth, she did not want Dao Tianyan and Gu Junqing to have any conflict. However, suppressing them both was clearly not a solution. Perhaps this victory, or defeat, would finally resolve the grievances between the two. Gu Junqing, don't think about acting like a coward. Dao Tianyan saw that Gu Junqing was still whispering to Ji Hanyan, their intimacy causing his heart to burn with jealousy. He had never had such intimate whispers with his second sister, so why could this guy Gu Junqing do it? Did his second sister really like Gu Junqing more than her brother, whom she loved most? Dao Tianyan felt jealous and sour at the same time. He was impatient to crush Gu Junqing in some way. He wanted his second sister to see who the more outstanding man was. Beside them, Ye Peng looked at Dao Tianyan's slightly savage face with complex emotions, feeling a bit of sympathy for him. Honestly, if he were really a woman, and without having been in contact with either of them, he might have chosen Gu Junqing too. After all, Gu Junqing's looks, charm, and family background were insurmountable chasms. Although he only approached Dao Tianyan to seduce him and gain cross-dressing points, he had gradually started to understand him after spending time together. Resilient, generous, and capable, he was also a man with immense charm. In many aspects, he was crushing the version of himself before obtaining the peerless cross-dressing system. There was one more basic point. He was quite good and generous to his women. After all, Dao Tianyan had tipped him millions on the live streaming platform. He felt complicated seeing Dao Tianyan kept in the dark by Gu Junqing and his second sister. However, this also gave him an opportunity to profit. Perhaps it was also a chance to make Gu Junqing bow down at his feet. Ye Peng's gaze swept over Gu Junqing and Dao Tianyan, his eyes showing a thoughtful look. Since you want to compete with your brother-in-law so much, eighth brother, then I will naturally fulfill your wish. After receiving confirmation from Ji Hanyan, Gu Junqing looked at the aggressive Dao Tianyan and said with a smile, "Ha, then come over, and use the same rules as the competition I had with that trash earlier." When Dao Tianyan saw Gu Junqing agree, his heart eased slightly, and he did not even care that he had been taken advantage of by Gu Junqing again. "However, if we are to compete, shouldn't we bet on something?" Gu Junqing said with a smile. "Gu Junqing, even after seeing my marksmanship earlier, you dare to make this request. I know you must have your own strength, but I am not afraid of you." Dao Tianyan narrowed his eyes, looked at Gu Junqing deeply, and said calmly, "Besides, even if you did not say it, I would have. Go ahead, what do you want to bet?" "Well, if I win, you have to get engaged and marry your little girlfriend, and I will be the witness." Gu Junqing pointed his finger at Ye Peng, a trace of a smile in his expression. Once Gu Junqing said this, everyone present was stunned. Dao Tianyan was even more confused, wondering what kind of game Gu Junqing was playing. He thought the bet would be strange, but he expected Gu Junqing to ask for something extremely excessive. He did not expect such a bizarre request. If Gu Junqing wanted to plant a spy, he could understand that. But he had already investigated the relationship between Ye Peng and Gu Junqing thoroughly, and there should be absolutely no issues between them. Was Gu Junqing planning to let him get engaged with Mingming, so that his sisters would avoid him? Or did he want to split him and Mingming up? Dao Tianyan pondered, still unable to figure out what was in Gu Junqing's mind. But no matter what, this was more beneficial than harmful to him. He didn't think too long before deciding to agree. However, he turned and saw Ye Peng's frozen smile, hesitating for a moment before asking gently, "Mingming, if I lose, are you willing to get engaged and marry me?" Actually, he was confident that Ye Peng would agree, as Ye Peng seemed to love him extremely much. Forget engagement, he felt Ye Peng would agree to marriage as well. "Damn it, are you too crazy? Why are you dragging me into this?" Ye Peng was stunned at first, and only reacted when Dao Tianyan asked hesitatingly, cursing them both in his heart. But no matter how much he cursed, it was useless, and he clearly could not refuse Dao Tianyan now. If he refused on this occasion, it would be almost impossible for him to gain cross-dressing points from Dao Tianyan again. "I am your girlfriend, so I am naturally willing to get engaged and even marry you." Ye Peng smiled stiffly. Although Dao Tianyan had known Ye Peng would agree, he felt a little relieved after receiving the affirmative answer, and was even more satisfied with Ye Peng. "Now it is your turn. If you lose, I want you to never get close to my second sister again, and in the future, you must stay 3 feet away from her." After getting Ye Peng's affirmative answer, Dao Tianyan turned to look at Gu Junqing with a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. He wanted to ensure that after this competition, Gu Junqing could never approach or harass his second sister again. "Well, although it is a bit unfair, I agree." Gu Junqing nodded as if it didn't matter. "I have already recorded our conversation. If you dare not to comply, I will let you know the consequences of lying to me." Dao Tianyan's expression showed a hint of joy, but he suppressed it so he wouldn't laugh out loud. He clenched his hands, his eyes showing a look of determination. This time, he would definitely defeat Gu Junqing completely, and make him disappear from his sister's side forever. Chapter 943. With the bet established between the two, Ye Peng cursed inwardly at how devious Gu Junqing was. Gu Junqing was the one who had set him up with Dao Tianyan just days ago. Now, he was already pushing for them to get engaged and married. If it weren't for the fact that Gu Junqing and Dao Tianyan were mortal enemies, Ye Peng would have suspected they were working together to plot against him. He had wondered if Gu Junqing discovered his secret, that he was actually a man. However, he felt confident in his system's cross-dressing disguise. Unless someone touched him directly, it was nearly impossible to tell by sight alone that he was a man in drag. That was why no one had discovered his secret for so long. Fortunately, Dao Tianyan valued his sisters, who had grown up with him, far more than this girlfriend he had only recently met. Otherwise, Ye Peng would have been worried that Dao Tianyan might intentionally lose to Gu Junqing. Since he could not understand why Gu Junqing was doing this, Ye Peng could only take things one step at a time, secretly praying for Dao Tianyan's victory. He truly did not want to marry a man. When Ji Hanyan heard Dao Tianyan's condition, that Gu Junqing could no longer approach her if he lost, her expression shifted slightly. You certainly know how to do business, setting 2 bets on one competition without fear of losing, she thought with a cold hum. She was displeased that Gu Junqing and Dao Tianyan had treated her as a betting chip without her consent. She had only just started seeing Gu Junqing, and now they were talking about breaking up after only a few days. It was absurd. If this had happened before she started dating him, she would not have cared about staying close to him. But now that she was his girlfriend, was it not excessive to forbid him from approaching her? Besides, she doubted a bet like this would actually affect Gu Junqing. However, since they had already made the wager, there was nothing she could do. It was all too childish. Ji Hanyan looked at the 2 men, both only around 20 years old, and felt a sense of amusement. She did not know, however, that both men had their own calculations. Dao Tianyan felt that if Gu Junqing lost, but still dared to approach his second sister, he would finally have an excuse to attack him, and his sisters could not blame him. Gu Junqing, on the other hand, was confident in his understanding of Dao Tianyan's psychology and behavior. Getting engaged and married to Ye Peng was not a bad thing for Dao Tianyan, it might even be a good thing, so why would he not agree? Even if Dao Tianyan did not go through with the engagement later, it was no loss to him. At most, he would just lose a bit of entertainment. As for whether he would lose, that was nearly impossible, especially since his marksmanship had reached a master level that was not inferior to Dao Tianyan or Ji Hanyan. 10 rings. As Gu Junqing fired, every shot hit the bullseye with extreme precision, just as many expected. The shooting instructors in the venue could not help but show looks of shock and dismay. Dao Tianyan's previous record of 59 hits out of 60 for 595 points was already shocking enough. Now, there was someone who had hit 60 out of 60 for a perfect 600. Was this world too magical? Or were world records being broken so casually? Gu Junqing, you are truly not simple. Dao Tianyan stared deeply at Gu Junqing, speaking with a hint of wariness. It was rare for the Azura king, who dominated the country of Eagle, to say such a thing. 8th brother, you are too kind, Gu Junqing said with a slow, gentle smile. Would you like a break? You used up some energy competing with that other person, and I would hate for you to blame me for taking advantage of your fatigue if you lose. Winning against that loser was effortless, so I do not need a rest, Dao Tianyan replied, though he remained confident despite Gu Junqing's perfect score. It seems we are currently tied. It is a pity that I failed to make you disappear from my second sister's presence. Are you that confident? Gu Junqing asked with a strange expression. Do not think that because I made a mistake before, I will make one again, Dao Tianyan retorted calmly. Hitting a perfect score is child's play for me. He was not wrong, as he could easily hit perfect scores even if he fired over 100 rounds. Then you go. I am going to kiss my girlfriend Hanyan, Gu Junqing said with a shrug. You. Dao Tianyan felt a surge of rage in his heart upon hearing Gu Junqing's words. He quickly forced himself to calm down, realizing this was definitely a psychological ploy. Do not think your words can affect me, he said. My second sister is your girlfriend. I say she is my wife. Chapter 944. You shameless villain, don't think your words can affect me. If the second sister is your girlfriend, then I can say she is my wife. Dao Tianyan sneered, looking as though he saw right through Gu Junqing's tricks. He felt Gu Junqing was surely trying to rattle him. After all, shooting requires intense focus, and a slight distraction could lead to a miss. If he let Gu Junqing's words affect him, even his shooting skills might fail him. Gu Junqing shrugged, finding it amusing that Dao Tianyan was so confident. Since I was kind enough to tell you, and you don't believe me, then there is nothing I can do. People like Dao Tianyan, with the personality of an ambitious hero, were typically suspicious and firm in their convictions. They only believed what they saw. They tended to harbor doubts about everything others said, especially coming from a rival like Gu Junqing who had stolen his sister. If it were not for the fact that his 7 sisters held such a high place in his heart, Gu Junqing would truly struggle to find any weakness in him. Don't be fooled by how much Dao Tianyan currently liked the crossdresser Ye Peng. Even though he had spent millions to tip Ye Peng, if he truly had to make a choice between that and his 7 sisters, he would likely abandon Ye Peng without hesitation for the sake of a single hair on his sisters' heads. Dao Tianyan didn't want to talk to Gu Junqing anymore, fearing his mentality might actually be affected. He walked to the shooting bench, got ready, and raised his pistol to start firing. Meanwhile, Gu Junqing walked over to Ji Hanyan. Second sister, how was it? I didn't disappoint you, did I? Gu Junqing smiled as he looked at the elegant and ethereal Ji Hanyan. Gu Junqing, you are really becoming quite something. You actually dared to use me as a bet. If you had lost, were you really planning to never approach me again? Ji Hanyan gazed at him with her autumn water eyes, shimmering and beautiful, but her tone was extremely flat and emotionless. I, Gu, have always kept my promises. My words are iron, and my actions are firm. I don't even know how to tell a lie. Unless it's a bet that violates my conscience, I will naturally honor it. Gu Junqing spoke with an air of righteousness. Oh, so if you lost, you were really planning to stay away from me? I think you can get lost right now. Ji Hanyan's tone turned cold, clearly quite angered by his words. Even though Gu Junqing had at least tied with Dao Tianyan, and his words were utter bullshit, his audacity in using such a thing as a bet made her extremely displeased. She looked at Gu Junqing as if he were a degenerate gambler who would sell his own wife to pay his debts. Gu Junqing blinked, confused by her look of betrayal. But this isn't a normal bet. How could I ever bring myself to stay away from you, second sister? You are my heart and soul. I would never abide by a bet that goes against my conscience, even if I have to lose all my dignity. Gu Junqing looked into her eyes, speaking with deep affection. Bah, you are the only person who could make breaking a promise sound so noble. Ji Hanyan looked at him with feigned disdain. Given her personality and the nature of her work, she despised people who broke their word more than anything. Yet, in reality, she did not feel repulsion towards his words. Could this be what they call double standards and favoritism? Ji Hanyan sighed internally. She never expected she would one day favor a man so much that she would break her own principles for him. As if thinking of something, a faint blush crept onto her face. It is not that I am going back on my word, second sister. Even my heart beats for you. How could I ever distance myself from you because of a measly bet? Gu Junqing shook his head, speaking with deep emotion. Though it also beats for other heroines, he added silently. Seeing that Ji Hanyan still didn't seem to believe him, Gu Junqing sighed. Then I suppose I have no choice but to let you feel my affection properly. He pulled Ji Hanyan toward a chair on the side of the hall, sat down himself, and then settled her onto his lap, facing away from him. Even through his pants, he could still feel her warm, firm, and supple body. The faint scent of her perfume lingered at the tip of his nose. What are you doing? Let me down. Sitting on his lap, Ji Hanyan squirmed uncomfortably, trying to break free. She dared not move too much for fear of attracting the attention of the crowd watching Dao Tianyan. If two people were squirming in the corner like this, it would be impossible for people not to misunderstand. Second sister, can you feel the burning affection from my heart? Gu Junqing's voice was hoarse, quiet yet clearly transmitted to her ears. Ji Hanyan seemed to sense something, her exquisite face stiffening slightly. If she hadn't seen his assets for herself before, she would have truly thought someone was pressing a gun barrel against her back and hips. Although they were not the same thing, both felt equally menacing. Fine, let me up, or we will have no face left if people see us. Besides, Dao Tianyan is still competing. Don't you want to see if he loses to you? Ji Hanyan said, feeling shy and annoyed. Don't worry, everyone is watching the competition. No one is paying attention to us, and I won't do anything else. I just want to hold you, Gu Junqing explained with a smile. Who knows if you'll suddenly decide to do something. Feeling the threat behind her growing more pronounced, and the heat radiating through 2 layers of clothing, Ji Hanyan panicked slightly. Gu Junqing's strength was far greater than hers. She didn't know what method he used, but not only could she not break free, she couldn't even use her bone dislocation techniques to escape his hold. What exactly do you want to do? After trying several methods and failing, Ji Hanyan could only ask helplessly. I don't want to do anything. You were the one who wouldn't believe in my deep affection, second sister. Gu Junqing said with a smile. Yeah, if I don't believe in your deep affection, it's about to erupt, isn't it? Ji Hanyan sighed helplessly. Chapter 945. In the corner of the not-so-spacious shooting range, a handsome man was holding a woman with a breathtakingly beautiful, graceful figure, like an elegant lily. All right, you can put me down now. I have already felt your love, Ji Hanyan said, feeling rather helpless. She was genuinely afraid of Gu Junqing's nagging and pestering. There is a saying that a determined woman fears a pestering man, and the ancients did not lie. Seeing her helpless look, Gu Junqing muttered to himself. Beneath even the coldest exterior lies a hot and soft heart, let alone a gentle big sister like Ji Hanyan. Ding, the host caused the protagonist Ye Peng's mentality to be damaged, gaining 1000 villain points. Ye Peng's protagonist luck -50, host's villain luck +50. Ding, the host caused the protagonist Ye Peng's mentality to collapse, gaining 2000 villain points. Ye Peng's protagonist luck -100, host's villain luck +100. Gu Junqing was feeling the softness of Ji Hanyan's body when the system suddenly gave him a prompt. Gu Junqing glanced slightly and saw Ye Peng in his peripheral vision. He discovered that he was indeed secretly watching his intimacy with Ji Hanyan, and he could see a sense of jealous rage in his eyes. His spiritual sense could interfere with others' correct perception of the outside world, which was why others on the field did not notice his intimacy with Ji Hanyan. However, this effect was not significant for Ye Peng. The reason is that the willpower and spirit of every child of fortune are extraordinary. Intervening in their perception requires extremely vast spiritual sense. Does this cross-dresser have a habit of peeping? Gu Junqing shook his head slightly, muttered to himself, and stopped paying attention to Ye Peng. His goal was just to influence Dao Tianyan. However, these villain points from Ye Peng were just the icing on the cake. Ye Peng had been watching Gu Junking's movements ever since he stepped down after shooting a perfect score. He felt indignant because every time, it was Gu Junqing who ruined his plans. Initially, he wanted to keep a good distance from Dao Tianyan so their relationship wouldn't get too close. After all, a goddess is a goddess because she keeps a distance from others. But he didn't expect that at the last party, because of Gu Junking's instigation, he had inexplicably become Dao Tianyan's girlfriend. And now, with the competition between Gu Junqing and Dao Tianyan, their relationship might take another step forward. This time, it was an engagement. Even though his body had some problems now, mentally, he was still a pure man, a tough guy. The disgust of being engaged or married to another man was self-evident. A draw, let it be a draw. Ye Peng looked at Dao Tianyan with hopeful eyes, placing all his hopes on him. If Dao Tianyan also scored 60 perfect shots, he wouldn't have to get engaged to him. Then Ye Peng looked at Gu Junqing. When he saw him acting so intimate with Dao Tianyan's second sister in the corner, his eyes almost popped out. Were these two treating this place like their home? They had already kissed once, and now they were hugging. Ye Peng looked at Gu Junqing with jealousy. It was rare to find a mature, gentle beauty with an alluring figure like Ji Hanyan. Yet, the two were behaving so intimately now. Why did Gu Junqing get to enjoy the body of such a peerless beauty so comfortably? However, as he watched, Ye Peng's mentality underwent a subtle change. He was still jealous, but the object of his jealousy began to shift subtly. Ye Peng's gaze gradually moved from Ji Hanyan to Gu Junqing. He even felt a bit jealous of Ji Hanyan, wishing it were him sitting on Gu Junking's lap. Smack. Thinking this, Ye Peng woke up suddenly and slapped himself hard on the face with his right hand. The fine skin, which had been made up, turned a bright red. You could tell the force of that slap. This sound also attracted the attention of the people around him. Beauty, why did you slap yourself for no reason? Are you not feeling well? Do you need help? A middle-aged uncle next to him looked at Ye Peng in surprise. I'm fine, Ye Peng replied coldly, then turned his gaze to Dao Tianyan. But it was hard to calm down, and he couldn't cover his pounding heart. Ye Peng's expression was ugly. He really shouldn't have watched Gu Junqing so much. The secretion of his male hormones and dopamine had been gradually decreasing for unknown reasons. This had caused him to have the illusion of what it would be like if he were sitting on Gu Junking's lap, acting sweet. Ye Peng hurriedly shifted his gaze back to Dao Tianyan, forcing himself to calm down. His main goal now was still Dao Tianyan. Eighth brother's girlfriend noticed us just now. You should let go, Ji Hanyan said with a mix of shyness and anger. Being a top agent and assassin, she was extremely sensitive to other people's gazes. She naturally noticed that Ye Peng had been peeping at her and Gu Junqing just now. Even if she sees us, it doesn't matter, Gu Junqing replied with a light laugh. Doesn't matter. What if she tells eighth brother about our relationship? Ji Hanyan frowned slightly at the thought of that consequence. She had learned the background of why Dao Tianyan and Gu Junqing were at such odds from her sisters. It was because Gu Junqing had been intimate with her seventh sister, Shi Yushin. Dao Tianyan basically only knew about the relationship between Gu Junqing and the seventh sister. If he found out that Gu Junqing was also with her other sisters, the two of them might fight to the death immediately. Don't worry, she won't tell Dao Tianyan, Gu Junqing said confidently in a low voice. Although Ye Peng and Dao Tianyan seemed close, they both had their own agendas and were not on the same path. After all, they were both protagonists, and when one protagonist meets another who also possesses luck, a situation similar to raising poisonous insects would occur. Ha! How do you know she won't say anything? Do you have some connection with her? Ji Hanyan's eyebrows furrowed, and her voice became serious. After becoming Gu Junking's girlfriend, she rarely used a lecturing tone with him. Little Gu, let me tell you, although Dao Tianyan is a bit reckless in personality, Ye Mingming is his girlfriend after all. You shouldn't covet a friend's wife. And Ye Mingming is practically your sister-in-law. You must not do anything out of line to her. Second sister, am I that kind of person in your heart? Gu Junking's eyes flickered, appearing somewhat aggrieved. He couldn't tell Ji Hanyan that Ye Peng was actually a man for now, because the relationship between Ji Hanyan and Dao Tianyan hadn't broken yet, and she still shouldered the responsibility of taking care of her brother. If she knew, she would definitely tell Dao Tianyan. Then, his plan to use Ye Peng to farm points from Dao Tianyan would have to be shelved. Although I know you wouldn't do that, you should understand the appeal you have to women based on your looks. Therefore, you should minimize contact with Tianyan's girlfriend. Ji Hanyan's voice softened as she spoke. After agreeing to be Gu Junking's girlfriend, Ji Hanyan subconsciously reined in her tendencies as a senior before him. Perhaps it was because she had spent years educating her few younger sisters, who didn't understand anything. She still had a habitual attitude of nagging and preaching about things that were obviously wrong. Even though she knew that Gu Junqing was unrestrained, he shouldn't be the type to seduce a sister-in-law. She still couldn't help but lecture him. Oh, is second sister complimenting me on being handsome? Gu Junqing replied with a light laugh. Ji Hanyan was speechless for a moment. She felt that Gu Junqing was truly a piece of clay that couldn't be molded. She was clearly educating him to follow male morality, but how did it turn into her complimenting him on his looks? Second sister, since you praised me for being handsome, I have to reward you. Come, give me a kiss. What are you doing, When Gu Junqing and Ji Hanyan were playfully teasing each other, Dao Tianyan's shots reached the final 10 bullets. He had no idea that while he was concentrating on shooting, his second sister was actually laughing and talking with Gu Junqing. If Dao Tianyan knew, he would probably vomit blood from frustration. I wonder if second sister and Ming Ming are watching me now. They must be fascinated by my handsome shooting posture, he thought confidently. Unexpectedly, Gu Junqing's shooting technique was also this good. Logically speaking, even if a rich kid had practiced specifically, it shouldn't be possible to do this well. Dao Tianyan remained suspicious about why Gu Junqing's shooting technique was so good. His own shooting ability was honed in a rain of bullets. Gu Junqing clearly couldn't have experienced such a situation. Dao Tianyan still felt some regret, because this competition between him and Gu Junqing could only end in a draw. Should I deliberately miss a shot so I can get engaged to Ming Ming? She already promised me. During his shooting break, Dao Tianyan thought about this with plenty of capacity to spare. But the moment he thought about losing to Gu Junqing, his greatest rival, he didn't want to throw the match. Even if it ended in a draw, he didn't consider himself inferior to Gu Junqing. Dao Tianyan focused his mind on shooting again. He only needed 10 more bullets to achieve the same perfect score as Gu Junqing. When he competed with that shooting coach named He Hao earlier, he felt his focus had relaxed a bit. Otherwise, his last shot wouldn't have missed the bullseye. So this time, he used all his attention to shoot the last 10 rounds. Smack. Slurp. Just then, the sound of kissing drifted into Dao Tianyan's ears. Chapter 946. Smack. Slurp. As Dao Tianyan continued shooting, the sound of kissing suddenly filled his ears, accompanied by the distinct wet sounds of lips and tongues entwining. Dao Tianyan found it slightly amusing. He wondered which couple was making out so intensely that he could hear them clearly. For some reason, however, a wave of unease washed over him, the same sensation he felt during his competition against He Hao. The anxiety surged again, and his hand gripping the gun trembled slightly. Bang! 10 rings. Dao Tianyan exhaled, relieved by the announcement. Although his hand had shaken and the bullet shifted slightly, it still landed in the bullseye. He turned around immediately, determined to find the source of his agitation. In his heart, the only thing that could truly unsettle him was his sister's safety. Dao Tianyan scanned the crowd with a sharp gaze, but his second sister was missing from her previous spot. He grew anxious and began looking around frantically. Fortunately, his eyes finally caught sight of Ji Hanyan in a corner. Crowds obscured his view, leaving him able to see only her fair, flawless face. What's wrong with second sister? He wondered. He noticed a faint, alluring flush lingering on her delicate, alabaster cheeks. Her gaze, usually as clear as the moon, seemed unfocused, and her peach blossom eyes shimmered with a hint of romantic longing. It looked as if she were watching him, but her eyes were hazy and distracted. Could it be that she's dazzled by how handsome I look while shooting? Dao Tianyan pondered for a moment, and the possibility brought a surge of joy. Otherwise, why would she look so love-struck? It must be his relaxed, confident, and dashing shooting stance that had captured her heart. Feeling satisfied with this conclusion, he turned back to the target to prepare for the next shot. He only needed a few more to tie with Gu Junqing. Even if he couldn't beat him, merely tying would be enough. Since meeting Gu Junqing, he had never once gained an advantage over him. Perhaps this draw would be the signal for his counterattack. However, as he turned back, that tender, honeyed sound of kissing returned to his ears, making him increasingly irritated. Damn it, what is wrong with this couple? Can't they go home to do that, he thought. Usually, he wasn't someone who would let such distractions throw off his rhythm. But for some reason, these sounds made him incredibly restless and anxious. Is it because the woman's voice sounds a bit like second sister? He wondered, feeling troubled. He couldn't figure it out and decided to stop thinking about it. He was running out of time, and the final bullets were critical, leaving no room for distraction. Bang! 10 rings. Bang! 10 rings. Dao Tianyan hit the bullseye with several consecutive shots. With only one shot left, he suddenly heard a gasp from the couple after their kissing. The woman's voice made his expression change drastically as he fired his final shot. How did that sound so much like his second sister? Bang! 0 rings. He didn't care about the miss. He dropped all his gear, pushed through the crowd, and sprinted toward his sister's direction. What a shame, he couldn't keep his focus on that last shot. Exactly, otherwise he would have had a perfect score just like that handsome guy earlier. Why does he keep missing the last shot? He did the same thing competing against Kochi. It seems this young man has great skill, but a weak mental game. By the way, where did that handsome guy who got the perfect score go? I was watching him, where did he disappear to? The surrounding crowd buzzed with voices of regret, but Dao Tianyan didn't care about any of that. He had to know if that kissing sound came from his sister. The thought of his sister kissing someone else, while he competed, especially the person he hated most, made his eyes turn red. His palms trembled uncontrollably. His arms grew weak as he pushed through the crowd. He was terrified that what he would see would destroy him. He pushed through the final layer of people blocking his view of Ji Hanyan. Dao Tianyan's racing heart gradually settled. Ji Hanyan was sitting upright and composed on her chair, while Gu Junqing was seated 2 spots away. Neither of them showed any signs of having just been intimate. Tianyan, why did you miss that last shot? I thought you were going for a perfect score, she said. Noticing Dao Tianyan looking at her as if he were trying to catch her in the act, Ji Hanyan inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. She maintained a perfect facade, looking genuinely disappointed by his mistake. That's right, 8th brother. You need to work on your mental fortitude. How can you always have issues with the final shot? Gu Junqing teased, his expression perfectly serious. I was distracted by something just now. I kept hearing the sounds of a man and woman kissing, and it sounded a bit like second sister. As soon as I heard it, I lost my focus. Dao Tianyan didn't even bother acknowledging Gu Junqing. He kept his eyes locked on Ji Hanyan's face, searching for any inconsistency. Kissing? My voice? I didn't hear anything. Tianyan, are you hallucinating? I've been sitting here watching you shoot the whole time, Ji Hanyan said, looking confused. Eighth brother, you were perfect for the first few dozen shots, but missed the last one. And now you're making up excuses about being distracted by others? I think you're just eager to marry your girlfriend, Gu Junqing said, rubbing his chin as if he had seen through Dao Tianyan's thoughts. Dao Tianyan just stared at Ji Hanyan and Gu Junqing, his eyes flickering, and fell silent. Brother Dao, what happened? Just then, Ye Peng, sensing the awkward atmosphere, interjected. Nothing. By the way, did you hear the sound of a man and woman kissing just now? Dao Tianyan turned to look at Ye Peng, his eyes flickering. As the question hung in the air, the eyes of the other three focused on Ye Peng, waiting for his answer. Ye Peng's heart hammered against his ribs, but he forced a soft, bewildered smile, feigning complete innocence. I didn't hear anything, Brother Dao. Maybe it was just the acoustics of the range playing tricks on you? You've been under so much pressure to perform today, it's likely just exhaustion. The lie flowed effortlessly from his lips, masking the truth he held close. As he spoke, Ji Hanyan's posture relaxed ever so slightly, a fleeting look of approval crossing her face, before she schooled her expression into indifference. Gu Junqing, meanwhile, remained unbothered, his amusement simmering beneath a calm, detached exterior. Dao Tianyan scanned Ye Peng's face, searching for a tremor or a shift in the eyes, but found only sincerity. Disappointed and increasingly unsure of his own senses, he let out a frustrated sigh. The heavy suspicion that had clouded the moment began to dissipate, leaving behind only the lingering awkwardness of his own erratic behavior. Seeing that he would find no validation for his suspicions, he decided to cut the session short. Chapter 948. Ji Hanyan had originally come out today just to grow closer to Gu Junqing. She wanted to experience what it was like for a couple to spend time together. After all, the time they had spent together so far had been quite rushed and unexpected. It felt as if he were born to be with his sisters. All right then, second sister, I will leave with Ming Ming first. Seeing that Ji Hanyan seemed to have something to attend to, Dao Tianyan had no choice but to let her stay, and pulled Ye Peng away to say goodbye. Goodbye, second sister. Ye Peng first looked at Ji Hanyan, then turned his gaze to Gu Junqing. After a moment of hesitation, he said generously, goodbye, brother Gu. What brother? Just call him a bastard. Dao Tianyan said with dissatisfaction. He wanted to use a harsher word, but in front of his sister, he restrained himself. Indeed, do not call me brother. I cannot bear it. Gu Junqing waved his hand. If Ye Peng were a girl, it would be fine, and he would let him call him whatever he wanted. However, for a cross-dressing master like Ye Peng to call him brother in a sweet, girlish voice, he really could not accept it. Let us go. Seeing that Ji Hanyan was busy, Dao Tianyan did not insist further and hurriedly pulled Ye Peng away. He did not want Ye Peng to spend too much time with Gu Junqing. He feared Ye Peng would be captivated by Gu Junqing's face. We cannot do that. It is better if I call him Brother Gu or Brother Junqing. After all, he helped me once. Brother Tianyan, just let me call him that. Ye Peng said this while being pulled away by Dao Tianyan, acting cute and explaining the situation. Gu Junqing's mouth twitched slightly. He finally understood why the peerless cross-dressing system had chosen Ye Peng. Ye Peng's good luck was one factor, but another part was that Ye Peng's acting as a green tea girl was vivid and filled with the scent of green tea. Now that they are gone, second sister, the matter with Dao Tianyan is over. Should we discuss our matter now? Since I won against Dao Tianyan, do you not have to fulfill our bet? Gu Junqing turned to look at Ji Hanyan with a smile. Ji Hanyan rolled her beautiful eyes slightly, feeling a bit nervous in her heart. Why did this guy look so malicious? What do you want to do? Ji Hanyan hesitated for a moment and asked vigilantly. Chapter 950. A gentle moonlight sprinkled a hazy veil over the quiet sky, illuminating a silent, deserted path. It cast its glow directly upon Gu Junqing and Ji Hanyan. What do I want? Gu Junqing looked up, pretending to ponder. Ji Hanyan felt a sense of unease, her eyes narrowing with a warning. I'll have you know we made a pact of 3 chapters. You cannot do that kind of thing. What kind of thing is that? Gu Junqing rubbed his chin, staring at Ji Hanyan's jade-white, curvaceous figure with a mischievous smile. Seeing this, Ji Hanyan narrowed her beautiful eyes, glancing dangerously at a certain part of Gu Junqing. Do you think people don't know what you're thinking? Cough. Second sister must be misunderstanding. Would I, Gu, ever be such a base person? Gu Junqing said, acting righteous. Little Gu, you're only around 20. Your body is still developing, so you should do less of that stuff. Ji Hanyan lifted her exquisite eyelids, looking at him with earnest advice. It was like a gentle older sister warning a teenager not to overexert himself. Whether I'm developing well or not, don't you know that, second sister? Gu Junqing laughed suggestively. There isn't a single healthy thought in your brain. Fine, just tell me what you want. Ji Hanyan rolled her eyes at him slightly. I want second sister to be my insider in the future. Gu Junqing mused for a moment before saying it with a smile. An insider? Ji Hanyan paused. She had prepared herself for Gu Junqing to make some lewd request, but she hadn't expected this. What kind of insider? She asked, surprised. Naturally, an insider among you 7 sisters, Gu Junqing explained. We agreed that I wouldn't help you. Winning the hearts of my other sisters is something you have to do yourself. Ji Hanyan frowned and said it seriously. Of course I have to rely on myself, but you need to put in some effort too. If third sister and fourth sister come back, you must put in a good word for me, Gu Junqing said with a smile. He had realized that Ji Hanyan held extremely high status and prestige in the hearts of the fifth, sixth, and seventh sisters. Whether it was the lively, innocent seventh sister, Shi Yushan, the cold and wise sixth sister, Mu Peining, or the haughty and beautiful fifth sister, Chu Yechen, they were all obedient to their second sister, even showing a sense of adoration. He reckoned the third and fourth sisters would be no different. If he could get Ji Hanyan's help, taking the other two might not be so difficult. Besides, times are different now. Previously, you didn't know me, but having spent so much time together, you should have a good understanding of me. Am I not a good man worth entrusting? Although I believe I'm a good man, I'm not necessarily going to be able to take down so many of your sisters. Gu Junqing blinked, looking quite pleased with himself. Without realizing it, he had already taken down 4 of the 7 sisters. Thinking of those arduous days, he felt a bit nostalgic. He had no idea how many offspring he had scattered around. You really know how to praise yourself. And saying you want to take down all of her sisters in front of their sister, isn't that a bit excessive? Ji Hanyan scolded him on the surface, but inwardly, she found it amusing. She wasn't stupid. Gu Junqing's desire to take down all 7 sisters was already obvious. And her 5th, 6th, and 7th sisters had already been slept with by this dog of a man. If she didn't know his intentions, Naive wouldn't even begin to describe her. However, the sisters had been close since childhood, and as they grew older, they supported one another. They had even joked when they were little about either not marrying at all or marrying the same man. So, they didn't mind having the same man. But that man had to be someone who stood tall and was worth entrusting. Countless men had pursued them, but not one had walked into their hearts, let alone been worth introducing to their sisters. She still remembered the first time she heard Gu Junqing's name. It was by chance while chatting with her 5th sister. At the time, she was traveling between countries, assassinating crisis causing individuals, living life on the edge. Even with her extraordinary abilities, she faced death at any moment. Crisis, loneliness, coldness. But for the sake of her ideals and responsibilities, she had no intention of retiring. Until one day, chatting with Chu Yechen, she unexpectedly heard a man's name, and when discussing him, her 5th sister's tone was filled with joy and sweetness. This made her curious, and the idea of returning sprouted in her heart. She wanted to see the man her 5th sister spoke of. She was truly curious about what kind of man could capture a beauty like her sister. Later, from Chu Yechen, she found out he was a rich second-generation heir from a good family. That instinctively made her feel disgusted. She had seen 10,000 rich kids, but those who didn't rely on their parents' shade and had their own capability were rare. The seed of the idea in her heart broke through the shell, and she decided to return. And when she first met Gu Junqing, she thought her 5th sister must have been mesmerized by his looks. She was just about to earnestly advise her sister to turn back and not be bewitched by his appearance. When the plane crashed, Gu Junqing had saved a plane full of people in an extremely difficult environment. Afterward, Gu Junqing even gave all the credit to her. She hadn't fully retired then, as the organization knew how difficult it would be to find another top agent like her. So, her application to move behind the scenes had been repeatedly denied. But after the crash, the organization decided to grant her many privileges. From then on, whether she wanted to take a mission or not was entirely up to her. She hadn't told anyone about this, keeping it all to herself, but her gratitude toward Gu Junqing never wavered. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had any objections to Gu Junqing's involvement with several of her sisters. Later contact gave her a general understanding of Gu Junqing. Lustful, stingy, unfaithful, unserious. He had all the common flaws of men, but he wasn't annoying. At that time, she thought she must have been influenced by his face. But even so, she always felt that the Gu Junqing she knew wasn't the whole of him. He was like a mystery. Whoever knew him saw a different side, as if he wore a mask for everyone. Perhaps it was an occupational hazard, but at first, she pursued wanting to understand a man completely. After all, when a special agent goes on a mission, the first step is to analyze every detail of the target, or they wouldn't even know how they died. But after the blush-inducing late-night chats with her sisters, and learning that Gu Junqing also possessed strong martial arts skills, she gradually let go. If she didn't understand, so be it. As long as he was a man of responsibility and ability, who could handle several women without being weak, that was enough. Second sister, what are you thinking about? Gu Junqing noticed Ji Hanyan lost in thought, and waved his hand in front of her beautiful eyes, asking curiously. I wasn't thinking of anything. Ji Hanyan snapped back, a faint, imperceptible blush rising on her jade-white cheeks. You wouldn't be thinking of something lewd, would you? Gu Junqing found it amusing. She had just told him not to think about such things, yet here she was doing it herself. Humph, you think everyone is like you. Ji Hanyan spat. Second sister, you still haven't told me what you think. Look, good men like me aren't easy to find in society these days. If third sister and fourth sister end up with some abusive man, or a phoenix man, then it's you, the older sister, being irresponsible. Gu Junqing urged her earnestly. Don't talk nonsense. Ji Hanyan tapped Gu Junqing's chest to punish him for his loose talk. But I can promise you, though I won't help you too much. If third sister and fourth sister don't like you, then there's nothing I can do. As long as I have your attitude, second sister, I think things won't be that difficult. Gu Junqing stepped forward, one arm wrapping around Ji Hanyan's willow-slim waist, the other hand stroking her delicate, fair face. His deep, affectionate eyes mirrored her magnificent features. I've already agreed. What else do you want to do? Ji Hanyan looked at Gu Junqing vigilantly, one hand pressing against his approaching, broad chest. That was just the bet. Now I want to get close to my girlfriend. What's wrong with that? Gu Junqing playfully tilted up Ji Hanyan's beautiful face and accurately kissed her gorgeous red lips. So that's why he didn't ask me to do anything lewd. He just thought since I'm his girlfriend, I surely wouldn't refuse him some affection. Ji Hanyan suddenly realized, and just as she was about to say something, her lips were blocked by Gu Junqing. To be continued. Hope you liked today's video. Join the community by subscribing and dropping a like. I'll be back with another update as soon as possible. See you then.